Jess, what's your pick then?
I actually spoke to Jack about this, and I don't know if he agrees fully with me or not, but I said that even though BDS is down a member, and let's say they become a little bit more loose, they're in the acceptance stage of this, grief period, that they could just have BIOS run around. I think the 4 remaining players are that good that if DZ plays the way they played in their previous series, that BDS still crippled is better than them.
Interesting.
Which is a very big statement to make, I know, but just seeing that last series, if you just take that last series from DZ, I do still think, no? What do you think?
First is like, the coin is right. You don't know.
I've got a little bit of a hot take here.
Okay, let's hear it.
Potential slight hot take. So, DZ should have the improvement necessary. They've got these big brains. They've got Mint. They've got BC on the coaching staff. They've got Canadian.
100%.
They should be able to have the improvement in themselves to beat BDS with a coach. They should be able to have the improvement themselves to beat BDS with a coach.
What if they don't?
If they don't beat BDS with a coach, I'll buy them the plane ticket home myself.
Oh
my
gosh. I just was shook by that
whatever this is, going towards the DZ plane ticket.
Fresh just said that on camera. I know. I was like, I'm sweating now.
Simple. They should be able to beat them. Doesn't matter who they are. They're playing with a coach who hasn't played the game in 19 months.
Well, I mean, with the map
map ban phase in effect right now.
Coastline.
Makes sense. Run around, shoot.
The reason this is the reason that is a really good pick from BDS. This is not a map we see from them almost ever. No. But if you wanted a map where you could get away with a ratty,
throw everything out the window.
Absolutely, just play your default, which Coastline doesn't really have a default, but if you wanted to run around run and gun, Coastline is it. And unfortunately, with DZ picking Villa, that's the complete opposite of freedom there.
BDS also traditionally for a long time didn't like Villa. They have brought it into their map pool. A
little bit, yeah.
But they traditionally for the first probably year and a half of this roster, because they've been together a long time, bear in mind, and that's why the news about BDS is probably so big. This roster's been together a long time. But for the first year and a half, they just perma-banned Villa. They did not want anything to do with it. I'm not surprised DZ want to go there, especially with the fact that they're playing with BIOS.
And we have our decider up now. Also, taking a live look at the play area, BIOS must be very tall.
I was just going to make
Am I wrong? Yeah.
I mean, Jackie, you are a tall
I'm
lady.
6'2". I'm like 188 centimeters,
For you to call someone tall, that means I should never be a BIOS.
He's a head taller than the entire team. Yesterday I said, is he sitting on something? But no, I don't think so.
I'm not going near him because I will have to break my neck and look up at him.
You already do that with Jackie.
I already break my neck with Jackie.
He's very tall.
We have the wildest talent team right now. Literally, like, half of us are over 6 foot, and then the other half is around 5 foot. I don't know.
I'm like 6 centimeters tall, so it's like great. I fill out the balance. It's awesome. But Kafe being that decider map, I think that suits both teams.
Yeah, both teams are going to be happy to go there.
You could be so ready. Do you remember Shaiko back in the day on Vigil on this map, just being allowed to run riot? I think that's great. I think it's a great map. I actually think Villa is their only fear.
I don't think BDS have done bad in the banning phase. They would have probably wanted Coastline, and if they could, Kafe, because Shaiko often has high multi-kill rounds on Kafe. So when you've got a coach that's looking, you're looking, it's really hard to say that you're playing with Deadwood, but you are. You're playing a 45. Because
what happened with Hyperino, though?
Hyperino played a lot of the game. BIOS hasn't played a lot of the game in a long time because he's been so focused on coaching.
Said he was an Xbox champion. Put some respect on the man.
What, do you want me to get a controller and put him on the sticks then?
He can.
Okay.
Okay, well, it looks like our teams are really close to being ready here, but very quickly we want to toss to a DarkZero interview, so check it out.
My name is Troy Jaroslawski. I go by Canadian in-game. I am the in-game leader and flex for DarkZero. The team is a lot different than what DarkZero used to be. It's slowly changed over, added NJR, added Pambazoo, and then eventually added myself as well. The role swaps was a couple different people's ideas. Previous iterations of the roster had gone through so many role swaps and just constantly resetting. And that's a huge thing about role swaps. Every time you do it, the team kind of resets. So you have to be very sure that you actually want to do it. It can't really be all nilly-willy. I've always really enjoyed playing with newer players and trying to help them learn the game and see the game in a different way. Something that I've noticed is very common in young and up-and-coming players is they think, oh, experience doesn't really matter. I can just shoot people. And then they play with people like myself or like Brandon or like Tyler, and all of a sudden they end up saying, oh, we're playing literally a different video game than we were playing before. I think we really discovered our style right after Sweden. And then the US Finals was our first kind of chance to show what we have, and I think we did a good job of that. I don't think we weren't disappointed by any means. I wouldn't say there's any team in our group that I'm afraid of facing. I'm always excited to play new competition and, you know, people that are seen at the top. I think it's obviously a great chance to prove yourself. As far as who I'm most excited to play in our group, I would probably say BDS, because ever since BDS has become a team, I've never played against them, and they've kind of been a highly respected team the entire time. I think the competition is probably the deepest it's ever been, and I think more teams are going to put up a really good fight. If we don't win the Invitational, I don't really care who wins. I don't have a message for my opponents. I guess maybe I do. Remember what it's about and have a good time, and make this an event to remember.
TSM versus Furia, NA versus Brazil. Who will come out on top? Well, Demo, you have a coin, right? Because you're going to do a coin.
Jack nicked my coin. That's my coin.
Fresh took your coin?
Stole from me.
Well, where's your coin now?
That was the only coin I had. That was it. It was my lucky coin.
We need another coin.
It's not a rich man.
Jesse, do you have a coin?
I don't. I'm more of a card guy.
Oh, they use dollars in
A card guy?
Yeah, we got coin.
Yeah, but you don't have the pound.
We got loonies.
British
We got
pound.
toonies.
You know, it's called
It
great
ain't
for
a
a
pound.
reason.
I'm not gonna lie, it was real shiny and pretty
course,
looking,
yeah.
but I can't believe you gave that to Fresh.
I know, but he wants to. Old Fresh, he needs the money.
Okay. Oh.
Yeah, go on, give me it.
Okay.
Give me it. Give me my money back. That's it. That'll do my parking. That's for the car.
Do you want to flip it to see who's gonna win?
No, I'm not losing the. I need the pound. You know, money. Money.
He's like, no, that's going in my pocket. Okay. All right, let's get a little bit serious here and let's talk about our first team, TSM. All right, Jesse, they kind of have a history here. Their stage 3 was a little bit rough. Just take me A through Z here.
All right, so TSM, they've definitely had a rough year for sure. I mean, they started off back in the Mexico Major, right? They had to play without Merc due to COVID problems, so they couldn't play with their full roster. They had some role change issues, I would say, in stage 3. Switched around. Chala and Geo couldn't actually make it to the stage 3 Major. Also failed to qualify for the NA Finals, so they were really struggling throughout the year. But that meant they had a 3-month stretch where they didn't play any games between the finals, well, the end of stage 3 and the North American qualifier. In that time, they changed roles around. They honed their skills. They made the roster the best form of itself that it could be. What they've ended up with, they've got Merc on that IGL position. The boys look really refreshed. They look fantastic. Geo's back over to the hard breach, and we've got Chala playing flank watch once again. So this team, they're feeling themselves, and I'm happy to see it.
You have to remember.
So, did we see Geo with the uwu pose? I mean, he wins. He wins to me. He wins. I don't even care.
For anyone who doesn't know, Jackie's a big fan of anything Japanese. Anything at all.
I like the anime. It's true.
Huge weeb.
Okay, but we got the roster graphic up, and I do want to pick your brain here, Demo. I mean, I don't really know what we're going to see today.
This is the same team from last year's Invitational. It hasn't changed.
Yeah.
Very long-standing roster. It's the same team that came, I believe, 4th overall, and that's, like, getting top 4 is a very coveted prize. And for TSM to get that last year, yeah, they were looking to be on good track and see how they fell for the year, like Jesse mentioned. Didn't go their plan. A few maybes that maybe could have went for them, but it just didn't. Role changes, whatever it is, things hasn't worked out. But they're here now, and if we're not mistaken, another IGL change coming into this tournament.
Yeah, Merc taking over that, and it's weird in theory, right? Like your IGL being your entry fragger, that typically doesn't work for teams. But again, TSM have had all this time to figure it out, and what we've seen in the qualifier is that Merc, he can lead from the front. If they're in a situation, Merc can make the call, screw it, let's go over to this other position instead. We saw it on Oregon when they were playing against Parabellum. I mean, he can make these calls, and the team listens to him, and it's been working.
Jesse, we're taking a live look at the play area right now. We're looking at TSM. What do you think their mindset is right now? I feel like in a lot of ways, like the NA is really trying to reclaim glory here at SI.
For sure. I mean, I think honestly there's a lot of pressure on TSM. Obviously, they're an incredibly popular team. I know a lot of people are tuning in just for this game because they're big TSM fans.
That man as well.
Right there, the man on your screen, Bolo. But, you know, there's pressure. You want to rep NA and you want to make it back to that top 4 position.
Okay, and let's transition now to Furia. We have them up on the screen. And Dem, I'm putting you in the hot seat. They beat a wounded BDS, an easier victory than it would usually be, but a W is a W. Do you think Furia could come out #1 from groups?
So, the situation with Furia is we seen them Invitational last year, and we thought, yeah, this team kind of coming out of nowhere, surviving relegations from 2020, and yeah, 2021 was looking really, really good for the side. But it never really got any better than what Invitational was. And I think the whole year you're kind of hoping, can we see more? Can we see more at this side? I think you have your kind of usual suspects. You always look at Fantasy in this roster being that top performer, was one of the top performers from Stage 3 of LATAM, but everyone else on a side maybe not picking up the pieces where they should. And I think that was the biggest concern for a lot of people was, is it going to be just Fantasy or will everyone step up? Like you mentioned, Jackie, a wounded BDS, is that the best showing for this side? This will be a much tougher ask from them. You know, it's TSM. It's going to be difficult. But on the bright side, we seen Miracle step up yesterday. You know, we seen the rest of the team really pull together alongside Fantasy. So the concerns that maybe we had, is it a one-man team? No, I think everyone's here to play, and that's good for them.
So maybe not a Fantasy. It might not take a Miracle.
Oh, that was good. You can do the puns
I was waiting for you
They
to
could reach
steal that.
They could reach the highest of highs. You know, they're a rare gem inside of Latin America, and yeah, I think they can really lend a hand here if they can really move into this game and take down TSM, and maybe they can finish top of their group. It's there for them. It really is.
Yeah.
And we're taking a live look at them now. And Jesse, this is a young team. The talent is undoubtedly there, though. I think the big question is, can they stay mentally tough? They're looking lethal. BDS was a mental challenge, I felt like. I mean, that's a big name, even though we know the situation going on with BDS, but they stayed strong.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the goal of Twister. Their coach, he's an experienced man. He's been in Siege for a really long time, coached some of the best teams in all of Brazil, and now he's got this really young squad in front of him. And, he's coached them to great heights. Obviously, this team is still very new. Sure, some of their majors in the past year haven't been the highest of results, but again, this is a team that's growing. This is a team that in 10 years is still going to have most of these players likely active in the game because they're all 18, 19, 20. They are young guys. So a lot of potential still, I think, on this roster. And look, I'm a little bit afraid for TSM, okay? I'm an honest man. Usually I show up to work, I say TSM wins, I collect my Twitter impressions, and I go home. But I gotta say, it's difficult tonight because TSM have shown that they struggle against some of these unpredictable plays. And for Miracle and for Fantasy especially, that's what he specializes in.
It's actually interesting you said that because, Demo, I was going to ask you, who's feeling the pressure more right now?
I think TSM. TSM, this is their first game. Didn't play yesterday. They're the team who kind of got the bye in the first day, and I think coming out swinging, that's what you need to do in your first game. Isn't that really how you start your journey? And keep in mind, they're already points behind. Obviously, they have a game in hand, technically, over other sides, but yeah, they need to come in here and really get things going, and that's going to set the kind of bar, isn't it, against every other team. Every other team in their group's going to be watching TSM, and if TSM come in today and they absolutely smash Fury to pieces, whoever has to play TSM next are thinking, ooh, don't know if we want to play that game now.
For sure. And we do have the map ban phase in effect right now, and that information is coming up on the screen. Gentlemen, what are you thinking?
Well, I mean, we saw a little bit of a pause from TSM in picking their map. Looks like Furia didn't go for the Villa ban. I was pretty confident that would be the play. TSM saw it was open. They're going to go for it. That's a very strong map for TSM, so they're happy to take it. They beat Parabellum twice in the qualifiers. Furia, on the other hand, going to pick up the Clubhouse. Another bit of an interesting... I thought I had this map ban down. I was pretty confident what was going to happen. We haven't arrived on any of the maps that I was expecting so far. Looks like we will be ending on Chalet. That's one that I think TSM... I'm worried because they've let Chalet all the way through. I was almost hoping they'd ban it. It's a 6-game win streak for Furia. Everyone bans it against them, and they've let it go all the way to the decider. Jackie, this is a map ban phase that's going to get interesting.
Ooh, Demo, what you thinking?
Yeah, Chalet, I think, is the only one that me and Jesse actually thought would see here. And I think it's because TSM, NA teams, they like Chalet, they'll play it. Equally, so will LATAM teams. LATAM teams have really adopted Chalet throughout this year. But the other two, before we, obviously that's decider, we have the first two maps. Villa is... It's really weird because we've seen a lot of Villa so far this tournament, and I think it's a map that it doesn't really favor one side. Every team seems to leave open Villa. Every team will play it, but I wouldn't say it's everyone's favorite. It's a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly been one in North America that we've been avoiding over the last couple of stages, and TSM especially, haven't been playing a ton of Villa. You look back on their record, and it's one that can be it can be kind of one-sided. I think that for Fury, it's one they've struggled on. 8-game losing streak as well. So I'm not super confident that they'll be able to take it, but maybe they can use that unfamiliarity that TSM have with the map.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much for your excellent analysis as always, but we are ready to go. TSM versus Furia, BDS versus DarkZero. Let's go!
All right, thank you very much, Jackie. And it is time, ladies and gentlemen, to get into our final series of the day, both here on the main stream and over on our Bravo stream as well. Plenty of action and plenty of discussion, a deep dive into.
I'm Blue Casts, and you're Stokes.
All good. We did switch earlier.
We threw him for a curveball.
Had to keep our correct headsets. That was the important thing there. But either way, ladies and gentlemen, let's get us into the action here and start talking about this series, which is bound to be an interesting one, as these are two teams that have had a bit of a bumpy start or a bumpy approach coming into this tournament, and I think that we're in for a bit of a bumpy match overall.
Yeah, I think that's the best way to put it. Good news is Rocky Road Ice Cream is indeed my favorite, so I think we'll be okay in a certain capacity, but we do have to get into the nitty-gritty of this, John. BDS definitely not having the best string of luck in the last couple of days, losing Rafal and having to play with BIOS instead. And for DarkZero, a shell of the confidence that we saw from Canadian in his video. Yesterday was not a good game, not only from DarkZero, but from him. We're expecting a lot more out of this squad. Apparently, a lot of people are expecting a lot of BDS inside of this one as well, with that 61% pick rate there. But either way, folks, we are getting into it now. BDS versus DarkZero. So we'll start things out here on Coastline.
Well, if the fans were paying attention to our map rotation, they'd be pretty smart to lean towards BDS at least in this first map, as there is a very impressive record specifically for BDS here on Coastline, looking at a 5-0 record in the past few months here, and plenty of bans coming from their opponents against it. DarkZero likes to play into this map, but from all the times I've seen it, I personally don't think that this is a very good map for them, and I think that they oftentimes get outwitted, especially on the attacking side. Obviously, it's SI, though, more than likely bringing a lot of new things and a lot more rehearsal on this specific map, so I'll hold my breath until we get further into the map and we see some more specifics coming out from DZ. Already working our way through the ban phase. Not a huge surprise. Obviously, the Finka ban coming in, that's something that we hadn't been seeing until recently, but it makes perfect sense considering the prevalence that Finka has been adding into the meta. She's been there for quite a few teams and quite a few compositions, becoming a consistent pick there, so it makes perfect sense to knock her out.
Yeah, high pick rate as well as just what the adrenal surges bring to the table, with the ability to buff your teammates, give them health, pick them back up from across the map, everything else in between. She's just a fantastic operator at the current moment. Kaid going to follow suit here as the Thatcher Bam came through, just to make sure some of these walls are a little bit easier to breach if DarkZero so chooses, but obviously that ban coming through for BDS. Either way, though, DarkZero going to be rocking the offensive side, while BDS has defense to start us off here on Coastline. And the big thing right now, at least for the DarkZero side of things, is what we saw from them yesterday. You and I already talked about it a little bit, but I'd like to get a little bit deeper into this, especially with what we saw from Canadian and his constant carousel of operators that really didn't work out for him. Going pretty negative inside of his matchup yesterday, and the big issue with that is that Coastline and Chalet share a lot of similarities in the way that you work things on the offensive side. It's very aggressive. You're trying to punish the defense as much as possible for making those minor mistakes in their rotations. It's just one of those maps that your map control is paramount, and the way that you're going to work it on the offensive side really shows as to whether you're going to actually win the map or not.
All right, so working our way into it here, we're going to get an interesting pick over, obviously, on the attacker side of things for DarkZero. They're going to bring an Osa into play. Osa, the most recent operator to be added into our poll. We did see one get picked earlier on today, I believe by Sandbox, if I remember correctly. And on top of that, we saw a couple picks inside of at least a North American qualifier as well from one of our teams here. So only just recently being added in, and you can see teams starting to experiment with it a little bit. I will say as well that DZ is Cyclops was the team that brought Osa in earlier. Thank you, production, for that correction there. But either way, DZ is definitely a team, and I noticed specifically on this map, they like to play around and bring some more unorthodox operators into play. Like, for instance, we get a Blitz pick every once in a while, if you look a couple months back for DarkZero as well, and they kind of were pushing towards that. So this is going to be something new that they try once again here by bringing the Osa into the fold.
Yes, indeed. And as you were saying, Osa, pretty unique operator. Close will be rocking the PDW. She has access to that, and as well as the 5.56 XI, which is the AR from Thermite. You get to see him used quite often whenever he is in play. But the PDW has got a deeper magazine, and when you're playing around a shield, that's just a lot more fun to use. We'll just keep it honest with you guys. Either way, though, DarkZero currently working on service here, and a very aggressive front from BDS, at least inside of this bathroom space. Canadian trying to catch some ankles of Shaiko as he moves back into and forth inside of this area. And if there's one person that you have to be worried about playing inside of this space, it definitely has to be him.
You can see the traction once again here. DarkZero specifically, again, Canadian keeping a close watch on that drone hole there to see if maybe they can catch a member of BDS lurking just a little bit too close to it as they try to throw in a few pieces of utility towards that bathroom, but ultimately doesn't lead to a whole lot here. BDS will not fall victim to it, and DarkZero will have to move themselves forward here. Lots of resistance still set up. We're going to see DarkZero start to work their way in upstairs as well to begin opening up some top-down angles with NGRMO specifically trying to slam the hammer down, but instead he gets slammed upwards by a Nitro Cell from Bride to take him out and give BDS the first kill of the game.
Rough sight here for DarkZero already as they'll lose the sledge, and that's the only soft destruction that they have on the entirety of this offense. Past that, they need Canadian to blow open the floor with Flores drones, and well, that's exactly what's going to happen, John, because there's no other way to actually open up this floor here and actually disrupt the BDS members downstairs inside of Kitchen, which is exactly what you have to do on this map. Already 2 minutes of DZ's time wasted as BDS are basically just sitting on their hands.
BDS continuing to waste out time. Shaiko just dashing through the bathrooms here as well to continue to hide behind that extra deployable he's got in front of him here. Panbutt does manage to sneak in, pick up the first kill against Bio, and a quick follow-up against Lems as well. So great recovery coming in, but Shaiko with his own response from the inside of the bathrooms, and a second to slam down Panbutt before he makes his forward momentum go any further. Down to just 2 now for DZ. It all falls to Hyper and Eclipse to clutch out this round in a 2v3.
BDS at the moment seeming more free-flowing than DarkZero, who seemingly stuck in their ways in the moment, a stick in the mud as Eclipse is still out here on the service door. Hyper trying to get aggressive inside of Courtyard as well. Renshiro currently over inside of Jungle. His shift gears over into Blue Bar and try and play out some more time. And speaking of time, it's dwindling. Shaiko holding things down on service. They need to get aggressive here, and that's exactly what Eclipse will do. Shaiko will lose his lunch. Can Eclipse get it done? He somehow ran out of bullets inside of the PDW, and Bride will be able to shut it down as BDS take the very first round.
Not enough of the initial pressure working out for DarkZero, and that on top of their soft breach being destroyed and a relative inability for anyone else to be able to properly use those top-down angles, make it a very, very easy affair for BDS to just hold off the horizontal push and secure their first round. So good trades from DarkZero. Valiant attempt considering the circumstances like that were thrown out against them, but still, the round very heftily falls into the favor of BDS, and they'll shoot up to a 1-0 lead as we'll head upstairs for our next site in a Hookah Billiards.
A certain patience from DarkZero, but a punished patience, I would say, especially with the way that they wanted to handle that top floor. And JR goes up there by himself initially and just gets blown sky high. He doesn't even get to swing the sledgehammer a singular time before losing his life. We see the Flores drones then committed to that space. Obviously, DZ's able to get it down into the 2 versus 2, but it really didn't mean that much at the end of the day, especially when you needed to plant with such a low time. They really didn't have any read as to where the remainder of the BDS members were. That makes things very difficult for them going forward into the site. Shaiko tries a little cheeky prone peek, and that's really it. Past that, BDS are able to just clean up the bodies and make it look pretty damn easy all at the same time. Coming into round 2 now, DarkZero not going to change things up too much. Canadian will for himself. He's going to move away from the Flores and bring Ace instead. Eclipse still going to be on Osa.
So I'm still going to try to work that. Never even got to see a deployment of either of the shields, I don't believe, inside of that first round there. I think he may have tried to sneak one out at the very end to open up an opportunity for him to put the case down, but did not end up happening. So we'll see if there's going to be some better use out of our kit going into the second round here, because obviously the site chose to be a little different. Can still find some great use out of that shield, considering the entry route for our attackers as well. If they want to try and force the issue over towards Hookah, that's potentially a great area to get some forward momentum going, and we'll have to follow that and see here, as we can already see one of them deployed out to maybe start challenging that very doorway that I was just talking about.
Yes, indeed. And this is what I wanted to be seeing from Cyclops earlier. The way that they were using Osa's shields was a little dangerous because of the oh my goodness gracious, the animation that you have to go through to put the shield down. It actually makes her quite risky to actually do that in front of anybody. So I like what they're doing with the Hookah balcony here instead. Set the shield down, then break the door. You have that to play around outside, and this actually gives you some more space to be safe and try and contest places like Vase. It's basically like staring at each other with the exact same setup. No one's really going to be able to get anything out there unless possibly Renshiro can toss an impact and get rid of it. But we'll have to see exactly how this goes. Renshiro currently downstairs, as well as Shaiko, will be holding on to Sunrise for a time. The rest of BDS is upstairs around VIP as well as Vase. Practically stacked on top of each other because this part of the map is so very important right now. DarkZero looking into what's going on around the kitchen space, and as we get more of an update across the board, still got some bodies up and around the hookah balcony. It's actually NJR to strike first onto Bios, who will lose his life with the ADS. Hyper actually will be able to get one as well. Pambazu tagging on. Can he get the second? Shaiko taking a lot of damage and doesn't want to re-challenge as this F2 is so damning. And that's going to be a flawless round. Nades abound, guns hot. Looking good for DarkZero in round 2.
What a turnaround from DZ as well there. The players over on BDS just having no idea of the momentum that DarkZero had already made, specifically inside of Kitchen, let alone the capability of the utility usage from DarkZero that would eventually come out there to give them those 2 great opening kills. And the dominoes just really continued to fall from there. The defensive setup from BDS never even really challenged as DarkZero just kill their way into a second round.
Yeah, big question is, where are the discs and where are the ADSs at? That's really it, as I believe three kills coming from frag grenades inside of that round. So, I mean, for BDS, they're probably trying to think about that one a little bit more, but honestly, they really don't need to use the tag timeout because their coach is in the game, so he can just grab the notes and be like, hey, we probably need to do this instead.
Probably going to say that in case things get a little bit too tense and players get a little emotional, can use that for like a cool-off period or something as well there. But as you were saying with the coaching game, not going to find much use out of an actual tactical pause to try and get the coach's input because they can always get it. So
just look to the middle seat. Bios, what do you think?
So we'll see what BDS is going to quickly adjust for, and they are going to reattempt the same site there, calling that last one off as a bit of a fluke and seeing if they can quickly go for the repeat here. Obviously hoping. Yeah. Just the verb, or I guess it's a noun, but
English language.
Yeah.
Very hard, very difficult indeed. But either way, for DarkZero, flawless round as we were just talking about. They're not going to be changing things up too much. Canadian's going to go back to the Flores drones, which can definitely be helpful here, but the mute jammers are obviously going to get in the way of that, especially around this space, which is important as we always have this contested up top. But this time, they're not going to have a deployable shield around the area. No deployable shields across the board here for BDS. So just going to have to try and stick to their guns around those 2 reinforcements and hope that the reinforcements overall hold up with those mute jammers.
I just love the triple ADS surrounding the mute jammers.
Well, we found where the ADSs are.
It's like
that apparently BDS
protected at all costs, that one mute jammer. And to be fair, that is a pretty important one, as it's obviously going to deny the potential hard breach opening of that, and that would completely give away the defensive positions. So to some extent, it makes sense to have it there. Just normally you would see that be spread out a tad more. Regardless, it should work out fine for the BDS roster here as DarkZero are beginning the process of the clear, and we can see why they want to defend that mute jammer so heavily, but unfortunately,
beautiful.
They're not going to be able to do much about it as it walks right in, but yeah.
Oh no, it got jammed!
I don't even know because I heard it beeping, so it...
If you hop into the radius,
oh yeah, he probably jumped it,
yeah, so very unfortunate there. He might try it again. I think he is actually. I ended up seeing that, but I think he ended up blowing up something else. I have to see exactly what it was, but definitely not going for that same base spot where all of that utility stacked up.
Unfortunate misstep there for DarkZero, but as you said, they now know the position of all that utility here, so can properly play around it, even if they aren't able to take it out with another one of those drones. Canadian is in the process of deploying one, so we'll hold our breath for a second. I think he's going to try to sneak it in towards Hookah. Let's see as he goes around towards the corner, and this one drops it in there. Let's see the counter, and this one's going to go off. Gets rid of it all. Nice little 4-piece utility. Knock that right out, and the usefulness of this operator continues to grow here as we see him used more and more inside of the meta as the main piece of utility clear. He's going to do that once again to pop open as much of this little mini bar as possible and make the hold behind the couch as uncomfortable as possible for the player currently taking up that position. Panba also gets the first kill of the round against Renshiro after about a minute and a half of delay.
Well, he's definitely achieved in making that an awkward situation for BDS when they're going to be trying to hold on to that. Alems with a very nice shot onto Pambazu, who has been the most effective player along with DarkZero thus far. DarkZero will start working in towards Aqua Balcony. Eclipse is shifting away from Hookah and over towards Aqua himself as well, as this is starting to look more like a DZ Aqua take. More than likely going for a default plant sooner or later, but definitely not sooner. As NJR gets taken down by Shaiko, it seems as though they know what's coming, but they know Canadian has the counter angle inside of VIP.
Canadian continuing to set himself up for a potential push behind Eclipse in the deployment once again of those Osa shields. Second one now going down just at the precipice of the Aqua entrance to the site. Remember, they still have that second one down outside of the Hookah doorway as well. So if they're able to get plants down onto the ground, there's be 2 very powerful positions, but that's the issue. Need to get it down on the ground first, and Shaiko's just stolen away another life from the DarkZero side of things. Canadian walks right up to Bios, though, and takes his life away also. Eclipse will be able to try and sneak in the plant. Bride, though, leaps out, tries to stop the planter. Eclipse is going to be able to save his own life as he gets the follow-up in addition to that trade. Now the plant needs to be locked in place, though. LM's just waiting for the null timer. Waltzing right up, and no, the reaction is allowed to happen, but it isn't quick enough. LM still wins out the 1v1, and obviously there'll be plenty of time for the counter to fuse. Round 3 goes to BDS.
You want to talk about scary? Let's talk about scary for a second. When it comes down to the Roni and the amount of bullets that thing has in it now, whenever you see a gunfight that go that way, it is always terrifying. So luckily enough, he's able to take down the Osa, but Eclipse had a very solid chance at winning that round there inside of the 1 versus 1. But the damage dealt early by BDS was just enough to DarkZero to make this moment happen for Alems, and luckily enough for BDS, they'll grab their second round.
All right, so BDS securing themselves once again on the defensive side here for Coastline, and they're going to continue to shift around. Went for the second attempt on Hookah, like we said, calling off that kind of rush-in from DarkZero. Not even a rush, just a walk-in, really, from them in the second round, and quickly correcting for their mistakes to be able to win round 3. So they'll move right along. Kitchen is available to replay that one, but they're not going to feel the necessary need to go back to that just yet. They're going to try their double bar hold instead and see if they can win this one before potentially transitioning back on the round after this, as we now enter the second quarter of the matchup, the later part of this defensive half for BDS, excuse me. I like combine the team names there.
It is getting a little later here for us now, obviously, as BDS headed back towards double bar. Not going to be seeing anything too crazy. We'll have Alems on Alibi. It'll more than likely be dedicated to a couple of windows around this basement space just because they don't want DarkZero to get such free entry like they did the last time. BDS played this on more of like a stacked kind of areas. They had a multitude of people down low trying to hold space inside of Sunrise with 2 bodies upstairs, and it was just so very easy for DZ to completely disrupt the process of what was going on. So, want to see if DZ can do it yet again here. They got a lot of the utility to be able to deal with all of these different things. The biggest thing right now is that all of Canadian's drones should strike true unless they're shot. Mostly because BDS does not have mute, so he won't be able to get in the way of that. All of these deployable shields and everything else, including the Banshees, are all for his taking.
That's what Mozzie, the defense, does, but those are fairly avoidable for the most part for an experienced player. Like, we obviously have a full roster of on DarkZero, so unless he's rushing those through and not paying attention to that little warning that pops up before you go through like a doorway where they would normally be placed, then shouldn't have too much of an issue being able to avoid the pests.
Absolutely the case, my friend. Good catch as well. As Shaiko going to be the only way that they stop these Flores drones minus shooting them, to see exactly where he has these set up, because there's some very important areas for BDS to try and keep a hold of for the time being. For the first minute, DarkZero slow and steady as he'll be able to mark out an initial pest here on the hookah door. Hyper's already worked his way into 9D, and no, this isn't the fake. This one is, as he'll get that out and start droning himself ahead. Shaiko just going to hide away from the Gemini here as it'll finally get taken out. Pre-fires, but obviously nobody home on the hookah door here as BDS continue to waste this time. DarkZero really not making any forward progress, all except for the free space that BDS has already given.
Just not like realizing the possibility of stealing away the Rotero drones as well, and the chaos that could create for a defensive team, as I'm assuming you can throw the explosive out. So
it destroys them.
Oh, it does it? Okay.
Yeah, it like grabs it, does the little animation, is.
Oh man, okay. Because I hadn't actually seen it happen yet, so I was more curious about that. I was wondering, but yeah, if it just destroys it, never mind. That would probably be a little too chaotic for the attackers.
No, it'd be too fun.
It honestly would be great. Can you imagine if you just like, for instance, like you're trying to go at hookah, right? And you stolen one, you like hide it behind the bar. Team tries to execute. Not anymore. Here comes the Rotero drone.
Oh man, that would honestly be fantastic. And speaking of Rotero drones, we're gonna get another one from Canadian, and he'll blow the Banshee as well as the barbed wire to pieces. Probably looking for this deployable shield next, and he'll get it. None of those Mozzie pests inside of this space, so DarkZero doing a bang-up job of clearing out Sunrise for a plant later on. But big problem now is that they haven't drained any utility, as well as they really don't have the control around the kitchen space as of right now. Drone in, and actually the nade to counter it out. That's beautiful there from DZ, as Hyper had the angle on top of Vibes. Eclipse now taking some damage here from Alems, but this is also going to read into his location. Eclipse starting to push forward inside of Mud. He'll drop down the shield and starts to get pressured, and Eclipse gets absolutely slapped by Alems, who just does not allow that to happen. That's case down, and somebody's got to do something here. 13 seconds remaining. Canadian moving forward, but also being shot at from the counter angle. Alems is already stuffed up inside of this space. He'll get taken down by Canadian, who hops too. Shaiko will fall as well. Bios and Renshiro now down to the coach, and NJR gets him as well on the entry. Canadian with some fantastic calling there in the dying moments. That's what you expect from from a hammer lifter.
A rush play, but indeed it works out for DarkZero as they have to struggle for every bit of control in those last 20 seconds. Didn't have a lot to work with, but they still are able to get it done off of some really good frag grenade utility, two which coming out there, one saving one of their teammates' lives, the one that killed the player down on Cool Vibes, and then a nice one as well to force the second player hiding by the pool door position out of it and into the open where they could eventually take him down, flood the site, and overwhelm the stragglers from BDS as they tried to rotate into position. Beautiful stuff from DarkZero in a clutch situation, and that's going to tie up the game now at 2-2.
Yeah, BDS went from being A-okay to just being an open wound in this matter of like 15 seconds, just constantly bleeding and no way to stop it. Comes all the way down to BIOS, but he really can't do anything about that. BDS had a really good opportunity there to take that, especially with what they did with the smoke utility inside of that. They still had all of those smokes there, but the overcommitment into Sunrise, as well as how DarkZero played that with the aggression in through that space, worked out extremely, extremely well for them. And now we're tied up 2-2.
Very, very slow play here so far from both teams, and for good reason on that as well. Obviously doesn't explain the entire story of all of our rounds, but technically speaking, the first kill has decided the round on all 4 rounds so far. The 2 rounds where we've seen BDS pick up the opening kill, they followed it through and won. The same thing can be said for DarkZero's 2 also, because they, in addition, found their opening kills on that round. So teams are wanting to be very cautious not to give up that opening death, as it seems to have, at least for now, some ringing effects on the rest of the outcome of the round also. Starts now getting into the actual action phase of the round. However, so let's see how DarkZero will proceed this time, as they've got 2 rounds left on their attack here. Once again, going to be bringing that very similar flair to the table. The buck in check for Canadian this time, on top of the sledge also being brought by NJR, and still seeing the Osa left in play as well. DZ still seemed to favor this one, despite again getting tripped up by it in the previous round. Eclipse getting caught in the middle of the animation, something that you had mentioned we had CAG struggling with earlier in the day as well there, leading to the death of Eclipse. Thankfully, that was one of the few deaths DarkZero suffered over the course of that rush play.
Deployable shield on offense is pretty cool, but not when you really can't fight back while you're setting it up. And that's exactly why we don't see anybody just setting deployable shields up in front of anyone on the defense. They're all done inside of prep phase, but you don't have that same opportunity when you're playing from the offensive side. For BDS now, going to be holding on to the basement level on a horizontal hold here with BIOS out towards lobby. Not starting off as strong as he has in previous games, currently 0-4, and you could say the same about the rest of his squad. Renshiro not exactly in the best of straits either in the current moment.
Canadian seeing some of those tracers come through the floor. He's going to try and hunt this player down quickly. Skeleton keying out the large majority of the penthouse here, using quite a bit of the ammo for it, but giving himself away to Shaiko in the process. And Shaiko will be able to pick up the opening kill. Not the end of the world in terms of soft breach like we were talking about before. Not only did they bring the buck, NJR still has the sledge as well, so they are going to be able to still add that utility. And more importantly, open up the top downs in VIP to try to flush out a couple members of BDS. The first attempt, unfortunately, though, has failed with Shaiko fending it off.
Well, Troy, you said you wanted to play against BDS, and well, that's what you get when you do. Shaiko with some insane play through the soft destruction in the flooring, able to take down Canadian early on here, and BDS limiting DarkZero inside of this round. Finally, Shaiko will be shut down by Hyper. That's the man with the plan that we usually see inside of these fragging areas. Brittle toss a Nitro Cell up top and blow NJR sky high as Alems falls through as well. But here's Pambazoo for the answer. He'll take down BIOS inside of lobby, but still a 3 versus 2 in favor of the defense.
And on fire so far in this game here. It's 7-2 here, counting the kill he just picked up for himself. Unfortunately, not going to be able to carry any further ones into this round, as Alems will catch him on a transition through the main stairs. Just Eclipse on that Osa left alive here, like you were talking about before, the PDW. Good amount of ammo to use inside of that one here, but range on it is going to make some of these longer range fights a bit rough. They'll be able to work towards it though and catch one player off guard, but there's an immediate trade set up from Bride. Quickly collects the last kill there against the Osa and secures another one for BDS as they take the lead, but just barely here at 3-2, heading into the final round of the opening half.
These are not bad rounds from DarkZero, but they've got a lot going on these offenses to where they end up having a lot of people off doing their own thing, and that's exactly why Canadian gets punished here. He has to use the skeleton key to clear up all of these angles for himself, and he has nobody to work them while he's doing so. So it makes it to where he can just immediately be countered out by somebody like Shaiko, who's going to be able to track him through the floor in such an aggressive manner. So for BDS, very well done, but for DarkZero, they got to clean it up just a little bit if they want to try and contest things like that.
So we're going to see a nice little 6-pick come out there for our defensive team. BIOS going over to the Clash now as the team makes another return towards Hookah. This will be good for contending against some of those direct plays if we're going to continue to see the Ocean Shields get deployed outside of the hot spots, once again outside that Hookah doorway. And right next to Aqua is where they were deployed last time, so now you can be able to get the Clash in the way of that and stop that play, not only there, of course, but in some other avenues. For instance, if a team tries to sneak in through the VIP wall by Circle Couch, you can be able to block out that hallway and that access point. Lots of options here for the coach to try and get in the way of the advances from DarkZero.
Yeah, I truthfully love this pickup here from BIOS. He's like, well, I'm already 0-5, so I might as well play something so unbelievably annoying that I can do something against DZ. Obviously, with the other ops that he was bringing, it's all still really solid utility to be able to try and help out the defense through those ADSs on Jaeger. But with Clash, he's going to have a more direct route in being effective against DZ. He doesn't have to do it with a gun either. He can just simply slow them down, and I think this is a great read from BIOS as well with the low-timed executes we've been seeing from DZ.
Time continuing to tick down here. And DarkZero only just now entering the map for themselves, so slow times to build up towards here. There's going to be a lot of outside posturing over the course of this round due to the way they played it previously. Need to build up that strength over on the Hookah balcony. Build up the capability for you to push in as a team yourself. Even away from that also, members of BDS still going to have a few tricks up their sleeve to get in the way, like the Clash that'll ultimately need to be dealt with, and really not a whole lot of aggressive utility that you can throw from DarkZero's side, save for instance, frag grenades that they can use to get that out of the way either. For instance, you don't have a Zofia that you can use a lifeline charges to easily dispatch of the shield, so might become a bit of a process to actually knock BIOS out here. We'll have to wait and see how it's going to be, but we are going to see that Rotero drone make the jump and unfortunately go a little bit too close to the mute jammers. That first one will be lost again here on this hold.
A little bit too close to the sun yet again here for Canadian, and that's going to be at least one of the Rotero drones down. Still has 3 to go though, so plenty of opportunity to destroy a lot of this utility inside of the site. Barbed wire in the way of Osa at the moment in BIOS.
Like, yeah, I got a shield too.
Yeah, now what, huh? You're not going to do anything, Osa. I'm going to stand right here and stare at you. We can just have a staring contest between our clear shields that bullets can't possibly penetrate. Minute and 30 seconds here for DZ as they're trying to get things figured out right now on Hookah balcony. BDS playing quite patiently. DarkZero's made their move into kitchen again. This is looking very similar to what we saw in the previous Hookah round where we saw the Twitch of Pambazoo going nuke. That's when he got those 2 big kills down low inside of Sunrise, and we had every frag grenade hitting for DZ with 3 frag kills inside of that round. Alem's now out towards white, and once again, DZ just really not doing anything yet inside of the round. Another flash in. This one will actually catch Alem's, and Canadian, is he actually going to swing this window? If he does, this is such a freebie for Alem's, and it's very risky as well. He's still got 3 Rotero drones. He should be more dedicated to using these instead of trying to get in towards the actual site from White Stairs.
You can see once again the members of DarkZero struggling to be able to push that Clash out of the way. Like I was mentioning before, no easy stun utility that they can use to push him out, or at minimum cause the kind of glitch there to get the shield to swing out of the way, which would open up a hitbox for members of DarkZero to hit. You have to try and rely on the frag grenades. We are going to see one connect very close to Hyper, but doesn't outright kill him. He panics and jumps off his clone, but there we go. BIOS will get caught by Canadian, and on top of that, Panda finds his opener against Shaiko as well. Those are 2 very important kills for DarkZero, and now they just have to play against the clock here and hope they can get in. They might not even need to go in though. Panda finds a personal second against Renshiro, and Alem's pushing forward here, going to try to fend off the Cool Vibes push. That will work, but he's got additional pressure coming out against him. NJR cleans up the shop with 2 kills coming out for him, and this round goes to DZ.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense for Canadian's positioning on white there. The Rotero drones really didn't matter to the overarching story of that one, mostly just because he was the counter angle for Luggage. He didn't want anybody to try and rotate in behind his teammates that were playing inside of Aqua, that were setting all of that up, and it just made it to where the aggression was a lot more potent for them, so they were actually able to work the space how they wanted to. Eventually rotates over and is able to work double instead, and just very well done from DarkZero overall. They'll be able to get off of the offensive side at a 3-3 half.
That'll take us back over to the opening of DarkZero's defensive half, where they're going to start things out directly into the double bars here. Once again, looking at operator lineups, no huge surprises here. We're going to get an interesting one from BDS, but not completely unexpected, as the Dokkaebi pick is going to come in for BIOS as well, adding that extra utility and, more importantly, information to the team as they try to work their way in. And also an interesting 6 pick coming out there for DarkZero, as they're going to bring the Frost in instead of the Oryx.
Could be a goodie. could be a baddie.
For this site, it works pretty well.
Yeah, this is one of those sites where Frost is definitely a solid pick, especially just because of the amount of window hops we see. We saw DarkZero abusing this exact window quite a few times through previous rounds, and obviously with a welcome mat there, you're more than likely going to lose some ankles. So
this is also a site that like really commonly, in my opinion, gets pushed with like 15, 20 seconds left, and teams just have to like force the issue, not checking for things like frost mats here. So if they can keep those relatively obscure throughout most of the round and just bait out a huge amount of time, I think they've got a possibility to catch one, maybe two players.
Yeah, this is looking like it could be a pretty hyperactive round for BDS as well with BIOS on that Dokkaebi. So we could be seeing them go for some pretty aggressive plays across the board, and that's where those frost mats are really going to get in their way, because they're not going to be looking at the ground. They're going to be focused on trying to kill people. And that could honestly be very, very strong for DZ.
With the Dokkaebi in play here, just going to clear things out toward the front end of the building. Not a whole lot of action going to be going on. No hugely aggressive plays coming out for DarkZero. Clippers are trying to open up a few holes for himself in case there's going to be some additional pressure on the beginning over by the service door. Not going to see a whole lot of that. And in the meanwhile, still working on reinforcing some things over by the Sunrise bar there as he's putting down that deployable shield to fend off any potential pressure from the kitchen side, as well as the upstairs area. Away from that, though, relatively uneventful first 40 seconds of this round. Both teams just taking their time, and now the first call going to come in. And hey, we said it was going to catch someone. We didn't think it was going to happen this early, though. Panba able to knock out Shaiko as well as he walks right into a frost trap.
Canadian's more than likely just got the biggest smile on his face right now. He's like, hey, you might be able to shoot straight, but might want to check your corners there, buddy. Get some drones in there and see what's going on. No one finding Canadian's positioning or the fact that he is Frost. But now they'll know. Lems will be able to destroy the Frost mat on the blue window, but the damage has already been done in a certain sense. Shaiko is one of the mainstay fraggers for this squad, and with BIOS at 0 and 6, they desperately need him alive.
Yeah, absolutely the case here. They need that second phone call at a minimum to go out here to add the additional intel. The first one thrown out. More likely not able to do much behind it because of the death of Shaiko right there. So having to focus on trying to reposition and readjust their strategy after the loss of a very efficient fragger for this team. They're not going to be able to really capitalize on the information they may or may not have gotten from the initial phone call. Still, we're a little under, rather, half the round to go here, so plenty of time for BDS. They are not forced into making a play anytime soon, but they may very well soon be forced into trying to do something here as Canadian now strikes again. First with the frost mat, now with the rifle, as he's going to pick up a second kill, or at least a second assist on the round, as now Lems gets eliminated by his gun.
A much better game so far from Canadian than what we saw yesterday, and you got to be really happy for the DZ fans at home for that. As for BDS, as of right now, not really too much they can do unless they get some serious picks, and it starts with a pick onto Canadian. Grenade has also moved in and started this plant as well, and do they have the cover? It looks like it'll be able to at least go through, and if Renshiro's able to get done with much, they could possibly win this. Grenade with yet another pick. Oh, make it 3. Can he get 4? No, he can't. He switches to the secondary at the last moment, but it's a smoke grenade to eat him alive from NJR.
Surprising amount of progress gained by BDS on the inside of this round here, bringing it down to a 1v2 as well with the post plant down on the ground. Renshiro just spams in to the counter defuse position there before he has to push himself outside of the toxic babe. No counter defuse attempt yet. He's actually got an angle from far enough back here. Renshiro picking up the first kill against Panba. Now has to lock into the second one. Nearly gets him, and there we go. 2 crosses. Perfect pacing and perfect timing on those shots coming out from Renshiro as well. The discipline is something to be respected here, as he has no problem just peppering those shots in through a pinhole to finish out the round.
I gotta love BIOS having some fun too there. The old no with the finger. Not allowed, folks, as Team BDS take the lead over DZ.
So that is going to leave BDS in pole position at the moment here as we move further into the second half. DarkZero certainly going to be stomping their feet a little bit about that one, considering the control they had. Player advantage working in their favor, seemingly great positional control over towards Sunrise, but 2 lone players able to sneak their way into the chassis corner, get the defuse onto the ground, and then get at least 1 player outside into a very powerful position to clutch out what would become the 1v2.
I mean, there's a reason that everyone highlights Bride as one of the highlight support players across the entirety of the world. He is such an insanely gifted player, and it's for moments like that. You don't expect him to get off the planet and just wax 2 people right in behind Sunrise. That's incredible play from him, and something that BDS desperately needed in the moment. If he doesn't hit those shots, they lose that round.
So BDS propelling forward here. We're now going to move over to DarkZero's kitchen defense. A little bit more out and about for the team this time, and hopefully allowing them to more directly contest the play that would come in from BDS, where they did pay a bit too much respect there to the eventual execute that BDS brought in over towards the Sunrise Bar. This time, they can play directly against it by putting players inside of the kitchen, over by barrels, a couple other positions to play into as well, in addition to the extensions upstairs and over towards the lobby here, where they can try to waste plenty more of BDS's time bank, which has just started to tick down now from our 3-minute marker. No huge change-ups coming in for their attacking lineup. We are going to see a Lion added in, though. I believe the Zofia also potentially coming in to help this team out also. But aside from that, plenty of soft breach between the Flores as well as the Sledge here to try to open up those opportunities against DZ.
Lion arguably more helpful inside of this situation, but it depends on what you're looking for. He's better for positional things when it comes to how you want to handle the defense. I was really worried Pambazu was going to run outside and dash.
I was waiting for him up there
that.
too. Lem's heard it.
Yeah, there's always risk that people are willing to take, especially when it comes to Oryx, as that just kind of comes with the territory. But either way, Lion obviously a little bit better with the positional, but Dogaby better with the information overall for clearing the map, because you can just immediately hop on the drones once you put that phone call in and just listen for the vibration of the phones. She's so good for clearing out maps very quickly, and that's something we've seen teams use throughout the history of Siege for that exact reason. But, you know, it's just not as bountiful as it once was. And have some Flores drones hop in now and find smoke. And JR will be forced back, at least positioning-wise as of right now. Renshiro not really having an angle to abuse in the moment. But speaking of abuse, Pambazu, oh no.
He didn't
Did you hear it?
He didn't hear it. He didn't notice.
Oh my god, please! Oh my god, please! Oh, Pambazu, finally! Renshiro! Dude, somebody get this guy an ear check or something. I don't know. That was just so very strange.
We don't even have a crowd. You don't even have the excuse for that this time around. What happened there, man?
There's just too many French comms being sent back and forth.
Renshiro's not able to hear the, I believe, 3 attempts made from Panba before he eventually connected the shots on to take him down. A bit of a misstep there, and it's going to cost BDS their upper positioning for the time being here. Approaching the 1-minute mark as well, that is certainly going to be a big loss, as now they potentially have to rotate someone over there to take up that mantle, or just not have the vertical pressure whatsoever, forcing them to play this entirely horizontally and making this a bit of a risky play as we approach the final 50 seconds. Rotero drone once again moving in. I believe that one's going to get caught this time. A trade does come in for Balems, but Hyper also finding him as well a second later. Shaiko raiding into this lobby position, though, quickly dispatches of Eclipse and puts us back on even turf.
Well, 40 seconds remain. NJR on site. Hyper out towards jungle, and Pambazu over inside of office currently, with Shaiko manning the door for service. Bios out toward lobby, and Bride working his way towards Shaiko. So it looks like they're going to try and go for a kegs plant here, as Shaiko starting to push himself forward. He's going to have to defend his planner here, and with minimal seconds remaining, they're more than likely going to try and start things off soon. Pambazu more than likely is going to have an angle up here he might be able to abuse as he gets a little bit closer, but oh no, he dashes. He's not going to be able to find it. Well, if he was able to keep the secondary pistol out, he would have been able to do something, but now it's just all for naught. Pambazu's upstairs. It's a 1 versus 3, and unless he does something insane, this is a BDS round.
Pamba's, well, a little bit upset he's not able to take out Shaiko. Had him in the open for quite a while. Shaiko actually taking him a second to realize where the damage was coming from, but thankfully had enough time to scurry away into the bathrooms and save his own life. 2 players outside of the building now, a third at a tough angle. That is Shaiko, who he's going to be able to finally finish off, but won't even get the kill credit for it, unfortunately, as Bios gets the trade just a tad too quickly. So a clean one comes in from BDS here, and they're going to be able to take another round for themselves as DarkZero call for a timeout.
Easy timeout, and Bios with his first kill of the game, John. Yay! We got
Save Shaiko's life, too.
Yeah, exactly. Able to save his down man, and here's Pambazu's attempt at being the worst assassin we
really have to show this again
in the world. I do not know how Renshiro did not know that was going on. I am so flabbergasted.
I mean, like, the first one, I give him, like, okay, I can see that, right? Because he's, like, looking down. There's obviously some crazy stuff going on. You just heard, like, it could have just been some guy, like, halfway across the map there, right? You could write that one up. But the follow-up too? Come on! What's going on? Regardless, they're able to rebound on the round, so it's not too big of an issue ultimately for the BDS squad. Much bigger problem for DarkZero as they're now 2 rounds behind, only 2 away as well from losing this first map.
What is up with you and I and getting these clown fiestas of rounds?
Dude, I don't know what it is.
Even with Pambazu as well up top, he gets the bailiff out, starts trying to clear out the floor, and then just dashes into the wall. Like, are you okay? Like,
maybe the jet lag's hitting these guys.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Do you need a hug or something? Like, I can run over there real quick. You know, it just
energy drink.
Yeah, something like like that? I don't really know, but a little conversation going to be had here with BC. Let's see if DarkZero can possibly reset, as BDS are on the cusp of match point here and playing with their coach.
So let's see if BDS is going to be able to carry on forward to put themselves into a 1-0 up position here. Talked about this before. The map stats definitely favoring BDS. Just taking a look at them really quickly for Coastline. We're going to have to wait and see how things look, though. So obviously, this is the pick from BDS, and following this one up, we'll be going over to it looks like Villa for our second map there, picked by DarkZero.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And then if we get all the way down to it, we also have Kafe as well. So some pretty interesting maps coming up in between these two, especially from the strategy that we have seen thus far from both of these teams. I think Coastline's definitely been quite a bit of fun, wouldn't you?
Definitely would say so. It's been chaotic at the minimal.
For sure.
We've seen quite a few of these rounds. So BDS going to see if they can give us a few more fun shows here before the map closes out. And DarkZero going to try to claw their way back from the depths here, which is totally possible.
I lied. That's BIOS' second kill.
Oh yeah, look at that.
Killed 2 people. That's a lot of kills, actually.
Not too bad.
I mean, depending on the way that you look at it. But
I mean, subjectively, look, well, one kill behind Renshiro at this point. So
I mean, he's an Xbox gamer. He's not even supposed to be good at MK. So 2 kills up against DarkZero. I mean, hell, I'd take it.
Absolutely. So once again, I think I saw someone mentioning before. He's like, "Oh, let's let him hook up the controller."
Yeah,
I don't think there's any rules against it. Like, so
use whatever input device that you want. I'm waiting for somebody to show up with like an Oculus Rift.
Technically, Siege is cross input for its esports scene, as far as I am aware. Someone feel free to correct me on that if I'm wrong, but. For those who don't play Siege, you might be wondering why there isn't any, and to give you a very quick answer, there is no form of any type of aim assist or anything like that for controllers in multiplayer, so yeah, that gives them a pretty big disadvantage.
Well, it's not even that. It is that, but also secondly...
it's pretty much that, yeah.
Secondly, you also can't lean unless you aim.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So, like, info peeking, jiggle peeking, all that kind of stuff, it's not as strong as it is just playing MK overall. So, either way, BDS... now out and about here on the map is about a minute in now. Shaiko trying to work his way into Sunrise, almost clips a DarkZero member there as he's descending shots through the Sunrise wall. BDS already using one of their EE1Ds from BIOS as they're droning out Office currently. Nothing really else going on over inside of this space. I do believe that they have Eclipse down low to worry about inside of this area, so we'll have to see exactly what they can do as they clear out the rest of the utility inside of the space.
Yep, quick dispatch of the Banshee with those explosive drones once again coming in. Lems does have his drone in position, is going to be able to spot out at least one member of DarkZero here. That drone, I believe, was spotted by the member of DarkZero also, so they should be well aware of that. I believe it's going to be Eclipse on the other side of this fight. Indeed, that is the case. Eclipse very much ready to take on the challenge, though. He is primed, ready to go for an aggressive swing, but his opponent is watching that angle. The patience from Eclipse is certainly warranted right now, as if he tries to go out, very good chance he could get his head immediately popped off, as you can see that once again from Lem's POV. Renshiro, in the meanwhile, looking for a path to work his way into the site towards the bars, chucking in those nades, seeing if they can knock out some utility as well. Canadian nearly getting himself shredded away as he goes down to about 10% of his HP here, with very little damage returned, it looks like, on a Shaiko.
Unfortunate right now for DarkZero, but they've been able to stem off BDS for the time, and this patience almost working out for Eclipse, but he's giving it up now as BIOS obviously knowing of the location here for Eclipse. Continue to watch that timer though, because as it dwindles, BDS has got to do something, and although they have done some damage, DarkZero still at max capacity for the moment. This plant looking to go down inside of Sunrise as Bride moves his way back over towards Mud. Renshiro and Olems will take down 2 DZ bodies. NJR able to take down an initial one, but not before Shaiko fires back onto Canadian. Pambazoo with one. He'll try and cross outside, but with that new timer, it's going to be made very difficult. And it's going to get a free read to BDS, but now with an M590 in hand, it's BIOS versus NJR, who's currently sitting in behind couch. Can he find him? Oh! Through the wall, the M590 to get it done from range.
Shotgun coming in clutch here for DarkZero as they're able to win out a near impossible fight at the end of that one, going towards, I believe, a 3v5 at one point, but DarkZero bring it back for themselves regardless, staying in this fight here and putting themselves once again only one round away from tying it up versus BDS. Next site going to come up for DZ, and they'll head back over towards Kitchen now that they have finally taken control of the reattempt over on Bars. Let's go for round 2 on the Kitchen as well. See if they can batten down the hatches there and make sure that things will lock in to be able to tie the game up at what would be 5-5.
Now, it was a patience game for DZ that got them pretty far ahead inside of that. Obviously, BDS were able to start the frags, but it was a little bit too late because once they start actually going for the entry, DarkZero is just able to trade out along with them and make things quite difficult. Obviously, BIOS has to play safe, not only because of his utility, but also because he's just simply that counter angle that's supposed to exist inside of Office to make things a little bit easier for BDS as they try and take control of that Sunrise area. And honestly, he's not expected to win that going into those last moments either. It's going to be very hard for him inside of a close quarters fight with one of those SAS operators. So unfortunate events for him, but for BDS, close, but no cigar.
So BDS will look for another victory here on a site that they have been able to take for themselves once again by fending off a lot of the aggressive early pressure there and actually being able to force themselves onto the site despite losing their own vertical pressure. We obviously had that bit of a goofy fight go on. Panda able to steal the life away from Renshiro. Doubt he'll be making that same mistake again, but we will still see Team BDS execute in a very similar way, looking to take that control, open up all the angles, flush out these extended players from DarkZero, even the well locked in players over towards areas like barrels and whatnot, and eventually leave a wide enough path open into the site and feel the confidence needed to go for their executed. Jackal going to be brought in by Lems this time as well to try and make the job of hunting down those mobile players from DarkZero upstairs a bit easier.
And the PDW as well being brought along for the ride. I'm going to keep referencing every single time that we see it just because it's such an interesting gun, but we don't get to talk about it that much because Eclipse is immediately going to decapitate Lems as he comes into Office, and well, you might have wanted to use that Jackal utility.
Yeah, it didn't even seem like he didn't see the footsteps on the floor, so he just didn't even expect anyone to be in that hallway, it looks like.
He just didn't really care.
I think he did check it, to be fair, like in the dying moments as he made the swing, but it's just, yeah, I don't think he personally expected anyone to be there, so wasn't really mentally prepared for the fight.
Which is honestly a little strange because a lot of the times when we see Kitchen being held, there's a lot of people on the horizontal that we have seen throughout most of this land. Like, yes, upstairs is quite important, and we'll see them try and contest that, but having somebody over in the security/office area is not a strange thing in the slightest.
Yep, absolutely the case here. So a bit of a slip up from BDS. Loses the anti-roam capability here, meaning DarkZero have a bit more freedom in that aspect as well to try and get aggressive against the remaining members of BDS and see if they can catch even more of them. Renshiro has made himself over towards the VIP area where he's going to start slapping open some holes down below into the Kitchen here. Nearly finds a player as well through that method, but unfortunately is going to miss the mark just a tad. That player will still return though to challenge the angle in the event that Renshiro or someone else from BDS wants to go back in towards an nade. Will roll in. Nearly is able to catch our player inside of Kitchen as well, but I think it banks a corner and heads away from NJR, keeping him safe for yet another potential engagement.
Now, it was an uncooked nade that Shaiko tossed. I didn't know necessarily what he was going to do with that. Whenever you tossed an uncooked nade, there's a lot of different ways that you can play around it. You can maybe try and make an aggressive play, you know, time it with the explosion, do a bunch of different things, make it hold door for you while you're doing other things. There's a bunch of different options, but for him, it seemed more or less like he just wanted to see if somebody was possibly going to get stuck with that and it could do some damage. But all the damage that has been done has actually been dealt onto Shaiko instead. BDS is going to get some top control and is actually going to pay off for them as Bride will get one. Eclipse will actually fire back onto BIOS though, so they'll keep their man advantage.
Shaiko incredibly low as well from another fight, so he's down with just a sliver of HP remaining. Renshiro and Bride going to have to do the large majority of the heavy lifting as they're the only ones that can really get into a team fight now. That is, of course, unless Shaiko just going to headshot every player he goes up against, stealing nearly as much life from Eclipse as has been taken away from himself earlier on, and coming close to taking out another player there as well, hiding behind the front desk over in the lobby. Renshiro trying to look for a clean path to get downstairs and maybe even finish off that player, but the hop down through the hatch a little bit too risky. Tries to open it up from behind instead, but won't find anything there. And now time is too low. BDS have no choice. They have to force their way in somehow. Bride is alone, pushing in through service door. Canadian starting to fend off the upstairs presence, and there you go. 3 players dead in a matter of a second or two, and DZ has no trouble whatsoever cleaning up the rest of that resistance.
Yeah, now that was a great round from DarkZero there. I really love their positioning that they had inside of the dying moments of that round. BDS couldn't find a single member. They walked into the crossfires that DC had set up for the entirety of the space that BDS had to actually walk through. So very well done from them. And that's going to be back-to-back rounds to tie us up here and prevent BDS from getting onto match point.
Penthouse is up next on the docket here for DarkZero as well, which means Mira is going to come into the fold. She made it out of the ban pool, and that means that Penthouse becomes a lot more viable to play into here, even with the more recent ways we've seen teams play into the site. It doesn't necessarily require her anymore, but still she can be a very, very nice addition if she is left available on those rare times.
And the recent buffs as well to the VIP space with the 2 new walls, as well as the bookshelf being extended in there as well to make it a little bit easier to play, just because it was actually pretty complex to play previously. Just having the window there for the circle couch room or VIP or whatever you guys want to call it was not fun in the slightest. Let me tell you, as somebody that had to man that area, it is probably one of the worst places to play in Siege in the way that it was previously. But now you can actually do things, which is good. The big thing though is that DarkZero might not actually want to do that in the moment. They don't have any wall denial, and that's the scary thing. Good news is that BDS don't exactly have the greatest hard destruction for walls. They have hard destruction, but obviously Habana is a little bit better at hatches. She'll still be able to break open the wall and get some vision in there that they can obviously abuse, but it's not going to be a massive hole like Thermite.
So for the members of BDS, they are going to continue to look for ways to find success on this attacking side. No major changes once again to the operator lineup, just a couple switches that we do get here and there. BIOS does bring the Lion into play, but that'll be swapped out for the Jackal as Lems goes back over towards Zofia.
Very interesting. Going to Castle Barricade Square here, make it to where the VIP Hall is much more playable. Saw that from BDS, or rather a team earlier on Coastline, reinforcing those windows and just making it harder to actually get any visual sight of what's going on so they can gather info very easily. Old version of Coastline, this rooftop was camped constantly, and usually it was camped by Lion with his DMR, just because of how much damage you could do with that thing. But nowadays, not so much. It's a lot more actually in the building gameplay, which is, I'm pretty sure, exactly what Ubisoft wanted when they remade this map. Make it to where people actually get inside of the building to play Coastline instead of killing half the team from the roof.
See, the X-Kairos is being used to quickly deal with the mirror window supporting the 90 hold here. Second one's a bit deeper in the site, so won't be able to immediately take that out yet, but we'll have the option to do so over the next few seconds once they're able to take a better Hall of Fame control for themselves and kind of build up the confidence to go for the swing in from there. That is, of course, assuming that we are going to see BDS try to use that position to pressure into the site here. It's fairly light near the site right now for BDS, only just now starting to kind of encroach upon it now that they've taken out that mirror window and have the capability to put more pressure on it, and there is a lot of extended pressure still to be made. However, Shaiko starts things out well here as he's able to get that nice little mine thrown in from below against Canadian, taking him out once again with a frag grenade.
And this is what we've been seeing this entire LAN, is how important frag grenades and the positioning of those overall are to the offense and how they're able to disrupt a lot of these defensive members. Canadian is the crux of this entire defense here, playing these mirrors inside of theater. Luckily enough, NJR is inside of this space. We're able to take at least some health away from Renshiro, but more nades pouring in now. NJR going to take a little bit of damage, but he's got a long road ahead of him here. Drone will be able to get some info, but he'll be able to tag that up. They still know that he's in this back space here, and Hyper with a cheeky angle all the way out towards Vase. Pambazu will actually be able to clean up that one, as actually Shaiko is the one to enter into, I believe, VIP.
Well, I'm still looking for an angle for himself to work with here against DZ, but no reason for them to show themselves. They continue to hold back, continue to bait out the time, and continue to look for kill opportunities as NJR is able to find out Bride and eliminate him, leaving the numbers a bit more even and a bit more in the favor of DarkZero here as we come down to the dying seconds of the round. And once again, BDS struggle to find any clear path forward here as DZ plays in that slow and methodical sort of setup that they are known for. Two trades continue to go out, but Lems with some big pickups here. Two of his own. His teammates found one also, so suddenly DarkZero been brought down to only NJR. He's going to be able to trip out one player, but a great reaction. It's BIOS. It's the coach to clutch it out. With only a few seconds left in the round, he gets the final kill and is going to be able to pick one up instead for BDS, pushing them up on the map point.
I'm an unofficial BIOS stan. I'm just going to put it out there. That was some fantastic stuff from him as BDS are able to clean it up there in the dying moments. All comes down to NJR, and he hits his beautiful shot initially, but this is where he gives up the bag, folks. He should have never have stood up right there. Him committing to that gunfight right there just ends up losing them the round overall, and that's one of those split-second decisions that just come back to bite you sometimes in Siege. So unfortunate there for DZ, but BDS finally able to get this 6th round after they've been struggling with it for the past 2.
Great stuff once again from BDS, able to finally find that clear path into the site, which had been kind of evading them on the previous ones that have been selected out by DarkZero.
Man, This scoreline from Hyper is just so poor, 3-7 at the moment, and you know it's very strange because we saw Hyper actually do pretty well, I would say, for our Stage 3 playoffs when it came to the the NAL. But as of right now and yesterday, I haven't seen a game from Hyper where I was like, oh yeah, Hyper's really on in the moment, and that might be due to the fact of just growing pains, like Canadian was talking about. They've been going through role changes and trying to get these things figured out, but it's made it to where Hyper just seems stale, for the time being.
That's real unfortunate too, because Hyper is generally a player we've known for being a positive contribution to his team. And
not only positive, but like disgusting. Like,
I was checking out there. Obviously we had Paula, I think, went like plus 1,000 or whatever, and just that game we had before with Team Liquid, and they posted those the leadership stats, and I know he was somewhere in that top 10 list as well, and they were like 5 or 6 in terms of the most positive players in the global Siege Pro community right now. So a little unfortunate that he's not able to find that performance, at least here in the first map. Potentially 2 more still to come, however, so his day may still yet be found.
Yeah, speaking of that list, Shaiko's on that list as well.
Oh, yeah.
Up there near the top. I think he was somewhere around like the 600 to 700 range, which is just insane. To possibly think that you have 1,000 more kills, but for Palu, 1,000 more kills than deaths inside of professional play, where people that are paid to play the video game are attempting to kill you, you have 1,000 more kills than you do deaths. That's just insanity.
That list had like a crazy drop-off too from Paula as well. I think Nesk was on there also, so 2 of them are players from Team Liquid.
He's at like 928.
First and second, and then it goes from like 1,800, and then it drops down to like 600 or something like that after that. So.
Imagine just casually having those 2 on your team. I'm just pointing that out. Like,
massive
come on,
stats
man.
to be sure. Here we go. Already at just the 2-minute mark, you can see BDS trying to quickly open things up over by the pool door. Gonna find out it's gonna be a bit more of a process than they were expecting, as you will see the Aruni laser gate blocking that one off, as well as now the main door gate being reignited here. So another piece of utility gonna need to be chucked in for BDS if they do want to get rid of it. Looks like they'll burn the Gemini to accomplish that.
Yeah, I was gonna say, we'll keep it real with you folks. It's not gonna be that big of a deal, mostly because they have the X-Skyros from Bride. That makes it to where these clearing of laser gates is very straightforward. Frag grenade in, it's gonna get eaten up by the ADS, but that's to be expected inside of that Sunrise space. Just unfortunate that Shaiko didn't have anybody there to burn that, but they still got plenty of time here. They're still looking into the site to see where they can possibly try and gather some information. Oh my god, Renshiro is so very close to removing the head of the player inside of Hookah. He's just tapping the walls here. Bios walks in, he'll remove the head of Pambazoo, and that's the top frag gone from DZ to the coach of BDS.
The coach of BDS is fragging out, it seems, here, approaching a positive KD, but Canadian going to be able to thankfully stop his wrath here inside of this first round as he trades him back out and sends us towards a 4v4. BDS, though, are suddenly holding back as a result of losing Bios' position. Not going to be able to get the Lion Scan, the EE1D charge out anymore, as they won't have good confirmation on the positions from anyone on DZ, and that seems to scare them away, wanting to use a bit more of their remaining time back, because they were going for a fairly early execute, to be fair, to maybe re-drone things and just recheck it before they go in.
Loving what we're seeing from Canadian here with the positioning in behind Sunrise. He knows that more than likely somebody's going to attempt to get aggressive here. If Shaiko hops this at all, he is done. That M590 will truthfully eat him alive. Eclipse with a nice prone angle inside of the actual space here, but oh my god, that's 2, and actually Canadian's gonna get bodied by Bride as he hops over. Eclipse with a trade, and now it's into Shaiko and Eclipse. The case control back in Shaiko's hands. Does he have a read onto the positioning of Eclipse though? Currently over inside of blue. Shaiko going to stick the plant, and he'll be able to get it off here in behind Sunrise. Eclipse seemingly unaware of this plant going on.
So plant gets itself onto the ground here, however, nearly leaning into it. If he crouches up, Eclipse should have his read on him here. Both players dodging each other. Shaiko sneaks off some important shots, but Eclipse reads into the peak and gets a triple on the round, as well saves DarkZero on this map as he pushes it into overtime. It's 6-6.
Eclipse was the only DZ member yesterday to light up the scoreboard, and he's here for the clutch moment up against one of the greatest fraggers in the history of Rainbow Six to push us into overtime. DarkZero able to keep us alive here on Coastline.
So we go the full distance on map number 1. Had to end yesterday with a full 3-map series that seemed to go just as far, and we may very well be in for another one here as well to end out day number 2. Both these teams hunting for some form of success in their group to try and solidify their position in the playoff bracket in just a few days' time. Both of them absolutely want to take the victory here, but only one can walk away with the lion's share of points. So let's see who gets the ultimate advantage by taking the first map here as we go into over overtime. 3 more rounds to decide who gets this one number 1.
DarkZero will be stuck onto defense yet again here for OT, as they'll be getting 2 rounds here. Just to explain to you guys how OT works, it is not max OT here, as DarkZero will have 2 defensive rounds as well as 1 offensive round. We'll switch back and forth every single time, so obviously it'll be vice versa for BDS.
All right, so back over to the kitchen again for the DarkZero camp in things. This kitchen went fairly well here for the members of DarkZero, able to obviously drop it on the first time, but great adjustment on the second attempt and won it confidently there. So going to be able to take control of it one more time, or at least attempt to be able to take the early advantage here in overtime and make that attacking round only an optional pickup here, as they'll obviously have the second defensive round to fall back on as well here. For BDS, in the meanwhile here, they're really going to have to keep their wits about them and make sure that they have the capability to close out on this one, as once again, DarkZero's already learned their tricks and what they were able to bring to the table on previous attacks here, so it really falls to them to make adjustments here.
Now BDS out and about. That's once again up as well. So see if we can get some more traction out of these EE1Ds. Some drones going on the top floor as they're looking to clear things out. Obviously, this is going to be the kitchen defense, as John was talking about, for DarkZero. So the abuse of the verticality is going to be paramount to their success. Renshiro looking to do some serious damage with that sledgehammer to this top floor. But I also be holding the angle for white stairs as of right now to prevent any of the DZ members from rotating upstairs from lobby. But it doesn't really seem like they want anything to do with that in the current moment anyways.
Just seeing so far, only the initial clear coming in from BDS, as they're once again going to work on that top-down control, sledging out the angles, and this is honestly where we've seen the first kill come from quite often here. Either BDS over-aggressing their position here, getting caught out by something like a Nitro Sellers to player with a good angle from the bottom side, or quite obviously the opposite happening with BDS able to isolate out a member of DZ. Neither going to occur here, though, as DarkZero have avoided all positions that have been opened up by BDS here. Really only one player from DarkZero full committed in the site at this point. That's their smoke, which could obviously delay the push should he get aggressed upon, but not anymore. We're going to see him get knocked out here by Renshiro as he finally locks onto his angle, and that should be calling for the rest of DarkZero to quickly get back in position, as they no longer have any capability to lay against an execute.
Very well done, but the issue as of right now for DZ, although I don't know if BDS knows this, is that they're completely evacuated from the site. Canadian is the closest man here as he's sitting in jungle at the bottom of Vibes. Alems will pick up Hyper, who, yet again, just not having a good game. 3-9 in the current moment. They desperately need him to step up and get something for the team as BDS is starting to pull ahead. Alems almost able to take out Pambazoo, but Pambazoo is better inside of the situation. Alems not able to land shots in any critical way.
Saving the player count a little bit here. Messy rotate for Shikos, who does have to dump some ammo to be able to open that up a bit more, and that's a huge bell being rung, allowing for Eclipse to get into position with plenty of advance warding to instead take him out, instead of allowing once again for Shiko to make that transition and get into a more powerful position here. 35 seconds remain. BDS still need to make a lot of forward momentum, and yeah, they've got some early damage onto Eclipse, but you can see this for 2 of their players. They have virtually 0 positioning to play from here and are really going to have to fight for every inch, as DarkZero has the full playground for the most part at their disposal. With only 20 seconds left, however, BDS are going to strike true, finding their opener against Panba. Canadian quick on the trade, though, keeps the numbers even at a 2v2. Bio's hunting for the player closer towards blue, but can't seem to find him. They have no idea of Eclipse's position either. Low HP, it doesn't matter. He's going to knock out the coach, leaving just Renshiro without much of a hope of being able to push his way in. And no case control, the timer will run out, and DarkZero will take the first round of overtime.
Yeah, very awkward round there for BDS overall, especially for Shiko, as he probably wasn't very happy about having to clean up the defense's rotates to be able to use it. He's like, I guess I'll have to do it myself. He's just like knocking out the bottom half of the wall. But as you said, that was just the dinner bell being rung for the defense of DZ, as they'll be able to get not only him, but the remainder of the BDS members and claim that round. Now pulling ahead once again here as they'll try and win out Coastline here on their offensive side.
Kitchen is going to be the choice site once again for BDS. We'll return to that one more time here as they also look to try and leverage their own defensive round to push us all the way to number 15 here, where all the cards we laid out on the table to potentially determine our winner. A 6-pick will come in here, although it's not going to be a huge game changer, just moving from one form of clear utility to another as Canadian goes once again over towards a Zofia this time around. Setup from BDS shouldn't be too crazy either. A lot of the same pictures being brought in that we saw from DarkZero just in the previous round. Even an Oryx being replicated here from a Lems as well to either open up those rotates or add that additional rotation pressure and just overall vertical pressure with his ability to move upstairs at will through the open hatches.
Well, looking a little deeper into the site setup here, we will have the stacking of utility from BIOS and Shaiko to try and prevent as many throwables from coming into service area. Also have some Banshees along for the ride and the likes of Renshiro, so slowing down DarkZero's entry will be a pretty big boon for them if they're able to do so. Some mute jammers around as well, just for some prevention of info and other things, to see exactly what will be able to do for them inside of the round. Also got some proxies here on Lems as well, so information abound for BDS to possibly abuse going into this possibly final round.
Makes sense for Lems to be able to have those motion detectors, just considering he's going to be playing for a very wide amount of real estate.
Well, if he uses them.
Yeah, that's the other part here. He hasn't actually chucked either one of them out yet, so very well could have accidentally just had those selected here if we weren't expecting him to play on the Oryx. That's a possibility. Keep in mind, folks, that our players are on a completely different version of the game than they would play at home. So considering that, they do have to reset all their kits and whatnot when they log in.
That's funny. Well, my disc ended up catching the smoke, so it just pops it up on the actual like ceiling. It always
that won't work too well for the attackers here.
It's a one-way for Shaiko.
It's a one-way for the Shaiko and the rest of BDS, though. So BDS will certainly be happy with
We never get to talk about one-ways in this game either, so that's something that we never see inside of Siege.
You're not really able to purposefully set them up to your advantage under most circumstances there, especially for these magnets, as you have no idea what type of nade is going to be thrown at those. So
like one big old Nimbus just sitting there.
When it does happen, it's a complete accident, unfortunately. So very rarely does it end up being plumed, and very rarely even further will it ever be challenged. We're going to continue to see Lems just waddle his way around the map, and he did actually chuck out those motion sensors, by the way, so is using them in some capacity. I don't think to too much effectiveness, though, as DarkZero is not looking like they're going to put too much pressure upstairs. Up until now here, Pan, but getting the read onto a Lems and just shredding him from the long-range drone spot. Nicely done. Doesn't even need a teammate to do that. Does the whole job by himself.
Now, the question, is this it? DarkZero have taken full control of the top floor. They've gotten rid of Lems, which was the nuclear option for this top floor attack, and now BDS have to try and play this out from the site and horizontally. We can see a player all the way across the map trying to motion up blue stairs right now. That's Renshiro. He's made it inside of Hookah, and now trying to transition over into the actual billiard space. So he's found some area to work around inside of this area. Could possibly get some crossfire going in over towards Guitar, as Shaiko trying to pre-fire the sledge upstairs as they're continuing to limit this time.
Like going into a wild goose chase with that spray right there, trying to see if he can maybe get lucky with a few bullets, but not going to happen. And the things just continue to get worse here, unfortunately, for BDS. 2 more kills roll in from DarkZero. BIOS and Renshiro, the only ones left. Renshiro strikes true, but BIOS is knocked down, and Canadian follows up with one more of his own. It's going to be DarkZero rebounding to take control of the opening map of the series as they go up 1-0 against BDS.
Oh, fantastic stuff from both squads, but BDS not able to pull it out with their coach. And fortunately enough for Hyper, the team there to be by his side and help inside of this game. A huge dub from Pambazoo, especially 18-9-2 for him.
That's actually no fault of the coach either. He played his heart out here, actually kept up with Renshiro in terms of fragging potential, and still is, I'm assuming, working on fulfilling it with, adding his strategical insight and whatnot into things every once in a while as well. So he's fulfilling some leadership duties, I would assume, at this point for the game also. So certainly doing the best to fill in under bad circumstances, but just not enough inside of our first map here, as DarkZero are ultimately able to come back with some nice plays here in overtime to control.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting moving over to Villa because it's a completely different kind of map. Coastline, it's a very aggressive space, especially when it comes to the offensive side. There's a lot of different ways you can force the defense into doing the things that you want, but that's for another time. We're trying to get to Villa as quickly as we can, folks. We want a conclusion to this best of 3, so we're going to send you to a little break, and we'll be right back.
DarkZero able to wiggle their way out of trouble over map number 1, and now they get ready to jump into our second map. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Six Invitational group stage for 2022. We are only in day 2 of our group stage, and the matches have already shown themselves to be some of the best we've ever seen in Siege history. Looking once again to get ourselves more teams pushed through into the playoff stage. We have 2 great teams facing off against each other once again. BDS and DarkZero about to jump into their second map on Villa. Stokes, what do you make of the series now as we get ready to go into map number 2? What change-ups do we need to see from both of our teams here to close out? What does DarkZero need to do to win this one? What does BDS need to do to come back?
That's a lot of questions. I
left it open for you. You could say whatever the heck you want, and it probably fits. So,
well, you know what? I would say that I could use my notes. I'm just going to metaphorically toss this since this is very expensive, but throw those out the window because it really doesn't matter. BDS has their coach in. DarkZero wasn't playing hot yesterday. They're playing a lot better today, especially for Canadians' sake, thank God. But for Pambazoo especially, lighten up the scoreboard. Look at that cost. 93% from him with a rating of a 1.4. Honestly, I think this is DarkZero's series to lose, but that doesn't mean that BDS can't play spoils for the second map.
Here's a number of rounds where Pambazoo was the opening frag for the team as well, picking up that momentum and allowing them to move forward. And keep in mind, we saw some very, very slow, static plays. That one opening kill ended up being a massive deal in a huge number of those rounds there. Just the ability to take that 5v4 advantage into a gunfight towards the end of it and trade your way to victory ended up allowing for teams to win multiple times there. We saw that happen a few times for BDS as well. You can see, though, their entry stats a little bit worse for where there's Shaiko, the only one able to go positive at +1.
Yeah, also, just compare those costs really quickly. I mean, no one on BDS being nearly as effective as DZ, but also the round count coming into play here as well. 8 to 6. That means that a lot of these were just a slow grind for BDS, where a lot of different players were getting things figured out in different rounds, not one person just pulling ahead of everybody else.
Absolutely the case here. So we've got everybody from DarkZero sitting back down now, getting ready to hop in for that second map on Villa. One that, again, we've seen plenty of play from here over the course of our tournament so far. 2 more teams about to jump into it one more time here. BDS coming into it had some great stats to look at on that previous map, but unfortunately not able to hold up again. Of course, considering the circumstances they are playing under, those stats may not be holding as true as they would have a few days ago. But for DarkZero, we can look back towards them, and thankfully they were able to go for the controlling number of rounds there over on Coastline, a map that they've had a bit of a rocky history on over the past few months. And now we get ready to head into their own map pick for this second one here, where once again, they've been pulling out a lot of experimentation as of late, and it's been leading to quite some success. So as soon as we get them all back in and ready to go, and as soon as they're finished warming up the hand warmers there, we'll be good to begin our second engagement.
I'm hoping that we can see a little bit more out of Hyper when it comes to Villa. I think that Coastline just put him in a position where he really couldn't do what he necessarily wanted, and Villa's going to have a little bit more options, a little bit more room to breathe, you could say, for Hyper to achieve some more things up against BDS, because he's one of the mainstay fraggers for this team, man. When you look at DarkZero and you talk about this team for the last 2 years, he is the one mainstay name that you hear about every single single time. And I would hate for him to go by the wayside, especially at a time like this when they've just picked up Canadian and the team's looking to try and make a comeback.
A little bit of an on and off performance from some of the other members of BDS as well. You're not really able to rely on them in any given round here. You've got players like Breeda and whatnot that are able to show up, find some massive impact every once in a while, but then fading away quickly after that, leaving Shaiko once again as that solid rock to be able to try and pull that off throughout most of the rounds. But even he's struggling with some problems there, getting focused out, and oftentimes the first death for the team as well. They're leaving him in a bit of a rough spot from time to time.
Absolutely the case. And now BDS, folks, as they're getting back into the chairs and getting set for war. Bios having a pretty solid game, I would say, for Coastline. It could have definitely have been worse. And speaking of worse, Renshiro really not showing up inside of the kill department there. We saw Bios with some very nice crosses being established and being quite helpful inside of that department. But past that, it was really up to him to try and apply pressure with those EE1Ds on offense. We didn't get to see too much out of him on defense. It was definitely the offensive side where he was getting a lot done.
So we're going to be heading into Villa next. Thematically, this map shares some similarities and also plays a little bit differently depending on the site you pick into. First big difference is I think the size of this map. This one is very big. A lot more room, both vertically and horizontally, for players that are extended out from the original defensive setup to potentially mess with the attacker's lineup. Also, a much more heavily cluttered map, in my opinion, so utility can be hidden a lot more proficiently. You've got a lot more props and doorways and whatnot, awkward angles that get in the way of things, so that can lead to some situations where you'll have wild swings for the defense that work out well in their favor, and some issues with the attackers trying to push players out of more hard lock positions, such as the gun vault inside of AVG and areas like that. So lots of complexities to dig into, and we'll be talking plenty more about that once we get started with this round in just a second.
Yeah, I'm sure we're going to have quite a few little intricacies to talk about, because that's just usually how Villa breaks down, is you have some very awkward things happen around the map that ends up being, well, via what you're talking about, whether it be through the basement or through some utility that was mismanaged, things like that. There's a lot of different ways that this can end up going. And in fact, we've seen some interesting Villas, let alone yesterday, today as well, with Team Liquid and SSG having a pretty good match earlier.
Even our final match yesterday as well, SSG's initial match over on Villa.
That was
ended up being
so much fun.
A whole boatload of fun, especially again, we were having things like the Nook sneaking in through the basement, through like that barrel opening, and then going up through the red stairs, jumping on like 3 players out of nowhere, stuff like that. It got absolutely chaotic. That whole series is definitely one to go back and watch.
Don't forget about Team 1 and Alamel literally rappelling down the skylight.
Oh yeah,
to get the final kill for their game today. Like, things you don't expect in a professional game, rappel down the skylight of Red Hall. So, I mean, it is what it is. If it works, then we really can't argue against it. And that's just kind of how the cookie crumbles. Either way, folks, we just got everybody into the lobby, so we are moments away from hopping into Villa.
Keep in mind, once again, what's on the line for both of these teams. BDS searching for the glory that has so long evaded them. DarkZero hunting for the same thing. Canadian looking for redemption after going into a temporary retirement earlier on in 2021 as well. Coming back to lead DarkZero after, obviously, a very, very long stay on Space Station Gaming, where he was able to push that team onwards towards a hammer themselves inside of 2020. But since then, things have grown rough for him personally here. Even jumping onto the DZ roster, haven't found a whole lot of success on this new team as of yet here, so the pressure is on for him to make this team perform at a huge Tier 1 event like this.
Yeah, and honestly, they've had enough time now. Canadian's been with the team about 6 months. They've been able to sit here and get used to their play style, but as he was talking about in their video earlier, it seems as though they were really only able to get their footing a little bit after the Sweden Major, so really, they're still coming into their own. There's still going to be growing pains. That's what we've been talking about with Hyper especially, is that we really want to see more out of him. But as for the rest of the team, it looks like it's really clicking, especially for NJR and Pambazu's case.
Yeah, I talked with Canadian a couple months ago about this as well, and he seemed to be alluding to the fact that the team was primarily focusing on kind of debuting themselves as a Tier 1 team at this event, that Sweden and all the other smaller tournaments like the NAL Finals and whatnot that they were playing into was not a huge concern for them, not a priority essentially, that they were saving everything up for one big tournament here and now at SI. So looking to once again make their mark. and once again try to lift that hammer for Canadian personally what would be a third time. We'll have to see if they can do it, as the prospects, unfortunately, are not looking that great coming into the event.
No, not at all. And I mean, if he was able to somehow completely flip the script on us and lift up that third hammer, he would be the only person to ever do that, which would be truly insane. And probably something that Pengu would be like, I really can't believe that just happened. But I mean, hey, it is what it is. I personally would love to see it, especially with a storyline that we could possibly get out of something like this and what we've seen from them so far in the group stage.
So once again, guys, apologies for the delay with getting things started. We have been told it should be beginning relatively soon here. I think we'd had to have 1 or 2 players' PCs get checked or something like that. I know we saw someone on BDS's side calling.
Somebody check NJR's MOS files.
Might have been holding us up for a minute or two here.
Just doing too well.
Yeah, really. Apologies for that delay, folks. Like I said, though, we are looking to get this started as soon as humanly possible. Keep in mind, of course, we still have a potential third map to come if Villa should end up going into the hands of BDS.
Well, as soon as we head to sunny Italy, and we will know exactly who is going to end up taking this, but Coastline overall for BDS, not the greatest showing across the board for any of these members. We touched on it previously about the cost of the team, and no one really showing up in a huge capacity. Shaiko, yes, finding quite a few kills, but almost the same amount of deaths in the same breath.
Yeah, I'd be curious to see if teams are going to try to add a bit more of, I would say, like aggressive pacing into this one, because it was incredibly passive, I would say, for both teams in terms of how they were trying to play their rounds throughout the large majority of that first map. No one ever really trying to start things out with a bang, force themselves into an engagement or anything like that. And that allowed for both the defenders and attackers to just play this slow roll game where nobody really wanted to commit to anything until they had full information. And defenders just never, for the most part, really wanted to poke out towards anything at all, except for that 1 or 2 players extending themselves away from the site. And even then, they tended to play in a pretty passive positions or just outright gave up those extended spots if the pressure became too much to potentially contend with here. So curious to see if BDS maybe more than anyone wants to try and shake that up as we head over towards Villa.
It's definitely going to be a hard-fought match here for them as they are walking into the Lion's Den. DarkZero's map choice here is Villa, so we'll see if they're able to try and right things here as they're able to take things in overtime on the initial map 8-6 and looking to close this out in 2-0 fashion, guaranteeing themselves 3 points. As we look down to Eclipse and Hyper, as the entire team seems pretty happy here. You definitely got to be happy for Eclipse, especially as this is a man that doesn't get talked about too often, especially in the entire history of him being on a multitude of different rosters like Rogue from NA of all things, and you know, now DarkZero, where he's been able to achieve more of the same thing. He's that silent killer, that ace in the hole that you have that could possibly come back at any moment and guarantee you a round.
And important to mention that DarkZero's roster has obviously evolved quite a bit over the last 12 months or so, adding a lot more new blood onto the team as well. Most notably, of course, NJR coming into it earlier on in the year, and then right around summer, if memory serves me correctly, Panbazoo got added as a complete rookie as well, pulling himself up from the CL ranks in North America, and certainly showing his strength as easily one of the top, if not the top prospect, coming in fresh this year into the NAL.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, the one person you can never miss about talking about when it comes to DZ as well is that man that you just saw walking behind everybody with the shiny head. It's Brandon Carr, BC, the big-brained man himself, with some of the most dastardly grenade tosses that we have ever seen. And funny enough, it really seems as though everyone has taken a page out of his book in the current meta, because back in the day, that's exactly what we saw out of Brandon Carr constantly. Big, beautiful frag grenades. And that's what we see a lot of the time now, ladies and gents. But enough has been said about these teams, folks. We've got Villa on the docket. Let's get into it, as it's Team BDS versus DarkZero, who's up 1-0 over the French team.
DarkZero looking for the closeout, and BDS looking to push this to a third map. Who will come out on top? Well, we are about 12 to 15 rounds away from deciding. Let's go ahead and see who will be able to take the crown this time in Italy as we get into it and get into the ban tier. BDS has the first and final ban. Those are the 2 outer ones. DarkZero has the 2 middle ones that'll be orange on your screen. Let's get into it, though, and see who the first attacker to be knocked out is. We've seen some interesting bans today already, and we might get another one here to start things out. Not going to be too crazy considering this specific tournament, but still new for this tournament. Finka getting knocked out as she's become quite prevalent for quite a few teams.
Do we break it down for him again?
I can go in. Been a while.
Fika sucks to play against. No, I'm kidding. She's really, really good in the moment. Not only frag grenades, but a big old LMG, and also this adrenal surges that not only counter your recoil, also give you more health, and the health stays now where it used to not, but she's still also countered out by smoke, but we're not going to have to worry about that, because obviously she's been removed. Thatcher going to be the other ban. Mira coming through for DarkZero. These both make a lot of sense on any map that you apply it to, really, because they're both so very potent. BDS with the last game-changing choice here, as what do they want to remove away from themselves initially, but obviously DarkZero will have to deal with when they get to their defensive side. It's going to be Valkyrie, which makes so much damn sense because of what you talked about earlier about Villa and the way that you can hide these cameras around practically anywhere.
Yep, absolutely the case. Valkyrie still, at least was, I should say, a comfort pick for a lot of players going back like 6 or 8 months ago before she was a super popular ban, maybe even further back than that at this point. But yeah, probably not the case so much anymore, more so for the fact that it's just this specific map and how she can very capably hide those cameras quite easily.
It's like here, Oregon, honestly, John, it's like half the map pool, I'll be honest with you. It's
just like the kind of like older ones. I've noticed that like a lot of the newer ones are starting to shift away from a more cluttered map philosophy, so she just kind of is universally less useful because of that. But a lot of the older ones that have had reworks, or haven't had reworks rather, in more recent years, I think are still favoring her quite heavily for that reason.
Yeah, one of the map design philosophies now is actually decluttering these maps quite often, and that's something that we've seen them talk about recently. And you might even hear more about with some of the panels here coming later on in the coming days here at the Six Invitational, because ladies and gents, this is our biggest event of the year for Rainbow Six. Somebody's got to lift a damn hammer, and well, we got to talk about some other interesting things as well as the Year 7 roadmap and stuff like that. There's a lot of interesting stuff for Siege fans at home, so make sure you guys are tuned into our social medias to know when that's going to be going on. But luckily enough, we are through all of the boring parts of this, which is getting into the actual map. We're here now for round 1 between BDS and DarkZero, as BDS will be setting up AVG. Alems will be on Vigil all the way across the map, currently scuttering his way across dirt, or rather mud.
So let us see here now for BDS if the defensive side is going to give them the advantage they need to push ahead here in the first 6 rounds of play, or if DarkZero a little bit washed right past that regardless here. You see a potential early contention coming out here. Somebody wants to try and challenge over towards Pantry, and they do. Canadian and Alems both steal some damage away from each other, but Canadian comes out as a true winner of that engagement. Alems barely saving his life. Thankfully, he made the judgment call to back away, so he will live to fight another day. Just not with a whole lot of HP left.
Yeah, I better be thanking the devs for that nerf to the C7E, because without that, he is dead to rights in that moment. Luckily enough for him, though, he'll be able to stay on 1 HP and exist for a little while longer. But Pambazoo might actually have an opportunity to down him with this drone if they don't end up catching it. It doesn't do very much damage, but Alems just so happens to not have very much HP.
Certainly the case here. He's going to have to continue to try and lock in some type of advantage to be able to knock him out, but keeps himself in the fight at a minimum. And yeah, was able to keep that roaming pressure out against Canadian as well, so it's still going to damage him for something a little bit later on in the round, make him a bit weaker for any fight he might be able to take. Things continue to broil down on the timer. Neither team really too close to a huge engagement just as of yet. Eclipse actually with some great drone intel there. Catches the waltz up over towards Study. Is going to prevent a potential slip-up that could have happened from DarkZero's side if they were not able to spot that and allow for an early kill to go through in the favor of BDS, as they're aggressively hunting for any type of way to get an advantage here before they'll be forced back into the depths of the site in that last minute or two of play. The frag grenades continue to roll in, however, this one going to find another player from below, as it's Shaiko that gets knocked out. So in addition to the damage done to Alems from before, they now have lost arguably their most consistent fragger here, putting BDS in a rough position for the late round play.
Blood rose there for Shaiko, so he'll be taken down, unfortunately, from underneath. Frag grenade eats him up, and already 2 minutes off the board here. Doesn't even feel like we've been in the round that long, but yes, it has dwindled down to this already. Luckily enough for DZ, obviously, they've already dealt some damage, but now they need to hop 2. Looks like they want to try and get control of 90, but obviously they could default out and go for a vault plant. Only issue is that, well, actually, no utility here for them to really use. BIOS didn't switch over to a Nitro Cell, but oh man, did he slap the brakes off of Pambazoo. Hyper will be able to take down Renshiro, though, so they'll maintain the man advantage.
30 seconds remaining here for BDS with a low player count. They're going to be starting to feel a little bit more relieved as we get closer towards. The problem is that relief will certainly turn to dread in a moment. Eclipse able to sneak in a plant from behind the map table because of good smoke presence and a lack of enough player presence from BDS to do anything about that. It goes down on the ground. Lems is finally eliminated here. A smooth response from Brede to be able to take out NJR, but it's a small gesture at this point. He's got so much more work to do. I believe there's even a player on Repel potentially outside still that he would have to contend with here that I saw a few moments ago. Either way, though, Brede slowly losing any and all opportunity to be able to clutch this one out, and as well, soon to be out of time with only about 15 seconds left to be able to get on that counter defuse. There we go. Canadian finds the final shot needed against him to close out the round and give it to DarkZero.
Yeah, just not the best extension there from BDS, and it ends up punishing them in a very serious way. DarkZero just dealing way too many damaging blows to BDS that ended up showing up later on in some pretty serious bruises coming down to the last member, trying to deal with all of the DZ presence around the site with that case planted at the vault door. Very well done from DZ to hop inside of sight and realize what BDS had going on for them. Super unfortunate that we didn't see the proper utility usage from BDS out of that either, as they had zero prevention for that kind of situation.
It is going to look like we'll just have a reattempt of the AVG hold coming in from BDS, as they had it quite close, thinking that maybe if they pull it back, play things a little bit more passively, and avoid the early contest that led to the elimination of quite a few powerful players like Shaiko, and ultimately another one of their players being brought down to just a sliver of HP as well. They might be able to just barely control things here. In addition to that, Thunderbird is going to come into the fold also, so a much more site-focused setup going to be in play for this entire team.
Yeah, and that's really what we need to highlight here, is that this is an entire switch up inside of strategy from what they had previously. We're no longer going to have a huge extension of bodies over without utility on site to assist them. Yes, we are going to have some reinforcements over here to be able to play around and try and slow down DarkZero with this north side take, just because BDS recognized that they went for that the last time. So obviously it makes a lot of sense to try and get in front of them and slow them down as much as possible and try and force them over to a study take if you possibly can. But for BDS, it's better to have this utility around the actual site to be able to assist themselves and also prevent this plant from going down. Again, they had zero preventing utility for that last setup. So really like what we're seeing out of BDS inside of round 2.
Viper continuing to hold himself back and just opening up those few barricades, which will be free for the picking here to make sure that once again they can get any audio cues of players from BDS potentially encroaching on those windows, and on top of that as well, start to kind of establish positions for themselves. Maybe chuck in drones through here. Just that usual posturing when we get inside of the opening few seconds of the round here. But although Alem's going to try to immediately challenge that over here towards the mudroom, only be able to take out the Gemini though and just deny the intel, not going to outright actively contest. We saw how poorly that went for BDS in the last round, so they're not too keen to potentially rerun that script this early on.
Pre-fire from Alems here, seemingly aware that people are inside of the living room space, and he would be right. Another drone here. Won't be able to get it just yet as it is at his feet, but they've made it to the door. Hyper will lose his life as he oversteps into the door frame. And can Alems get 2 here? Oh, they've got info on this as well. He'll slap Pambazoo, and that's going to be a double kill for him as DarkZero don't have the pinch. They simply have the back end cut off. They'll be able to take one as they're looking towards main stairs for their second.
NJR works himself forward there with a nice trade, finally stopping the bleeding here, and this time now leaving BDS in a fairly powerful position after the initial fights fade away here. A 4v3 for them, and they'll be more than confident enough to keep a few players leaned out from the site, but certainly no need to try and outright egress against the members of DarkZero or aggress against them to be able to take one of them down outright here. On top of that, DarkZero still has plenty of utility to dish out, as we're going to see that now coming in from the floor as some of those explosive drones working their way forward to deal with some of these Goyo shields and the normal deployable shields that stand in the way, specifically over toward the top of the bookcase shelf.
Well, this will allow DZ to at least clamber up the stairwell and start to hold on to this space as well as study. And this is what we were talking about at the very beginning with the setup extended over towards the north side of the map, is that this is more than likely going to force DZ over towards the study side, but this is exactly what BDS wanted in their case. Renshiro being very smart with his placement on top of the billiards table. That's going to keep him alive from that frag grenade, but that was more aimed towards the deployable shield up top, just trying to clear up some more utility. But look at this time right now, John. 30 seconds remaining for DZ to actually get in towards the space. Canadian trying to go for something a little later on towards the north side that could seriously assist them inside of this situation.
20 seconds left, though. Very quickly, DarkZero have pretty much run out of time. They know they've got a player sitting over here, I believe, by death's door as well, so they're going to be trying to be cautious of that. They'll catch Bios over on red stairs in the meanwhile, but Shaiko swings right out from death's position, and a few more trades transpire until ultimately the numbers favor out into the favor of BDS. Once again, calling back to what we said before, that initial kill or two proving itself to be very, very important because of how scrappy some of these final fights are. It ultimately just comes down to a numbers game in quite a few of these rounds, with that last one being no exception.
It's a 1-1 now here between BDS and DZ in a round that really should have been DarkZero's at the end of the day. This exchange with the Lems down low, just not very well handled, I'll be honest with you. We're going to have a tech pause here, folks, as we get some things figured out. We'll get our player back in here for the BDS lineup. It'll only take us a moment, but there's plenty of stuff to talk about that actually happened inside of that previous round, past just a Lems getting that double down low. DarkZero still had a pretty serious opportunity to take that round once they started to collapse to towards the top of red stairs and work towards bus door, but obviously a little bit of a miscommunication goes on there with the positioning of the other player past the red stairs, where they end up still getting caught off guards, and Shaiko is not only able to kill the red player, but also kill Canadian that swings in from bench.
Some quick work there. We do have the player who had the issue for BDS reconnected into the server, so I think just confirming that the issue is no longer present. And then we will unpause the game and get ourselves back into the action. There we go. It has been unpaused, so I think we are good to rock and roll here, folks, as we head into yet another site hold here for the members of BDS, finally moving onwards from AVG, as quite obviously they've locked it in now with them winning the most recent round, and instead heading over towards the other second floor site on the other side of the map. Over to Trophy and Statuary, not choosing to fool around with either the kitchen or the living room just as of yet. They'll save that for a tertiary site if they go on a streak here and win this round as well.
Trophy Stat is the name of the site that DZ will be pushing into. Some 6 picks coming out from both sides, as we will have Flores added here for Canadian especially, and Ride switching off of something and going over to Kaid instead, as he'll be holding on to the triple wall for as long as possible with those electro claws.
Certainly the case. Aside from that, going to be seeing the usual rotations go down from BDS here, and some boosters to be able to allow those positions to maybe last a little bit longer, or take that extra bullet or two in a gunfight, which could ultimately make up the difference. We'll see those Kona stations going down. For instance, you saw one behind the Astro desk that allows a player to hold out there for a little bit of extra time. Other positions too being played into, such as I believe they'll rotate over inside of Statuary there on the way back out. So plenty of spots for BDS to utilize and take some gunfights to hopefully gain an advantage versus DarkZero. DarkZero, though, going for their usual clear as well now that they are out and about on the map here. A couple of them working their way up onto the master balcony. We'll be able to start clearing that out. Not the only place we see pressure from this team, though. They are watching out for early aggression once again in areas like Mudroom and whatnot, as they want to send a few players in both that direction, maybe even over towards Kitchen too, to start clearing out from the bottom and putting additional pressure on the Astro stairs.
The info is going to be big here for DZ. We really want to see them lean into this and try and get a solid read as to what BDS is doing inside of this space. If they overstep, Shaiko will surely deliver the killing blow here from Concrete, as he can possibly just swing in and body as many DZ members inside of this space as humanly possible. And as we all know, if there was one human to do it, it would indeed be him. Nades out now for Hyper, as he'll try to nade construction. He'll clean up the barbed wire here, as well as the ADS that I do believe was inside of that space as well. Canadian focusing his efforts over towards Astronomy, as he'll clean up not only the barbed wire, but also the ADS over in the corner at the top of Astro Stairs.
So, see that Flores trying to work itself in and quickly dispatch the barbed wire. That's one path open for DZ to try and utilize. Panba trying to jump his Twitch drone up into the skylight area and slowly sneak it down here. This is some nice vertical descension coming in from him. Trying to see if he can figure out.
So smart.
Yeah, trying to see if he can figure out where the Electroclaw is going to be positioned at. Having some trouble finding it, but it should be pretty obvious, and unfortunately won't work out, as he'll end up hopping a little bit too close towards it there, and he'll end up losing that drone. But can try that again with another one as well, and more than likely sneak it off this time, but has to obviously try and locate the position of that Electroclaw before trying it again.
Well, it's obviously not up top. The reason I was saying that's so smart, by the way, is because of what they did to the Twitch drones, to where they now have infinite range. So if he saw the Electroclaw up top, he could literally just sneak it on like the little wooden, like, you know, 2x4 on the outside of that, and just shoot him from out there instead, which is incredibly big brain. I haven't seen seen anybody do that just yet. So really like that idea there from DZ, but obviously BDS thinking one step ahead. They've definitely seen somebody do that, as they'll put them in the floor instead, and DZ will have to try and figure out another avenue of attack as we're down to 40 seconds.
And Joe are going to begin the process of creeping forward. Renshiro will hear that, as he did not necessarily take out the barbed wire before moving forward. The nade bounces right off him, and there's another frag grenade pickup. I'm surprised we're not seeing more play towards operators like Wamai to counter that one out. So many frag grenade kills over the course of this tournament, just over the last 2 days here, and it's going to continue to roll out here. Another one found by Eclipse, but the trades are now coming in for BDS. 3 in a row for them before Canadian finally responds and evens out the numbers, but Heat 2 back down on the ground. NJR puts us back down into another dead Heat 1v1 with just a few seconds left here, and all the pressure now goes to NJR here. He needs to find a way to get the case down onto the ground or force the issue on this plant, but the swing from BIOS as the coach does it again in the 1v1, and he's got reason to be hyped up right now as he is carrying his team forward on to victory, letting them hold on in this series.
I could just see the console kid energy from this guy as he is just yelling at the camera. He's like, that's what you get. That's what you get. When you come at me with a sorry receiver like Crabtree, that's what you're going to get. Oh, man, this is fantastic what we're seeing from BDS, and especially from BIOS. What a clutch from him. And you got to give it to the man. His number's been called up for BDS. He was expecting to stand behind these people, folks. He was not expecting to have to plug his MNK in and do the dirty deeds himself.
Might get a double contract in a few weeks here.
Yeah, dude, double of the pay? That's what I'm saying, right? Like, hey, guys.
Someone for BDS is like, oh, I don't know about double. Hold on.
Whoa. Slow it down there, Stokes. You're not controlling the budget, all right? Relax.
Either way, a heroic effort being brought in from BIOS here, filling in under obviously not the greatest circumstances,
He's got the most frags
doing what he can do, and as Stokes just said, yeah, currently the frag leader for BDS after 3 rounds of played out here on our second map.
He's out-fragging literally everyone in the lobby except NJR. This is awesome. I love everything about this right now. Apparently it took Villa. That is apparently the energizing thing for BIOS right now, as he's been able to hit some very serious frags and carry BDS to this moment as of right now. We're about halfway through this side now, folks. This has actually been acting pretty quick, even though the timer's been dwindling pretty fast. Both of these teams have been pretty active. There's been a lot going on. Very exciting map in comparison to what we were seeing a lot on Coast.
BDS going to go for the 3-peat here now as they'll lock in that tertiary site downstairs in the kitchen. And going to see actually a very similar flare brought to the table. Lots of delay utility, obviously, but still keeping the Thunderbird in check so they can play it very close to the site and use those Coda stations to quickly boost themselves up if they get involved in a fight with DarkZero a little bit too far out and have to fall back and regenerate themselves. We already saw that happen a few times as well back on Coastline, and they never brought it in there. A map that we've actually seen quite a bit of Thunderbird deployment from some other teams, specifically Sonics in North America. Have become a big fan of that one. Regardless, we got DarkZero inching closer towards the site here as they're approaching red with their drones and not too far behind with the actual players also.
I wish that we had a camera on us right now so you guys could see my stupid grin, because BIOS is on this extension over into Library of all places, playing prevention for this space. He's got the single panel, or actually both of the panels rather, reinforced here for art, so this is going to make it to where Canadian has to go in through the library door instead into the main living space. Canadian also got a drone on him as BIOS will be forced back over towards Grandfather and up towards Astro. He's actually going to work his way in towards the stairwell here, so he'll be able to abuse the basement of Villa, which is a place that isn't very often occupied by anybody on the offense. Eclipse was down there for a little while apparently, but he's actually going to vacate that as he rotates back up at the halfway mark.
So going to continue to see the time trickle down just past the halfway mark here. Once again, DarkZero still looking to build up that confidence needed to get themselves into the site to really pull any type of move here, since BDS is not going to be giving away all that much. We are going to see a drone get stolen away by a successful pest placement there. DarkZero not even able to catch the warning, unfortunately, as the drone had far too quickly. That one, though, yeah, is going to be in a great position and be able to find out a little bit of intel against what BDS is currently trying to throw at them. And oh no, the timing on that one. The nade being primed, but Alem still having presence up on top that hasn't been dealt with yet as well. This is going to be dangerous for DarkZero as they chose to ignore the upstairs extension, and now if they aren't able to leverage enough pressure into the actual site, they could be facing a very, very quick retake for BDS that they will not be able to control.
This is extremely awkward right now for DZ. NJR will be able to get a pick upstairs, but this should have happened initially with this clear. The hatch not being controlled and really no info going into this space. This is kind of a miscall from DarkZero as Bride will be able to pick up Canadian, trying to waltz his way over towards the pantry stairwell here. Pambazu has made his way into sight, but that doesn't really mean too much for everyone else. This does, though, as NJR will take down to Lems and more than likely be able to rotate over towards Hatch. This is definitely preventable, though, as Pambazu will get removed from Tetris, and the plant will be actually not stopped. Shaik will end up getting the kill instead and immediately hops onto plant. But where is the prevention at from NJR? He's got 2 frag grenades, but he doesn't have enough time, and the sledge won't be able to get through the floor. BDS have 3 rounds up against DarkZero and on their map pick.
It's so unfortunate the sledge accidentally hits a part of the floor that doesn't end up taking out the second layer leading to the area below it as well. If he had shot like a couple pixels to the right, might have had a split opportunity to pick up at least that first counter defuse attempt and delay for the second one at a minimum there while trying to clutch out the 1v3, but does not transpire. So indeed, as you said, BDS get the three-peat, the full run of all their sites, and can now head back up to AVG since it's been unlocked.
That was just very poorly done from DarkZero. I don't really necessarily know why they wanted to go horizontally on that. They really need to worry about that verticality on that site because of that exact reason. If they're able to man those, you're just going to end up losing bodies for no reason. And, well, it didn't really seem as though DarkZero was even worried about it when they were trying to transition into the site in the first place. So, as of right now, back to the drawing board for them. Hopefully they can right their wrongs here as we're back to AVG.
Let's take a look and see if the success will continue to be repeated here from BDS. Things started out okay from DarkZero as they were able to catch the members of BDS out and about from the site on the opening round. But since then, we've seen BDS fall back on a much more passive, much more site-centric strategy, and that has worked pretty much flawlessly for them every single time. DZ just does not have enough capability to put the pressure on these types of setups, so they're walking in, oftentimes in uneven engagements, to try and force themselves into the sites, and usually with fairly poor results, as we've seen over the past 3 rounds.
Well, DarkZero are going to have plenty of utility to deal with a lot of what BDS will be throwing at them. This is going to be the same strat that we saw previously that kicked off BDS's stint that we have been witnessing here with their 3-round run. So we'll see if they can continue it with a 4th as we go into this replay. Canadian will hop back onto Study as once again it seems like this side of the map will be favored.
Gonna try and sneak that Electric Claw into the slits of the vents, or rather the...
Sometimes those things are so finicky, I tell you.
I think he just gave up on the second one. He didn't really get it into a good position. It's just kind of like half floating under some debris right now. So out of time, unfortunately, to try and get tricky with that. So he's just going to have to be happy with the way it was positioned. And the Rotero drones are going to continue to flood in here and quickly deal with the accessible pieces of utility that are positioned on the inside of Study specifically.
Should be seeing one of these head over towards main stairs soon. And yeah, that's going to be the call right there. Canadian up the stairs and Shiro not paying attention. And... hey, able to get the Goyo shield as the fire and flames expand on the stairwell. And for some reason, Renshiro's going to step a little bit too close and burn his ankle. So might want some aloe vera or something for that later.
Just a tick, though. It's not a huge deal. Just that extra little bit of health he'll have because he is on a heavier operator. So just puts him on even footing with a lot of the other players in the lobby at this point. Shaiko in the meanwhile. Ooh, a good adjustment from him as he nearly got caught out by the early advances from DarkZero towards red. But now that he has been spotted, now that he doesn't have full reads on the situation, plays it safe and backs away, and will probably do the same thing again from his position over here by Chandelier, just because of the fact that he was spotted out again from another drone coming in through Statuary.
Just as a reminder, Coastline did start off very similar for DarkZero as BDS was starting to get things done, but then DZ re-challenged, re-aggressed, and was able to clamber back to a 3-3 scoreline before overtime was achieved by BDS after DarkZero was able to run it up. And were able to finally get it inside of overtime. Lems now, though, becoming up Astronomy and actually has a pretty solid flank as of right now. I don't think a single DarkZero member is aware. Freebie on to Canadian as he'll re-challenge. He's going to deal some damage, but now DarkZero out of Flores drones. Pambazu, unbeknownst to him, actually had the cross in a certain capacity onto a Lems, but a Lems is going to wait out the timer. Look at this, 38 seconds remaining. He just needs to sit here and really not move because, well, DarkZero have to go for the site. You have to get that case down, and with them in the current situation, as well as the case down over here on the Study balcony, this is not looking like a DZ round.
Yeah, this is a problem again for DarkZero. We saw this issue a little bit on Coastline as well. They're very counteractive in terms of how they try to play out their strategy, not very proactive here in searching for that opening kill. They seem to be too worried about what might happen if they put that foot forward first here, so instead they're relying on the deaths of their teammates to feed that intel over towards them, and unfortunately, without the opening kill advantage, it's leading into the fights like that, where they just trade themselves down to an, unfortunately, not enough player count to be able to win it out, and ultimately into BDS's BDS's hands as they take yet another round, 4 in a row for them as of that most recent victory.
It feels like Canadian is doing mostly everything. Flores drones in, gets the utility out of study, rotates off of study, rotates over to master, hops inside of master, tries to prevent flank, dies. That's the round. That's literally it. There's nothing else that DZ does there. I mean, even inside of the mid round, you really don't see anything else from any other of the members of the team. It's like DarkZero's waiting for BDS to make the mistake, but they're not doing it.
So, because of that lack of any overstep and overall general adjustment from BDS. Since the first round, by the way, this has been an issue that DarkZero has been dealing with ever since round 2. DarkZero has continued to falter on these site attacks and could very well run into that very same issue on the final round of the half here. BDS looking to secure themselves a 5-1 victory if they can negotiate for the second upstairs hold over here in Trophy Statue, which is going to be their final bastion of defense here before they're thrusted onto the attacking side in the next round.
Yeah, DarkZero cannot be playing like this on offense when NJR is actually on a heater in the way that he is. He's 8-4. He needs to be used in a stronger way to be able to clear out this map in tow with the other people that are providing some pretty frag-centric operators like Twitch and Yana that we're really not seeing anything out of. Hyper 2-4, Pambazoo 1-5, whereas Pambazoo had the biggest scoreline out of anybody inside of the last map. This has just not been a very good showing from DZ, especially on a map that's supposed to be theirs.
Pamba even started to taper off a little bit, I think, towards the end of that first map as well. So this has been something that's been building up for him over the course of the past hour or so now, because we've been seeing him slowly start to struggle a bit. You thought it might have just been a side difference on our first map, but clearly is not the case looking at what we have here now, moving into Villa. Hopefully able to reinvigorate himself when DarkZero is put onto the defense, and he's given that freedom to play around a little bit more with his positioning once we get into the later portion of this map here. For the members of DarkZero, though, they were once again put onto the warpath. They were going to go for a quick clear of the master area. 3 players looking to try and find an entry path here, whether it's through the walk-in closet or directly into the bedroom itself, to start building up some pressure to work their way out into statue.
Okay, well, exact same setup here from BDS, exact same positioning from Shaiko, which means that DZ should know what's going on here. Only 50 seconds in now as DZ's making some serious headway. They're going to use one of these Flores drones on the closet wall as well. Canadian to back that up as Eclipse has picked up that mantle as he's over onto the Maverick now, trying to be a little bit more forward with the M4 in hand, but obviously not able to land those shots that could have been pretty crucial to the overall story of this one. Alem's down low for a little time, but he'll eventually move his way on over to red before he gets caught off from a DZ member.
Idiot. Opening up this hole here and unfortunately giving himself away far too much because of the thrown angle. He did have a teammate watching out for him, but the overwatch was just far too weak, so Shaiko freely allowed to peek directly into that. Only takes 1 bullet worth of damage there and picks up Canadian, removing a huge piece of the hard breach utility from DZ.
That is not supposed to happen in the slightest. I don't understand what's happening here for DZ. This is just very, very poor. I'm feeling for him in the moment because it feels like BDS can do no wrong at the time. And DarkZero are trying to make some serious contributions here, especially inside of this one, trying to establish an angle here for split, but immediately punished simply by Shaiko face-checking the hole, which should never work ever. But
this is the problem, right? Because we talked about this on the previous round, so DarkZero had been watching out for these specific things. They have been hoping that members of BDS were going to push out and make plays like I said. They could punish them, finally get some type of an opening advantage for themselves and leverage that into easier site fights and control. But now that opportunity is given to them on a silver platter, they don't even take it, and NJR is struggling here too. He nearly gets cut off as well at low HP. Good nade to push Renshiro out of position. That'll shuffle him downstairs, but that could come back to bite them if they didn't catch that, as he could now put some pressure on them for the Astro stairs as well. Only knocking out about half of his HP in the process. That's some good damage going back on a Shaiko, though, as he's going to be put down low, too. 20 seconds left, and DarkZero, through pure numbers, negotiate their way onto the site, but they fail to notice Brine hiding in the back of Trophy, and he finishes the round off. A flawless one at that, with the sidearm, with the revolver, as BDS are dominating right now here on Villa.
This is just gross from BDS. DarkZero have no chance in hell in the moment. And fortunately enough for them, they're going to be switching sides. It's a 5-1 right now. We're in favor of BDS, and DarkZero really have to get something going on this side. Here's that kill again for you guys, and look at the player from DZ out on the balcony that's supposed to be watching this angle, as well as them forcing Renshiro off. No one recognizing that happens, and guess what? He's got a nitro cell downstairs. He's going to prevent plant. Bride does the rest of the heavy lifting, and I mean heavy lifting when it comes to Trophy with that triple kill.
Absolutely the case. It was looking like DarkZero might have even been able to negotiate something given the arduous way they had worked their way over to Trophy at that point. But again, a fatal mistake is made in missing the position from Breedy, or failing at least to deal with it in time, allowing him to go crazy with some additional support from his teammates to shut down the rest of that play. DarkZero, however, the nightmare is hopefully over in terms of controlling that pacing. They're now going on to the defensive side where things get a little bit easier in that department, and they'll immediately jump onto the very familiar Aviation Games defense yet again.
Yeah, you might want to go support DarkZero and go buy their skin, because they might really, really need it in the moment. Assist them, make them a little bit happier, because I can tell you right now, especially for Canadian's sake, he is not a happy camper. There is no way that he is happy in the current moment. 5-1, once again, in favor of BDS. DarkZero now onto defense for the very first time here on Villa. And as everybody knows, you usually choose maps based on what your defensive strategies are looking like. Obviously, offense plays into a lot of things. It's half the battle, right? But defensive strategy can get you a really, really long way. So I'm expecting something here from DarkZero because, well, to be frank with you, if we don't get anything, this is going to be the easiest BDS map that we've seen for them the entire tournament.
Looking very likely that both teams could steal each other's map choices away. DarkZero need to play their hearts out to get the first map, and in the meantime, BDS is just a walk in a park here on Villa so far, at least as far as the first half is concerned. We could be in for some big changes, though, moving into the second half. At the moment, Bios just deploying those air jabs to two of the rotation positions from downstairs to make sure no one from DZ is going to try anything through a red stairs rotation to push over towards Art Studio or through Piano to try and put some pressure against what will eventually be the main stairs push.
Canadian backing off of Master. Could have possibly have abused a couple of these players out towards Master balcony, or rather study balcony, but really nobody over inside of that space, and also have a man managing that window as well. Beautiful swing here from Pambazoo. He'll find the second of the game onto Bios, who was for a pretty cheeky swing. He'll deal some decent damage onto him, but still plenty of round remaining for BDS to get something done. And it all starts with Shaiko onto NJR.
So immediately traded out, we go quickly into a 4 versus 4 scenario. Canadian will still be patiently waiting on the red stairs position here to try and potentially catch the swings from BDS as well here. Might very well be given an opportunity to do it. Alems also going to be opening up. We completely missed as well the pick for Alems coming into this round here. Didn't get to see the utility used though, as it's now dead on the ground with Eclipse knocking that one out. Just after Renshiro found another pickup here for BDS also, so the numbers will stay even as a result of that, coming down to a 3v3.
As we get a better look at this, BDS with some very serious control, especially when it comes to 90. Eclipse worrying about the door over here inside of Bar. Hyper will be able to fire back on Renshiro and keep us into a 2 versus 2. And fortunately enough for the DZ members, there's not a single drone for BDS at the current moment. They could use the Gemini clone to try and find some extra info, but if there's any mute jammers laying around the site, it's going to be difficult for them to do so. They'll be able to down Shaiko, but do they know where Canadian is? It seems like Bride has a pretty good read on this as he's holding over towards the top of red. The shield to be popped. Has the angle on Hyper, but not able to land shots just yet. But here's a scary thing. Bride is absolutely terrifying in these situations. And with this amount of time, there's a lot of things that he can do with this. Currently looking over the top of the bar, seeing if Hyper wants to try and get an info peek here. If he hops this, he's more than likely dead. He needs to either go to the gun vault or go for the rotation. He's actually going to go out and about to see exactly what's happening out towards red. He does have the case, so he can stick it here for maps, but with Canadian on the rotation up towards top main, I don't believe that he's going to get it off. Nope, it'll be Hyper to shut him down instead, as Bride will not make any forward motion, instead chooses for the neutral option, and just so happened to be the wrong choice.
So some haphazard movement from the BDS camp, specifically when it came to clearing, getting closer towards that site. On top of some great early round frags coming out there from DarkZero, they hold on much more proficiently this time. Like I said before, I think being on the defense here, they feel a little bit more in control of the situation. You immediately see Pambazoo able to pick up a confident kill for himself there, just as an example of that. He's finally on the board a bit more consistently, with his second pickup. And now we have to wait and see what the future holds for the rest of the play from DarkZero, as BDS finally just now getting a taste of what DarkZero had to offer on defense. Will be given their first chance to adjust to that here, as we're moving to a very similar site over in Trophy and Statuary.
Well, Canadian with the 6th pick here, away from the Kaid and onto the Jaeger. They'll still have wall denial and the likes of mutes, but the big thing is here is that Canadian knows that they have the Maverick, so Kaid really isn't going to matter that much this round. The ADSs will, though, especially when they're stacked with Hyper's utility. Those magnets will be extremely useful when it comes down to it, especially around these deployable shields, not only for NJR, but also since they do have Goyo with his 2 shields himself.
See if we get any more interesting build-ups here for DarkZero in terms of the setup, but things look fairly traditional in terms of what we'll be bringing to the table. Lots of delay potential between the Goyo shields, as well as those toxic babes that'll come out from NJR. Plenty of utility mitigation, too, which was something that was a little bit missing from BDS's side of things. DarkZero are very well aware of the potential risks of the frag grenades being chucked out against them here. They're going to be trying to watch out. Then obviously not much you can do about the ones being thrown in from below, but in a more direct contestation as we'll get to that lower time point in the round might save the life or 2 of a member of DarkZero due to bringing the excess utility mitigation.
BDS still have bias on the Nomad, so they'll be able to lock up the flanks as they see fit. As for the remainder of the squad, sticking to their gun, Shaiko still on the Yana like we've been seeing him play time and time again. Lems on the Maverick as well. Well, we'll see if they want to try and take this from the Master side, as it seems to be the case in the current moment. Lems working his way into the pantry stairwell here, knows it once here, but obviously with him breaking this door, it's going to be glaringly obvious as to where he is. So we'll have to see if DZ can possibly win this engagement downstairs. That's up to Eclipse. So if you see that kill go off, you know where that happened. Pambazoo's downstairs as well here, as actually quite a few members are. Canadians actually over in China as well, so quite a few DZ members trying to prevent Lems from getting some things done. He's just going to try and play spoils to this rotation here for Canadian. Nade out for Ranchero upstairs, and he'll try and nade out a possible player inside of Astronomy stairwell, but no one there. Lems will get a good read onto the Mutus. He'll go for the swing, knows that he's close, and he's got to back off from that M590.
NJR, in the meanwhile, does end up getting down. I heard an explosion.
What?
So
oh, they got the plant!
Oh my goodness, they're walking right in. Nitro to respond to that though, but it does miss the planter, so Bride still well on his way to getting the diffuser on the ground, and it will succeed. NJR still down, in the meanwhile, Shaiko just gonna chuck his nade out, cook the second one, as he uses the first one to buy him some time here. Panba quickly working on rotating back in. It's a very unsecure plan, and unfortunately, they're paying the price for it now. Bride having to hold on. Lems as well, where is he? As we're now finally seeing the revive come in for NJR over in Statuary. That's another player added back in here, and it seems like BDS just might not be able to hold on, but no, look at this. Do they realize that Lems is here? No, they don't have any idea. He gets the double kill lineup. There's no counter defuse attempt yet on the table here either, but finally they jump onto it. The smoke now fading, but no, the shotgun comes out on top, and we're just barely going to be able to see Eclipse get back on the counter defuse in time. He should be able to take this one for DarkZero, and with 2 seconds left, he does.
Eclipse imbued his entire soul into that M590. A single cannon shot heard around the world as Lems, with the trigger discipline of a CS god, waiting for them to come out of split. I mean, that was a ludicrous round there. BDS should have never have had any of that from the jump. DarkZero somehow losing the plot overall as to what's going on inside of their own home. BDS get a plant, and Lems almost able to take him down. Look at his health. Watch this. Watch this. How?
Junked.
How? 100% HP at range with the M590. That is pellet luck if I have ever seen it.
Either way, it works out in the favor of DarkZero, and a very, very bold attacking play there from BDS to try and go for that plant, thinking they would have had enough control to be able to work that with multiple players, not even on the same floor, still working on negotiating position up through Astro Stairs or elsewhere on the map there. They forced the hand way too early on and paid the price for it as DarkZero swung back in to take control.
Guys, even our producer was saying, you have to believe in the shotgun. Anytime I see something like that happen, there's just Pojo Man in the back of my head from a couple years ago that says, hey man, you got to believe in it. That's all you got to do. The M590 will not work unless you believe in it. And, you know, he's also got a second one for smoke players. Don't die with smokes in your pocket. So use those as well if you want to. But that M590 can get you out of some of the crappiest situations. And that's a perfect example there. That is why this shotgun has been the premier shotgun for, what year is it, John? 7 years of Rainbow Six Siege.
Going into the 7th year.
Yeah, we're not at year 7, season 1.
Game came out pretty late in 2015.
Yeah. Well, you know, it came out right at the beginning of December. It was my senior year of high school. I'm 25 years old now. Oh my god.
Remember, I got this game for free with a laptop I bought.
Oh, hey, well, and now you cast it.
Yeah.
Funny how that works, huh?
Interesting indeed.
One day you're playing from your bedroom, and then you're in Sweden with some guy that you met on the internet.
So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, into round number 9, where this seemed like a walk in the park for BDS overall. A bit of a misstep there.
Gotta be better at cornhole there, Shaiko. I can give you some lessons if you need it, man. Me and the parental unit play it all the time. I think the second one actually ended up going to the wayside there as well. Yeah, it actually did. He ended up botching both of those names.
He's gonna send a Yanniclone in to check the geometry.
It's just gonna be like, all right, where did I mess this up?
He's like, I gotta look at the angles here. Give me a second. Correct this one for next time.
Breaks out the tape measures, like, all right.
Guys, I swear, it's a good use of the utility. Panba will be the first one to pick up a kill on this round, though, for DarkZero, as he's able to catch BIOS out in the midst of him, trying to deploy those air jabs more than likely. He became eliminated out, and once again, an advantage in the favor of DZ for the first minute or so of the round.
Well, see, what BIOS doesn't know is that he's also experienced the caster's curse. We talked about him too much, and now he gets to feel the pain of when we highlight somebody that's doing things extremely well. Now 5-5 when he started off, and I believe 4-2. BDS now working their way into the site, and DarkZero have no idea. This looks like another exact round from the previous one as well. Limbs is going to stab Eclipse on the ground. The plant's still going down. Canadian gets taken out. It's a sea of blue in the kill feed as they've got everything going for them. The plant goes down for Brede. Pambazoo and Hyper must do something, but it's a Limbs to strike true. Hyper will jump down from the balcony. He'll take down a Limbs as he's made this a 1 versus 2.
Hyper's still trying to wrap himself in. He's not giving up hope in the clutch just as of yet here, but it's certainly futile to say the least. So many ways for him to still be able to lurk back in here, and so many ways he could get tripped up by either remaining member of BDS. Good pre-fire, just no one on the other side of it, and Brede will swing out to finish things out. BDS wanted revenge for that last round, as it seemed like a strategy that would work, and I was scared as they went forward again, but it seems much more successful this time against the kitchen defense.
It's a DarkZero timeout, and if I was them, I'd take a timeout too, because you gotta stop playing off site up against BDS. These guys are just walking at the site in the current moment. They're able to recognize out that there's really nothing going on around the dining area as well as kitchen. Those earlier nades trying to establish an angle for Shaiko really didn't work out, but that honestly could have even been better because BDS DarkZero more than likely were like, okay, they've messed some things up over near the kitchen area. They're probably not going to be trying to go for that space anymore, but it's a complete opposite. Instead, they stack inside of pantry and then immediately shove in with a full breadth of BDS members straight into kitchen and take control of the entire space.
All right, so it's looking like an AVG defense is going to be coming up here for DarkZero as they're going to be able to loop back over towards that. It's finally been unlocked for them, so they'll feel the confidence back upstairs. Here's the things got a little bit out of their control on the one downstairs site they went for. Stokes mentioned, obviously, inside of a tactical pause, and you guys can, of course, see that in front of you in case anyone's just watching on our audio feed. I want them to know that as well. So once again, giving them just the remaining 30 seconds or so to talk out what the game plan is going to be for these next 2 rounds to try and run it back up to at least a 5th round before they're forced back downstairs for a second time period. It's got to be 3 direct rounds straight from DarkZero. Otherwise, we are going to be forced onto that 3rd and final map to decide the winner of the series.
You know, walking into this, I really thought we were going to see a 2-0 going either way. I really felt as to whichever team got the first map was definitely going to claim the second. It was going to be a clean sweep and we just move on with our day. But honestly, we've gotten a little bit more out of this, and I think this is telling a different story for both of these teams. Number one, BDS with Rafal would have been just an absolute menace here at SI. They would have been truly, truly incredible, and I'm really, really sad that we didn't get to see that. Also, for DarkZero, it really feels like they haven't gotten the full understanding as to how this team is working in its current capacity. There's a lot of missteps going on for this squad that still need to be patched up, as this ship is not sinking, but there's definitely some leaks around the boat that they need to board up and make sure are not going to be an issue going forward.
You guys probably peeped it for a second. We have to check out our stats as we were heading back into the operator pick for the most recent round here. And you probably saw BDS. It's been a primarily 3-man effort with Brede, Shaiko, as well as Alems, all nearly identical in terms of their frag capabilities so far in this matchup at 10, 10, and 9 respectively. So lots of prowess coming out from them, but proven not to be enough just yet to edge out the outright win on this map. Well, it's gotten them very, very close. DarkZero now need to win out from this point forward here on the upstairs sites, with at least one hole downstairs as well to be able to push this only into overtime. So might want to start thinking about that third map if this is going to be impossible to pull off. BDS certainly want to end this as quickly as possible too. They've already had a swift run on their first half on the defensive side to build up this massive advantage. And now they can very quickly push us onto our final map.
Looking to close us out in 7-3 fashion. Renshiro out on the study balcony, as we mostly all do for Villa as an opener. I can't tell you a single rank stack that doesn't start off on study balcony when it comes to this map, but one thing that BDS does have over any old stack is a lot of coordination. Bride already starting to clear things up here on main. He'll get rid of the Goyo shield up top, but still some lifting to do when it comes to the main stairs shield. Bios will burn the ADSs out here, and possible nade to answer this instead. They could possibly play spoils to Pambazoo's current position. Move back up towards the top of main and try and play for study instead. But the first frag grenade actually going to go underneath. Second one here from Alems as well, as it won't deal any damage to any DZ Nems.
Yeah, way too far on both the nades. We just saw get chucked out right there, throwing them on old intel members of DarkZero, I believe, noticing that they were incoming or getting some form of intelligence that forced them to move, and as a result of that, making them both a swing and a miss from the BDS side of things. Shaiko's nade count is completely drained, as is Renshiro's. Alems still has one more to try and chuck out here, but now we're going to start to see the elimination of players from both teams, actually. Shaiko does get himself the frag against Pambazoo, but at the same time, Bios is lost there, as DarkZero are able to leverage the first kill as well.
And this is looking like a DarkZero round, at least initially, especially with the shield still on main and no longer having an answer to that. This is going to be extremely difficult for BDS to try and crack. So DZ with a serious opportunity here. We do not want to see them let this go. NJR has to play strong inside of this position, especially with Shaiko on such low HP. This is completely doable for the defensive squad.
Definitely the case here. Bios unfortunately starting to lag behind a little bit, despite his, again, excellent contribution so far in this game. Still outpacing Renshiro a little bit, but has become the first frag for 3, at least, of the rounds inside of this half here, as 2 of them have become the result of Panba taking him out as well. Panba obviously not able to contribute towards that this time, as he's also the first to go down for DarkZero here, so no pressure put back in. NJR realizes the pressure in the meanwhile is starting to build up against him, and he's going to potentially challenge here from main stairs. Eclipse with no problem challenging on red stairs, but as well, you got the shotgun prepped and ready to go if BDS does not have a way to take out that deployable shield. Canadian elsewhere also going to be able to find Bride, so very quickly BDS are losing their luster in this situation. It's not seeming like it's ever going to come back. Shaiko now the only one remaining here, and he's really got no one in this fight. NJR pops up with the SMG-11 and gets a nice headshot to close out on this round. Beautifully done there on the replay.
Exactly. I'm unfortunate that you guys didn't get to see that, but yeah, that was definitely a clean shot from him, and no matter which way that went anyways, it was more than likely a DZ round. So either way, DZ will get their 4th as they're trying to shore things up against BDS. They need 2 more rounds here, so they're looking to see which site they want to go to next, and I guess it's time, guys. We got to break it out. It's Living Room Library.
Definitely going to be a risky one, in my opinion, coming in for DarkZero, considering once again that Statuary should have just been unlocked for these guys. But Statuary was also a very, very close affair there as well. So not too surprised they want to avoid that. But again, we've seen Living Room become the death of quite a few teams. And considering that DarkZero do need to go for a perfect run here, this could be a decision that comes back to bite them in a very, very bad way. 6 picks will be present for both teams as well. A Lion will be brought in on the attack, and a Frost will be switched out on the defense.
And one you know it, DZ finding some success, and it just so happens to be that Hyper is 8-7.
Well, look at that.
Yeah, it's just funny how that works. I mean, it's just
we just swapped Hyper and Panba, basically.
Yeah, basically. Why'd you have to point that out? Poor guy. 4-10.
Just trying to keep it objective here. You know?
That's true. That's true. But I mean, well, I got a wrench for you. You ready?
I watched Moneyball in my room earlier.
Yeah, you're ready for stats? Are you ready to take control of the athletics?
Yeah.
Listen, I don't care about what anybody does. What is your opening blood stat? Find it for me right now. I want everybody that wins their opening kills. Get them on the team.
We just need to get people in buildings. That's all we need to care about.
I don't care about your utility usage. I don't care about what you ate for breakfast. I don't care about literally anything else. Show me your statistics. And speaking of statistics, Canadians not really showing up in that department in the current moment. 3-7-5.
absolutely the case here. But again, keep in mind, obviously the leader of this team, not his priority objective. But to be fair, he's also sometimes putting himself on operators that generally lead themselves into being frag-heavy or frag-capable positions. So a little bit of a kind of mixed emotions into how I'm feeling about his current stat line. But like we talked about there, he's got other players kind of making up for it in huge dividends between NJR, Eclipse, even Hyper as well, having a fantastic performance. So
yeah, I definitely echo that sentiment for sure, or sentiment rather, sediment, lol. Anyways, yeah.
How do you echo sediment?
It doesn't echo very well, actually, since it's literal dirt. So, but actually, yeah, I would definitely have to agree with you. It's just one of those things where it's like, okay, I really, really like the choice in operator, but when your score line is so negative, it's not really something that it really seems like it would flow too well. But again, this is why he's the IGL of DZ and we're not. We're just here to talk about the teams and say objectively what we think is going on. Obviously, this is going to be a living room defense like we had been talking about previously. BDS will be attacking this from the kitchen side, so it's looking to be a little bit more horizontal. What they're looking for is the plant spot on the opposite side of the A bomb. This is exactly why Eclipse is upstairs to try and prevent them from getting into the actual space. These angles are not only going to block the door on the right-hand side of the room, but also the two single panels that are next to the fireplace.
And at the moment, BDS do not seem to be lining up to try and counter out that presence upstairs at all. We have seen teams execute in this way with relative success as well. You don't necessarily need to clear out the upstairs. Oh, a nice nade. They're certainly trying to deal with it at least one way, though, but Panba is going to be able to find the opening kill. Very quickly sent packing after he finds it, though, as he's going to be down at just a little tiny bit of HP, very similarly to Eclipse upstairs.
Oh, well, Lems has got to be angry with that one. Although he did not know the frost was indeed inside of his sights and it was going to be a single bullet needed to take out Eclipse in the moment. As this timer continues to dwindle, DarkZero being able to stay alive, but Eclipse, he tries to re-challenge the whole Lems now with the cross, and all it takes is a little movement in his eye, and he's able to take him down. EE1D out. Hyper trying to find something here, and Brady is going to get the plant. Bios will take down NJR. Canadian will take down Renshiro. It's a 3 versus 3. It's an all-out hell in a cell here in Villa. Bios has a cross onto Canadian. It'll be a double kill for him on the round as he's positive in the moment, but finally he'll get taken down by Pambazoo. 7-7, but that doesn't even matter. It's a 2 versus 2 with 25 seconds.
Hyper with the Nitro to go in. I think it's actually not going to line up there. Instead, it's Lems to take out Panba, and Bride with the swing to follow up against Hyper. We will see success picked up by our attackers here, and it's enough for them to close out map number 2, sending us full distance in this series all the way to a 3rd map as BDS rebound quite quickly here on Villa for our 2nd map and close it down 7-4.
How unbelievably awkward for DarkZero. After that initial map, they get into their map choice and seemed pretty excited about it, but just could not pull it out at the end of the day. Pambazoo alone, 6-11 in the moment. Very unfortunate stuff for DZ, but luckily enough for them, they still have an opportunity to take this series.
Bios again with another very solid map as well. Ended up 7-7 overall once that closed out, so not slacking in any regards here. Quite a big contribution being made to the team. We even saw in the midpoint there during the game as well. They were even putting him on some pretty important roles, having him play an extension at one point when they were on a kitchen defense over towards living room. So lots of confidence being put into this player, despite the fact that he is just a last-minute fill-in as their coach.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, that really just goes to show you how much he does know about this team and how much he can possibly help them. He's been with the team for only 6 months, guys. And although that seems like quite some time, and it is as a coach, but when you have to step in as a player, that's a completely different thing. And he's doing a very bang-up job in filling this position. But, hey, that's enough from us, folks. We've got map 3 just around the corner. We're going to send you off to a quick break, and we'll be right back in just a moment.
And for the last time this evening, we are back, ladies and gentlemen, ready to deep dive into the third and final map of this series between BDS and DarkZero. DarkZero seemingly in control of things after they closed out on our first map over on Coastline, but losing the plot there to a very aggressive BDS who takes control of a huge number of rounds for themselves and is able to take map number 2, 7-4. That takes us to our third and final map here on Kafe Dostoyevsky to decide who's going to get the lion's share of points out of this series. Keep in mind, of course, max points no longer a factor because we are locked at 1-1. Winner's just going to get 2, loser's just going to get 1.
Yes, indeed. But, I mean, there's a lot of storylines to go into this. The biggest one right now is Bios. You might have heard of him. He's the coach of BDS, and
we certainly talked about him
pretty damn well when it comes to the overall story of BDS so far inside of this series. Villa should have, by all intents and purposes, been DarkZero's. It was their map choice. They beat BDS in overtime on Coast, and then we head over to Villa, and all of a sudden it's a 5-1 split to start off in favor of BDS. That's not supposed to happen.
Even then, though, BDS, as we were saying a moment ago, did still struggle to actually cut the closeout as they allowed quite a few more rounds to sneak in for DZ, as they ultimately ended up with 4 on that series. So keeping it close once again, there's definitely some favorable sides for either teams here where they're really able to push themselves forward, as we saw specifically for BDS with that early advantage being taken. Will we see the same thing on Kafe? Well, we'll just have to wait and see here as we dive into it and once again look to find our true victor between these two teams. And once again, a big question being who will step up for DarkZero, who will step up for BDS. It's been a bit of a mixed bag for both teams so far in that respect. You've got the obvious consistent Rock and Shaiko, but it's been a little bit more all over the place for DarkZero.
3 days eating a banana. You know what
I don't even see it.
It's already over. It's over before it started.
Got the potassium boost.
Troy doesn't have a banana. The game's over. Oh man. Well, we might as well just go home now. You want some McDonald's or something? I don't know, but no. DZ, I think they definitely still have some opportunities here. The biggest problem right now is that they just simply cannot get coordinated. They cannot all get on the same page and make it to where this is a team effort. It's a lot of players stepping up to the plate to actually try and assist the other teammates that just really aren't able to compete in the same capacity. It's been pretty rough, especially for Pambazu's sake on that last map, Canadian falling into that same basket. So we're hoping to see them right their wrongs here when it comes to Kafe.
And we will wait to see if they can do that once again as we head into our third and final map. Like we talked about with DarkZero, here's some players to watch as we work our way into it. Hyper, for sure, was a little bit absent on map number 1, but had a great rebound. It became a huge part of the success for DZ on map number 2 here. Unfortunately, it's not enough to outright leverage the win. Panda as well, a great pickup here as he was finding some excellent strength, mainly from the defensive side here. So still a little bit jittery on the attack, a little bit, unfortunately, wavy in terms of his capability to be able to pick up opening frags there, but on the defensive end, feeling much more confident about his own personal performance. And again, good stuff coming out from both Eclipse and Njera. They've probably been the 2 more consistent players so far out of this series, so expect great stuff to come out from them once again in this third map.
Most definitely. It's going to be a clean slate for both of these teams as you walk into this last map, so there really shouldn't be too much angst when it comes to this. We should be seeing a pretty clean fight back and forth, but obviously since it is Kafe, there is going to be favorable sides just like we saw back on Villa. Any of these teams are obviously going to be excited to play that defensive half, although overall, for some reason at this LAN, Kafe has actually been offender-sided. We haven't had the updated stats just yet from what has happened today, but at least from yesterday, that's what was going on. So depending on the bans that we see up against the offense, then things could definitely be changing up, but we'll have to see once we get to that point.
Certainly the case. And once again, ladies and gentlemen, so much to break down here over the first 2 maps. The bold attacking strategies from BDS, certainly something to write home about. 2 rounds in a row, we see them just force the issue directly onto the site because they notice how extended out DarkZero's play was. They notice there's only at most a player or 2 in the actual site, so we see them try to force the issue upstairs inside of Trophy and Statuary, and then they do it again in Kitchen. Trophy Statuary was a bit too bold, and they unfortunately didn't have any control over the other site, the other one on the crossover there, so it very quickly got retaken by DarkZero, and although it was a close clutch attempt, it still, for the most part, was under their control. The second one, very, very different though. Much harsher cutoffs, much easier control to be leveraged from BDS and Kitchen, and when they forced the issue there, it went much more successfully.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And John, a little birdie told me that we got some more friends with us from Stream B. TSM taking things in. Hold on, folks. Pause for the mutes. 2-0 fashion up against Furia over on that B side. Welcome everyone from the B stream. Welcome to DarkZero versus BDS. It's my name, Stokes, and this is Blue, as we'll be taking on some things here inside of this one. It's 1-1 right now in favor of, well, no one, as we're walking into Kafe. Here's our previous map that we just played here on Villa. Alem's having a pretty bang-up game, as well as Bride and Shaco to pull them across the finish line.
Alem's been a big proponent in the first kill department there too, and that's something to certainly talk about because of how slow this play has been. We can say that for Panba as well, actually pulling that off pretty nicely. Well, we didn't see much of it, like I said before, in the opening half. I think once we got into that second half was a big piece of the puzzle there, as he picks up 4 of the opening kills over the course of that series. It actually doesn't drop a single one of them, so very consistent in that regard, much more than I had personally thought or had recorded in my notes there, as he goes up by a massive margin just in that stat category alone here. He'll have to try and contend a bit more directly against Alems, who we've been seeing pull that off not just for the last map, but the one before that as well. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. It is time to deep dive once again into that third and final map. Kafe Dostoyevsky is up on the docket, and we are heading into the ban phase. Let's take a look at who's going to get knocked out for the final time today here in our last map of the day.
Well, it should be a spicy one as it comes down to it. And once again, getting into the bans pretty quickly here, BDS is going to remove Finka. Finka has not been allowed to be played on any of our maps between these two so far. That just shows you how prominent she currently is in the meta.
So Finka, once again, aligning pretty well, so falling in line with what we see in there. No surprise on the Thatcher also. This is an incredibly utility-heavy map, so once again, do not want to give the attackers the capability to easily disable huge swaths of it, as you're oftentimes going to have those kind of nests of utility between shields, ADSs, and everything else. One well-placed EMP followed up by a frag grenade could mean the end of your entire defensive utility, so do not want to try and trifle with that. An interesting one, as the Wamaya ban will actually come in. We had been seeing that as of a few months ago, either Wamaya or Rooney getting themselves knocked out there, either one or the other, just to kind of limit the amount of utility mitigation that was coming into play. It's fallen by the wayside a bit, but is going to make a reappearance here in this series, as they'll also ban out Mira, falling in line with something we more traditionally see.
Yes, indeed, and exactly what we would expect out of some bans coming in on Kafe. Well, Maya especially going to be quite interesting here, as that means that Capitao is going to be very prominent for the offensive side. We'll see if DarkZero want to work that into their setup, but it really doesn't matter at the end of the day when Flores is open as well, and they'd rather play with that instead. This is something that we've been seeing Canadian use across the board, and yeah, as you were saying, it just makes it easier to get rid of playable shields and all that kind of stuff. Why burn somebody out of that place when you can just blow up the entire area and make it unplayable anyways?
Pretty much. So, heading into our first round, it's looking like we are going to start on either the third or first floor, where teams have typically been favoring. It's looking like actually Reading Room is starting to become the favorite for quite a few here, specifically for BDS, as they'll hop directly on top of that one and look to try and leverage this as their first successful defense. Operator lineup is going to give quite a bit of freedom to this team, as once again, they do want to play it close to the site, looking to bring a similar tone to what we were seeing back on Coastline here. The Thunderbird coming in as well, that is going to bolster more than likely some of this extended setup onto the third floor, as well as the fallback onto the site later on into the round here, giving BDS that extra longevity to be able to continue to hold these positions and waste the time bank of DarkZero.
Yes, indeed. DZ's entire lineup looking to take out a lot of these setups around the site here for BDS. Obviously going to be on the mid floor, but this top floor going to be extremely important to Reading and Fireplace Hall. They've also brought Oryx along for the ride here, at least for Renshiro's case, so he'll be able to hop up some patches and possibly go for a flank later on if it seems feasible. DZ now out and about on the map here. SNJR will start his rappel up towards the top end of the building, the traditional way of playing Kafe.
Panba still going to be taking up positions here, chucking out one air jab just to make sure we don't see any mid-round white stairs jump outs, which has become a bit of a common thing here on this map, and certainly one to expect from BDS given previous play throughout the course of this series. You can see as well Lem, since the Valkyrie's been left in, he's got those outside cameras still being chucked out into the open. There's going to keep good tabs on any vertical repels coming in, specifically over on the Cigar side of things here. Hyper's also just going to get dropped the case real quickly, as other members of DarkZero are going to get a bit more aggressive up on top, and they don't want to take a risk on dropping that one up on the roof this early on in the rounds. Additional pressure boiling in now on that white stairs window. Cypher wants to try and take control here and flush out any immediate pressure, but at the same time, it might be him that gets flushed out here. Never mind, Renshiro can't find the winning angle, but he does as well have the Kona station down below to get himself boosted up to a much more respectable HP that much quickly.
Yeah, one more shot from that, and he'll more than likely be right around max HP again. So not too big of a deal here for him, but that definitely will be. A Limbs will fall now, and that's going to be a Nitro Cell off the board. Nitro Cell out, but it won't find him.
Oh, no!
Oh, man, not like that. A double kill for Shaiko here. So hop outside, and guess what? No air jab inside of that space. He's going to be able to get rid of the other one and get back in pillars before Eclipse can do anything at all. Canadian trying to challenge up Brown as they try and pinch Shaiko around the pillar space. Some hot pings coming back and forth, but do they know Eclipse is up top? They do not. He'll finally be able to take him down and get things to at least an equal point here. Do not be trusting that thing at the top of the scoreboard right now for man advantage. It is indeed a 3 versus 3.
At minimum, Shaiko doing a great job to even out the scoreline, and then even out the time a little bit more here too. DarkZero had been making great work of this overall push with the time that they had only used up there, but wasting about 30 seconds or so off of that clock is certainly going to slow them down. And Canadian just absolutely slamming Bride through the wall right there to take him out of play. And it's just Renshiro in the fight here with 40 seconds still to play out. That is a huge amount of time in siege terms here. He's going to try to go for a reinforcement there, it looked like, but quickly cancels that one when he realizes the threat sitting on the other side of the wall. He'll back up, get one more juice up quickly from the Kona station before getting prepared for what very well could be the final battle. Might even not get a chance inside of it here. Yep, shredded by his feet as NGR finds the angle on top of him. It's a clean opening round, except for that jump out for DZ here on the opening round.
Yeah, I don't think that they really expected that one to happen, so very well done there from Shaiko, but I mean, it's just even better from Eclipse as he's able to find the triple inside of that. Canadian with a beautiful spray as well. Here's that clip again for you folks. Beautiful headshot on Pimzu as well as Hyper. And Eclipse also with that triple. Canadian with the beautiful wall bang, but it really didn't matter. I still really want to know what Renshiro was thinking with the whole reinforcement fake. Don't really know what was going to go down with that, but hey, I mean, I guess you can try it if you want to.
So into our second round here where things are going to actually repeat for the BDS roster here, feeling that they might be able to correct from their mistakes quite quickly and jump back into that, actually a pretty much identical sites or operator setup, I should say, as well here as far as I can tell. Maybe the addition of the mute, if I'm recalling correctly from the previous round, but aside from that, things are going to look and feel pretty much the same.
Yes, indeed. Still going to be going for this top hold here with Bride still stuck to the Thunderbird. Renshiro still on the Oryx as well, so really no changes across the board here for BDS. We'll see if they want to try and hold this in similar fashion. They got the huge play out the cocktail windows the last time. That's more than likely not going to happen this time around, as DarkZero will be very aware of what could possibly happen to them on the rappel over here towards the east side.
Yeah, that's a kind of one-time trick right there. You're very rarely going to have success to that degree as well, where you get two players lined up next to each other on rappel.
For a double headshot of all things.
Yeah. Very rarely are you going to find that working out for you multiple times over the course of a series. Okay, this is a little different though. Shaiko really wanting to lean into these aggressive tendencies here. He's going to get some fights. They do realize that it's a possibility, so they slow it down. Not really a whole lot of damage connecting from it. He chooses to continuously challenge it against three very available players to re-challenge it as well. So Panba gets the first kill this time, getting the better of Shaiko out of that duel.
And practically zero damage dealt to DarkZero. For NJR, that's really only a bullet, but not even that, really. I mean, it's an SMG at range, so the drop-off in damage is going to be pretty crazy. Either way, though, for DZ, this is going to be a pretty straightforward round for them as they start to work their way towards the Christmas space. BDS have to try to fight back from awkward footing now that they've lost Shaiko inside of the dining area down low.
Once again, it's still a plentiful amount of time for DarkZero to utilize as well here, so expect things to slow down a little bit as they still have nearly the entire load of their Terror drones to be able to be used on this site, as well as the extension upstairs, in addition to plenty of other things also here which can be deployed, such as the hard breach utility, the air jabs. You can use the Gemini clone to scout things out on the third floor. Lots to be done for DarkZero and plenty of excess time to do it, so things will get a little bit quiet here for the next minute or so while they build up the confidence and the necessary openings to traverse back down to the second floor. And Rotero is actually going to force the Thunderbird out of position. Won't force the full transition downstairs just yet, but never mind. Actually is going to go for it after some consideration there. Bride does not want to stick around in Freezer. It's another quick clear coming in from DZ.
Much stronger offense here from DarkZero as they've been able to clear out this entire top floor. But oh wait, they didn't check Hut. Olims gets away with one. He'll get two, and he's still inside of Christmas. Hyper's got to do something about this. Trying to work his way in cocktail. He's watching the hatch right now, but this has been mismanaged. What is happening to the DZ squad?
Lem's going to now try to rotate in and add some additional pressure over towards the white stairs area. Hyper trying to be oh so cautious. Brede with a very well-placed Nitro now catches Hyper, no longer able to easily deal with that presence, and in all honesty, not even really needing to deploy it over towards top red anymore. The players backed away entirely as Eclipse and Panba are left with a shell of their former assaulting force here, having to use breaching charge to try and open up top-down angles here and try to get something going. If they can bring this down to a 2v3, it's certainly winnable, but at 2v4, with minimal time left to still move back down from the third to the second floor as well, this is going to be rough for DarkZero to win this, which is so unfortunate with how promising it was looking up until this point. Good intel, though, played out by Panba, but he's got to be swift here on the follow-up as he's immediately getting hunted down by players over by the white stairs on the chassis. It's a Lems to get his third kill on the round. Oh, and a fourth as well. So quick to follow it up onto Eclipse, the last player alive on DZ, and just shut down the assault nearly single-handedly.
Very well done from BDS. And DarkZero, they have an aggressive front upstairs, but apparently that aggressive front came with some mismanagement in the information game. No one really worried about a Lems inside of quad. He gets a double up top and then a double later on after Brede is able to clean things up with that Nitro cell for the last remaining body of DarkZero. Beautiful round there from BDS as they'll head back upstairs to Bar Cocktail.
Finally going to be testing themselves on the upstairs hole. Now they have a good feeling as to how DarkZero plays the clear on that. Some parts of the setup are going to be very, very similar now that we play directly into that site, so they should have a bit of a semblance as to how DarkZero is going to try and proceed for the first minute or two of play before they move in for the execute. Like we talked about when we had this map played in our other series earlier today too, this site is kind of played out in terms of the options for the defense. That kind of transitions over towards the attackers too, so for the most part BDS will know what to expect in terms of what DarkZero's overall strategy will be to assault this site. At the same time, though, it makes it a very simplistic process, as DarkZero very much will know the same thing about BDS's defensive setup.
Yes, indeed, my friend. And obviously, since this is going to be the first time that BDS plays this, it should be a little bit of a different take here from DZ, but honestly, more than likely, a little bit of the same, as it's going to be around the red staircase area that we'll see a lot of the initial forces from DZ start to build up as they look to clear Christmas and in towards places like Freezer and try and push BDS back towards the cocktail side where they can possibly find a plant and really a bunch of different spots, whether it be trash wall or the default area over towards the actual bomb chassis. But now DZ out and about, they are ready to take on BDS and already looking for these possible spawn kills from Shaiko yet again.
Yeah, Shaiko cooling that off, I do believe. This will play a little bit closer to the chest this time, not wanting to risk his own life for virtually no return. We saw how quickly it led into things getting out of hand there, but even though BDS was able to recover it, ultimately at the end of the round, they're having to fight for the back foot. Certainly did not help the equation. Thankfully, again, had the great clutch to come out from mainly a Lems there to pick up 4 kills and bring the team back into the fold. And Shiro just going to hop this Yokai drone up and down to go for some quick checks, make sure there isn't any additional pressure to worry about. Certainly in early days for that to be seen here, as we're only just now starting to see DarkZero build up their own pressure to contest the pixel hold from a Lems, which is also extended, of course, over here into the bathroom, too.
Plenty of ADSs inside of this space, and obviously there'll be times they really need a proper nade here to clear out all of this, and that's exactly what we will receive as we do ask for it. Beautiful nade there from DZ to clear out Pixel, but Alem still has some room to breathe here inside a bathroom. Has a laser gate to prevent even more utility if that's what they want to go for. Sending the Rotero drones down the skylight hatch now, but one of them ends up getting, I believe, mute jammed or something of the sort. Don't necessarily know what ended up going on there. It was actually the bulletproof cam instead. Forgot those things can shoot lasers nowadays. We don't get to see that happen too often, so that's actually very well done from Brede, as we'll be able to disable that and stop that from removing some utility.
So things continue to boil down here. Once more DarkZero play this very slow and methodical build-up. They want to knock out as much as humanly possible before they even think about stepping close to the site. They'd have one player on the inside that you probably caught over there towards the top. It was Hyper sitting at the bottom of the red drop, but all by himself. You are going to see BDS end up picking up the opening kill instead. Shaiko just barely surviving the engagement, though, as you can see. He's got 1 or 2 HP max here after that one, and we'll have to back away and play it very, very cautiously as a result of that.
Yes, indeed. Down to the last minute here as DarkZero really haven't made any movements. Hyper 0-3 after that initial pick onto him. The Rotero drone possibly doing some damage to Pambazoo, but he finds a position to stay safe here as Eclipse is getting tagged up inside of Cigar at the current moment. Waiting for this gate to reset right now is BDS here for Cigar that could prevent even more from going on here. Alem's going to be playing spoils for NJR's positioning here on the skylight window. And Eclipse does indeed have one DarkZero member in tow with him. NJR not able to find the proper angle to deal with the Jaeger down low of Alems, and oh, what a shot from him. The first bullet made contact with NJR's head, but finally DZ bounced back. Pambazu with 2 big kills as he'll take out BIOS, rotating up white.
The Yokai drone, though, going to get the interruption off. They don't know where it is. The second one comes out as well. That gets the interruption going as well. They have to drop it down. They are going to need a minute to be able to get it back up again, but here comes the retake now as they interrupt the plant and come back in the dying moments of the round. BDS, beautifully done, and great utility usage coming out from the Echo as well to delay it even further.
A great answer there as all of DarkZero scattered to try and deal with this answer that we see from BDS on this drone. For a lot of you at home, you more than likely thought that Echo Yokai was a little early there on its delivery, but instead it's actually Renshiro to step up with Bride to deal the killing blow to DarkZero. These defenses starting to come through in a bountiful manner.
A different philosophy going to come into the fold here for BDS in terms of how they will try to delay out the large majority of time here. As yep, you have already noticed it. We got the Tachanka pick at least coming in for Renshiro, and it's looking like, yeah, it is going to get confirmed. So we are going to be using that and just outright replacing the smoke with it instead of doing what we normally see teams do and combine it with him.
I mean, who needs the most played operator on defense anyways, you know? I mean, Thatcher's just Thatcher. Tachanka's just better in a lot of different ways. I'm obviously completely kidding. The biggest thing here is that he's not only going to have the fire grenades to play for prevention, but he's also going to have a lot of soft destruction. Look at what Renshiro can do to these walls with this LMG.
He's going to open up all the rotates possible, and he's got plenty of ammo to accomplish that as well. So no problem whatsoever. Man, he's doing that thing like a lawnmower. It's crazy. He's gotten good at it.
A little emoji in the wall there. Just make a face.
He's got like a template ready to go there with how quickly he was able to make those holes.
I'm assuming they've done this once or twice.
Yeah, still.
Possibly.
That's the most efficient setup I've seen on a setup there for, once again, the Tachanka play.
Yeah, I think the only other one that I ever call back to whenever we see Tachanka is TSM setup for Oregon Basement, where they play smoke for bottom laundry and Tachanka for a barbed wire setup that they put inside a freezer. Whenever they hear the barbed wire, just launch those fire grenades in there and make it real difficult for anyone to try and progress, but we really don't see anybody do it that often anymore. Tachanka, although, folks, from his initial rework has gotten a buff. It was a little while ago, so you might have seen it, but for others, it makes it to where the fire grenades spread a little bit wider and deal a little bit more damage, because they were a little lackluster initially, and speaking of lackluster, Alems, the exact opposite. Another beautiful kill from him onto Pambazu.
The entry battle of the century continues on here with this time Alems beating out Pan, but not giving him the opportunity to pick up his own first kill for this round here, and putting once again BDS in a good opening opportunity. Actually once again want to go back to the Tachanka pick for a second while we've got a bit of a lull in the round. I think it's actually a really good choice to go with him over smoke here to some extent, just when you consider the raw number of access points into the site that exist on this specific play here. You've got like 4 or 5 different ways to work your way into a site that the attackers could potentially have access to if your extended play goes awry and you end up in a bit of a difficult situation. Normally with smoke, you're going to be blocking off 1, maybe 2 of those at most, but the Tachanka, you have 14 of those incendiary grenades. So as long as you have the capability and the angle to throw it down on those access points, you can block them all off at once, obviously for less time, but still the capability to delay them all is certainly a trait worth considering.
Yeah, this could be a fantastic call here as wow, what a shot from Shaiko. He'll take down NJR inside of lobby. Hyper follows through with a nade though into Kochek to take him out. That's going to be his first kill of the game as he gets off of that good old goose egg. BDS now only down Shaiko though going into the last minute as Hyper will clamber up brown stairs while BIOS heads down red. Currently has the cross here as well, and as you were talking about with all these angles established, it's going to make it very difficult for DZ to find an opening here that can possibly get them the frag that they're looking for. They have so much to worry about in the current moment and a lot of answers still on the board for BDS.
Less than a minute as well for DarkZero to come to a solution here, and an awkward engagement is found over by the mining room as we see Hyper end up besting on the reaction time Alems in that situation there, evening out the player count once again down to a 3v3. There's an undealt with player though sitting on the inside of Kochek. Hyper is going to have to realize it here. He's not the only one either. We have more extensions over by the main doors leading into kitchen here. Hyper is, well, hyper focalizing. Okay, he's aware of the Kochek player, but still doesn't mean he's going to get the kill. BIOS will be able to maintain that crossfire there, but not for for too long as Canadian bests him in his immediate next duel here. Plant going down onto the ground for Eclipse. We don't have the Echo in play anymore, so no, the Yokais are actually going to come into play. Here, as I'll correct myself, he is in play. I was looking at the wrong side. Either way, Bride picks up the kill after the first interruption goes through, and the Yokai saves the day on top of some quick follow-ups once again. Excellent play from BDS as they shut down a second plant attempt in a row in a very close endgame situation.
Just keep the chunk in bundle or in bunker and just start launching those fire grenades over the path. Fantastic stuff from him there, as we're able to secure the round here for BDS. It's going to be the third one on the defensive side, and also the first Tachanka that you and I have seen this entire land.
Absolutely the case, yeah. Haven't seen him picked in too much yet. He's become pretty popular, I would say, in NA for like certain niche sites for you. Again, like I was saying before, mainly when you need both a smoke and a Tachanka for like an insurance policy more than anything. Since like AVG and whatnot, we're starting to find to be pretty useful because again, you've got access to the angles where you can bank those nades off the walls and whatnot because it's a bit of a claustrophobic room and be able to block all the access points and just waste a massive amount of time away from the round there. So good to see it being finally brought in here and by a European team as well, in an interesting site setup there as we saw it used quite nicely alongside the Yokai drone. DarkZero will call for their pause now as this is a 3-round consecutive streak from BDS. They've run reading, third floor hold and first floor hold without dropping a single one of them, and now they are more than likely about to go back up to reading.
Well, we'll have to see what they can possibly get done here. Attack pause, and also that was very strange. I know you didn't catch that, but Hyper and BC did the exact same thing at the exact same time, and it really threw me off right there for a split second.
It's sync.
Yeah, the team synergy between Hyper and BC is just, it's next level apparently, I guess. But 10 seconds away from here from round 5, guys. Hopefully DarkZero had something to do with this that is hopefully going to find them a couple extra rounds here on this offensive side. BDS is currently running it up with their defensive half.
All right, so let's take a look and see if BDS can run the gauntlet for at least 2 out of 3 of the sites they've won before. Obviously keeping in mind that DarkZero did steal away the first attempt on reading, so only a 50% win rating at the moment here for BDS on this site, but the most recent one did play into their favor, so looking to improve that up to about a 66% for the half overall here if they can control it on the third play. They have chosen to go for Oryx, actually interesting them coming back into play. We had talked about how we see him quite a bit on some of our other maps, most notably Coastline, but this is actually where personally I don't see him deployed too much, but that certainly has the formula to work out well for this map. Considering, again, especially the hatch play, too, and specifically for the site, even, he can kind of traverse back down in a janitor, which is usually going to be a pretty safe drop up until the very end of the round, so if they need someone to quickly move back upstairs, if he's going to be playing on the second floor, they can do that, no problem whatsoever.
Yeah, it's definitely something that DarkZero are more than likely not going to look into. You usually establish control around the stairwells and make sure that nobody can transition that way, but since Oryx is the only operator that can, in fact, get away with getting up hatches, he can obviously do what you were talking about, hacking up the, obviously, he is. He can, by hopping up those hatches over there inside of Janitor. Either way now, DarkZero already transitioning their way to the roof here. And these drones spun up and trying to find some of these BDS members over towards the Christmas space, which shouldn't be too hard since they've already found a Lems near stage.
Well, Lems is going to be put into a very awkward scenario now, too, because of that drone spotting him out, trying to dodge around the drone and looking for someone on rappel. And oh man, that hop over might have just saved his life, if only for a second, though, as he ends up walking right into a crossfire between NJR and another player that was out on the second window rappel.
Super unfortunate for him, but really just not respecting what DarkZero could have done with that situation, trying to hold on to that space for a little bit too long there, and DarkZero punish him for it. Either way, though, transitioning further into this round, DarkZero once again mostly on the roof, all except for Hyper, as he is working his way into Cigar. Has to possibly deal with some bodies over on the other end of the long bar, has players around Cocktail at the current moment, but this is slow rolling for the time being.
Gemini's going to work its way out as they try to build in for some more intel. Bride's got an arc here that he could potentially throw out against Panba. Flash is going to confirm his position is still there, but Bride still not feeling the confidence to actually go for the chuck out, and no, it'll now lead to a teammate's death as Shaiko is able to establish himself in an angle against Panba, but is absolutely not ready for that potential fight. So another kill picked up by DZ here. Everything being found outside or above the hatches right now. They've only just barely entered the building, and they've already killed 2 members of the BDS lineup.
Very well done thus far, but they still have to be able to get this plant down, or at least frag out the remaining members of BDS. Canadian will start up a Rotero drone yet again over towards the door, but I believe that one ended up getting caught off from the mute jammer, so it won't end up getting rid of the door. They'll have to do that through the traditional means instead. Still have the verticality to be able to abuse, but once again, this timer's starting to get very low. Something to consider when it comes down to it, especially when Renshiro's able to hit the flank now, take out Pambazoo. Doesn't actually end up passing through the wall, but he's got to be happy about that one, actually, because he would have been dead, but doesn't really seem like it mattered all that much. Canadian makes the adjustment over towards Cigar. He'll take down Renshiro. It's a 2 versus 3 with 15 seconds remaining.
Yeah, not a big change up at the end of the day. They're just momentary mistakes of convenience, you could say, for BDS to add an additional like 5 seconds on 2 of their players' lives. Okay, hold on a second. That's a big kill from BDS. It stopped the plant. They didn't expect that to happen. Canadian trades it. There's no one near the case, though, so time's going to run out, and they can't find the last player on BDS. What? BDS somehow win that. Look at this. There's no one here. The case just sat on the ground. DarkZero thought they had it for free, so they had no one supporting their plan, and it got interrupted by Brede, and no one was close enough to pick it up for a second time.
I have no words. I don't know what to say.
Fair enough.
Can we just move on? Can we do that?
6th round,
hey,
coming in quick.
There we go. Yay. I don't even know what to say about that. That is just such a blunder. It's not even funny. BDS, though, they're playing really, really well. Shout out to Bios once again for staying alive, being able to get his singular frag thus far, but really just holding that space and making it where DZ have to contest other spaces across the board anyways. So bar cocktail now for BDS as they're looking to run things up to a 5-1 half here against DarkZero. And just to remind you, DZ did indeed already take their timeout, so no longer have the ability to consult BC for this one.
Not even a chance to reset after, like you said, a big blunder there at the end of round number 5, thinking they had the full control over the entire map, and more importantly, the entire access point they would have used to fend off the plant attempt, but absolutely not the case. Nowhere near enough access time for DarkZero to go for that liberal of a plant, and as a result of that, they hand the round over to BDS, and BDS had absolutely no chance. I don't even think they thought they had any hope of winning that round at that point, but it is basically gifted to them as they now lead 4-1 heading into the final round of the half.
I'm glad that you could tell from Bios' face that they weren't supposed to win that one either. He was like, what the hell just happened?
I didn't even see it, but I just assumed, right? Like, look at this. It was like a 2v3 situation. They had no control. They were like pushed into a corner by White Stairs. I mean, anyone could look at that round and see, oh yeah, DZ's got this, right? But no.
Well, I mean, it would take somebody overseeing the plant and or making sure that the case goes down in general, but I guess we don't do that anymore, John. I don't really know what
that specific scenario. We don't
dude, it sucks so much because like I expect so much out of these guys, but we just keep seeing these mistakes that just simply shouldn't be happening. But either way, I don't want to get too deep into it because DarkZero just simply deserve better in the moment. Mute Jammer not going to be able to hinder Hyper all that much, and luckily enough, Pambazoo's going to be on the cover here. He knows how aggressive people have been getting out towards the windows on a bunch of different maps, and including in this one with Shaiko hopping out of the east side, now this time the west side for Alems, but the west side happens to shoot back as DarkZero able to claim his life as soon as he vacates the window.
0 for 2 here for Alems in the previous 2 rounds. A really aggressive yokai charge going out there to stop the play from Red, so Canadian's going to have to hold for a few seconds, but he does trade the yokai, so definitely one that Canadian will take advantage upon. Their second one is now going to be moved in position closer to pillars from the looks of it here. But at the same time, DarkZero taking a step back since it's very early on in the round, just going to be setting up some additional utilities such as the air jabs there to prevent any aggressive flanks from BDS up those stairs.
Still plenty of time to do for DZ as obviously they got that initial pick. They can take their time as they usually do in order to clear out the rest of this. Most of the efforts over towards the Cigar space as of right now. The real Hyper inside of Cigar as he'll be trying to push forward and see exactly what is going on inside of the area for Long Bar. Waiting for his Gemini to come back up, he'll hop on his drone instead and start to clear the area.
It's gone all quiet on the map right now here. BDS still trying to leverage some aggressive positioning, specifically over on towards the other side of the upstairs position and lower on White, when they might be trying to wrap across that floor and put some pressure on DZ, but you guys already saw before there's an air jab blocking that, and really no other access point these guys can use here, so BDS, for the most part, just going to be trying to waste time. The Gemini, meanwhile, just walks right across, gets all this free intel on Shaiko's positioning. He's going to try to directly challenge against that, gets a little bit of damage off, I believe, on the Hyper himself, but nothing serious to write home about. He still has a large majority of his HP. This time, though, things get a little bit rough, and Canadian now pushing in from below as well, dumping the flashes in to burn out any utility resistance and hopefully blind out the player hiding in Cocktail.
Swing in here from NJR that should be heard by BDS, but no, it's going to be NJR with the double and Hyper on top of that as well. Gonna have a Nitro Cell come out here, and Bio's still alive here over towards White Stairs, pre-firing over towards Pambazoo in the corner, but it'll be Pambazoo instead. Everyone assuming that BDS got wiped there, but Bio's still alive, but not for very long. That's going to be another round for DarkZero, and that round a lot better in coordination than the previous one.
Yeah, came back with a vengeance after the very sloppy play from round number 5 there, and finally able to mount a second round inside of that attacking half before it closes out, right as it closes out, in fact. Now we're going to see the team switch sides. DarkZero takes on the defensive mantle, and BDS will be on the attack with a 2-round lead. 3 out of 6 of the remaining regulation rounds are what is required for them to take this series. DarkZero going to need to try and go for 4.
And this is where the rubber hits the road for DZ. We need to see some big plays coming out of them as they need to shore up this score line. Blunders aside, this team still has a lot of opportunity to be able to take this series away from BDS. Bios currently sitting at 3-6. Not the best map from him so far inside of this series, but the same can be said across the board for a few of these members. Shaiko being damned literally every single round thus far with 6 deaths inside of 6 rounds. So they're still doing some things right. They just need to be able to have everything else aligned with that, and hopefully things will start to click. But again, the switch up of sides should assist them in that capacity.
DarkZero favoring the reading room start as well, making this kind of the go-to site as of this point here so far in the tournament, with plenty of other teams favoring this as the initial site pick as well here. You have the plenty of safe room to play through with both the site setup that you have for yourself as well as the extension going up to the 3rd floor here, giving the defenders plenty of comfortable room to waste time from, as well as hopefully line up angles to get kills. You can see the long-range positions they'll have, of course, from their extension on the 3rd floor, as well as some close quarters fighting to be done for the player inside of Piano Room here. Here comes BDS as they're out on the board here. They're going to send quite a few of their players up the rappel quite quickly to start putting pressure on that 3rd floor extension.
BDS to the roof here. Shaiko get the Gemini out, and well, yeah, he probably not going to use that one just yet before the hatch is open. Don't want to dedicate some utility and just run around on the roof and stare at your teammates. So get that sledge up there. We got an order of business here, guys. We got to follow the checklist, all right? Don't get ahead of yourselves. That's how we end up having mistakes happen. So Calypso here, manning the drones as of right now, rather cameras for the defense. Apologies, folks. It's been a little bit of a long day here for us, but either way, these cams will be assisting them on the mid-level, as well as some cheeky areas around upstairs. We could see some Nitro Cells come out from the DZ members.
So DZ already mounted and ready to go here. They were just simply waiting for BDS to make the first move here once again, as they too sit quite timidly as they'll be sticking on their drones. This time it is the drones on the attack, as they need to clear out quite a bit. The first EE1D charge comes out, but virtually no pressure against any member of DarkZero to force moves from those EE1Ds, so not really going to get any intel at all as far as I can tell here. Potential hop out being postulated by the member over by the window too, but once again, no pressure from BDS in that department. It's a very one-sided push right now, moving from the west to east clear. And actually, for quite a few players, DarkZero is just kind of going to let it happen. We've already seen quite a few shift away from that. They got a few extra pieces of utility they throw out, such as the Toxic Babe here to slow down the push. And unfortunately, with no soft destruction access from the freezer out towards the top of white, they're just going to have to respect that Toxic Babe and simply wait it out.
Shaiko now, a minute remaining here. Lems has also been down, so they'll more than likely be looking to pick him up soon. Bios is going to use that EE1D, but I don't know if that'll be abusable for them to actually assist anything. Bios will be pre-firing some angles to make sure that he can come down and get a Lems, and he'll be able to do exactly that. In the current moment, BDS, a little damage, a little worse for wear, but still achievable inside of this round. Renshiro trying to break up the top panels just to see if he can possibly find any DZ members straggling around the site that he could possibly pick up. NJR finally a straggler of his own, as he'll pick up Shaiko at the top of white. Bios will fight back, but so will Pambazoo. He'll claim one. Alem's still in this space somewhere, but Alem's will go down to Eclipse and Pillar.
Renshiro finally able to trade out the onslaught coming in from Eclipse here, putting it down to a 2v3. Certainly a palatable win, but not so much anymore here with Panba picking up another kill against Bride. Renshiro will trade out his advance, going further down through the red stairs, but he has no time left, and unfortunately not even any case control. Would have had to frag this out for the victory, and there was just not enough time or positioning to allow him to do that. DZ come out with the first successful win here on the second half.
See, now this cafe is looking a lot more like the traditional cafe from from what we saw past yesterday. Yesterday was definitely kind of a fluke, I would say. It was just very awkward. Obviously an odd fender-sided Kafe that we really weren't expecting, but today has definitely righted that ship. As well, DarkZero able to claim their first defensive round, dealing some pretty serious damage early on, especially with that down from Alem's BIOS. Had to try and make up for that, making his shift over towards mining to pick him up, but DarkZero were prepared for that. Really love what they did around the stairwells on that round especially, and GR challenging up white with the M590. He takes down Shaiko, and then also the flank up red as well to deal the damning blow to quite a few members of DZ.
And so we now move into our 8th round of this overall map here. DarkZero only 1 round behind the scoreline of BDS. It's looking like we might go the full distance yet again unless BDS can find their footing here, start to rush themselves forward into that pole position. Try and close down this map here. DarkZero is moving right through the motions here in terms of site picks, following once again the same exact rotation that BDS also went for, going from a 2nd floor hold up to a 3rd floor hold, and more than likely following this one up with the 1st floor play if they do have the opportunity to go to their tertiary site. We don't have to see any replays as a result of BDS potentially taking this upcoming round here. Expected utility coming in terms of the defensive operator lineup as well. We get both the smoke as well as the mute to mitigate drone intel coming in there. The Aruni combining with the Jaeger to try and fend off as many nades as possible, because as we've already seen over the course of this series, nades are very popular right now, so I want to try and negate as many of those as possible. And then the Goyo to slow things down in addition to the smoke.
Absolutely the case. Lots of shields to play around here for DarkZero. Alem's already starting to get a read on the situation here for Bathroom, but this is one of the non-explosive shields. This will be Canadian shield dedicated inside of this space instead, even though it will be manned by Pambazoo. But more than likely some utility in tow to assist with that as well. BDS though, with the IQ in play on Alem's, will know where all of this utility is aligned, so he more than likely be able to assist his teammates in clearing out necessarily what they need to get a plant down in the current moment. Only a minute off the board here as Shaiko's already transitioned into building. First EE1D out here from BIOS as they're looking to get rid of a few of these laser gates.
Knock, knock. See once again. A very, very slow build-up as neither team wants to be the first to lose a player. Talked about it during our first map in the post-game as well, how pivotal the opening kill tended to be. I think its relevance kind of faded off in map number 2, but it seems to be coming back to a decent degree here inside of our final map here, just because of how slow these teams are trying to play out these clears. If you get that first kill, you don't really seem to have any confidence or just general opening to quickly swing onto the site. It's going to leave you in a very, very bad position to trade out in the dying seconds of the round. For DarkZero, though, they will excel in taking that advantage, not only with the jump out kill to start things out, but a second one being found by Pan, but on the actual 3rd floor hold as well. The nade, banking just a little bit too far. Won't be able to roll into Freezer, and I don't even think there was anyone from DarkZero holding presence in there anyway, so no one to take out here. BDS just missing on all cylinders here, not able to get their ground running at any capacity here. And Eclipse will now roll back in through the Hell Door, peek out once again from Pillars, and take out a 3rd member of BDS.
If I could suck the jet lag out of us, I would, I promise. But either way, 50 seconds remaining here for BDS is I really don't think they're going to get too far with this. It's a very unfortunate round thus far for them, as DarkZero have had the answer to every avenue that they want to use to try and get into the site. Brede really playing on red, seeing if anybody will possibly rotate into him, but this is just a makeshift timeout. We see this happen pretty often inside of Rainbow Six. There really isn't anything that they're going to be able to do that's going to be groundbreaking inside of this position. They'll get some drones in place and obviously still make an attempt, but unless something goes terribly wrong for DZ, this is their round through and through.
Brede just hunting for a body at this point to try and take someone out here, trying to mask the, trying to mask the drop for his teammate as well, but it just does not work out. Their immediate trades roll in from the DarkZero camp, and they have no trouble controlling this one. 2 for 2 so far in the defense here for DarkZero, and they'll get ready to descend one final time over towards the 1st floor here, as we'll enter the 3rd and final site for them. We'll also enter the timeout for BDS, as DarkZero has now tied it up at 4-4. Both teams now need the same number of rounds to shut this one down in their favor for regulation.
It's anybody's game, and I also believe this is a first tac pause that we've seen at BDS in this series. We might have had one on map 1, but I'm pretty sure it's the first tac pause that we've gotten. And honestly, I think it's because of what we talked about earlier on, which is the fact that, well, Bios is literally sitting on the bench with them, so they really don't need to call a timeout to talk to their coach, as he's sitting right next to a Lems. So not too big of a deal. This tac timeout is more or less for a long-form discussion instead, so that they can cover some things that could possibly be an adjustment for them going forward. Offensive side on Kafe is extremely complex, and it just makes things extremely difficult when you're not used to clearing it with a new member.
So that tac pause will be expiring here at some point in the next 20 or 30 seconds. Follow-up does need to come in here soon from BDS. DarkZero seems to have control of every facet of these first 2 rounds that have been played out. Responses from BDS are coming in at a minimum point, and as well, oftentimes far too late to make any serious change-ups to the scope of the round. So we'll see what this pause will potentially boost for them, what type of new strategy they might be able to deploy towards here, as it is going to be against a kitchen hole. And it looks like DarkZero taking the same page out of BDS's book there and bringing the Tachanka into play to fend off some of this aggression and delay.
Well, a clean slate for both of these squads now, as all things are tied up, and DarkZero with their own form of Tachanka coming in.
Let's see this hesitation from Eclipse every once in a while as he's lining this up. We did not get that from BDS's pickup here on this.
Yeah, Renshiro just was gunning down.
It's like he's just got like a macro to like template those things real quick. Just aim at the wall. He's got like a pixel spot he knows, and then he just clicks the button. It just does it for him.
It's like the auto painters.
Yeah.
Just sprays down the entire wall in a perfect form. But not so much for Eclipse here, as they're actually going to do this in a different capacity. It looks like he might actually end up taking out this entire wall. We'll have to see exactly what they want to do with this, as he's going to continue breaking this up. Is he breaking out the whole thing?
It's looking like it. He's going to leave like a prone spot, it looks like. But
okay, all right. Well, it looks like what he did there is he made that bottom angle there for bunker, so that way if they stand up, they can see the right-hand side of the kitchen. So that just makes a lot of sense. Did they end up leaving that single panel soft? Oh my God, no, that entire wall's gone. Okay,
yeah, like I said,
all right.
They don't take out the bottom part. I think so. You at least have to hop over it, so it's not like just free reign to run right through the entire site. But yeah, that
would be more fun.
That's a big window, basically, between the 2 sites.
A very large window now installed inside of kitchen, thanks to Eclipse. So great handyman there. If you guys
really wanted an open floor plan in the kitchen. So.
Yeah, for sure. They wanted to knock it down, maybe make an island, and well, they made an island out of NJR's head, as there's now a huge gap in it from the bullet that just made contact. NJR removed here, but luckily the ADSs will stick around to assist with these grenades.
Yeah, Lem's kind of fallen by the wayside in terms of entry. He's the player that BDS looked to be able to pick up that first kill more times than not here. Past few rounds, he's been finding himself become the first kill in a lot of situations here, so he's able to finally get revenge for that. Unfortunately, the revenge is coming in swiftly for DarkZero as well. They're able to take out the coach from BDS in BIOS as he goes down, but another exchange comes in from Lems. He's 2 for 2 so far on this round here, and the pressure coming in over here towards Prep Kitchen is going to be enough to force the Tachanka back into the site. Not for even able to live for too much longer here either, as Lems follows it up with a third one, now taking out Hyper.
Seems like a Lems can do no wrong in this, as DZ members continue to step up to the plate. Oh, a free kill seemingly for Renshiro, but Pambazoo wins it out instead. Eclipse will get taken down. Pambazoo, an absolute terror as well, currently 12 and 6, but he's going to need 3 more kills in order to do this. Brede able to shut him down, and BDS get back in the lead yet again here after an extremely successful round. All it took was them challenging Bakery, and every single DZ member showed face and died.
I mean, all it took was Lems getting a quad, for real about that one there. He just waltzes in. Like you said there, gets 4 separate 1v1s. They just show face time after time again, and they don't expect such a swift clear in terms of the utility dump as well as the hard breach being worked so quickly there. So unfortunately for DarkZero, they lose far too much real estate far too quickly and just do not know how to handle the pacing there from BDS. Excellent stuff from Lems to be so consistent in his capability to 1v1 the members of DarkZero as well. Saves the lead just when they were about to lose it. There seems the pause helped out the team quite tremendously. Just minimum cool off for a second and reset. Also coming with a new reinvigorated strat there to attack from the Bakery in a fairly straightforward manner.
Yeah, absolutely. And really, you have to be just happy as a clan for BDS across the board here, especially for BIOS' sake. Although, like, the scoreline isn't that great right now, this has been probably, stat line-wise, his worst map, and they're still doing fantastic. He's really just working that utility on the back end and making sure that BDS are progressing. They've been doing a pretty bang-up job of being able to get his refrags as well, so it's not all for naught, but obviously something that we have to talk about as commentators. Just because you're a coach doesn't mean that you get to get away with it, BIOS. Come on. But no, he's been playing fantastic, especially for somebody that had to step up in such a huge way, and we've been commending him throughout this entire series for exactly that, because he's not expected to do anything. If he does anything at all, it's more than what you would hope for at the end of the day.
So let us see now if he can continue to bring hope to this BDS roster as they've bolstered themselves back into a leading position. But so far, that's the only round they've controlled on the attacking side. It is the first time we did play into the first floor hold, obviously, for DarkZero also. So now returning to more successful territory, and JR finding that sneaky drone placed up on top of the bookshelf there as well. Not going to let that get away scot-free. So that one will be deleted, only getting away with the limited intel they gained in the first 30 seconds of the round. Frag Grenade trying to position it to take out the castle barricade, does not land where it needs to, unfortunately. So Frag Grenade, for the most part, going to go to a waste unless there was utility behind the door they were trying to take out. Their rolls is a little bit too far. As a result of that one, is not going to be close enough to the barricade to be able to take it out. And man, for BIOS, I was about to say, is he just going to sit there and whack the whole thing? Because he's going to be there a while.
11 times.
Yes.
11 punches on the castle barricade to get that thing to pop. So he would have been there for a little bit, but they still have some other destructive manners to be able to do so. They might just have Renshiro go over there, or like a Lem's torch it or something, if they do want access to that. So either way, though, now I'm going to start seeing Bride use up those X-Kairos on the castle barricade to pop this open. Make it a little bit easier to apply some pressure to Pambazoo inside of this position. He'll pre-fire with the Yump, but the pre-fire from Eclipse is the one that actually makes contact with Shaiko, so he'll take just a little bit of damage. So plenty of time in this for both of these squads. Nade in, does it hit its mark? It does, but not enough damage onto Pambazoo.
Coming down to the clutch here now as we're going to see the opening kill again found by a Lens as he's really reignited himself. He's on the second floor in the reading room somehow. Probably a push from hell if I had to guess it, or maybe even sneaking in directly through the hallway, as there's a lot of players over here on second floor red landing that have been able to move themselves in through there. Either way, huge props to a Lens once again pushing BDS in here. He was the X factor that seemingly was missing in earlier rounds, and he is back with a vengeance here, picking up a second round in a row opening kill for this team.
This is so very awkward for DZ now. Shaiko getting so much info as well. Renshiro will be taken down, but not before Bride can do something. Eclipse dropping in from behind as well. Has to be ready for the push here, but Alems is not. Shaiko will pick up Canadian. Eclipse with yet another one, as we'll get it down to the 2 versus 2. BIOS in very low HP, so he's going to have to consider that going forward, but he does have the AK as well to work a lot of these different angles with so many bullets, so not going to have to worry about that mag too much. No drones in between these two, though, as BIOS is trying to flutter through the other ones that his teammates set up around the map, but he's got dead homies to be able to do that instead. He needs to stick to his guns going into these last 20 seconds.
That's again the problem with the Lem's push forward. He does it entirely on his own, so no support system for him, even though he is in the depths of the site. No one tries to group up with him here. A nice cutoff from Hyper up on top as well there, as he's going to be able to find the first of 2 kills needed to shut this one down. Less than 10 seconds for the plant as well here. Bride just with no hope to get anyone into that fight. Eclipse outwits him entirely and shuts down this round for DarkZero as they control the chaos, mainly coming from Lems there, and fend off the attack.
Yeah, perfectly hidden behind the knocked over bookshelf inside of Reading, not able to see him, and they'll tie things up here on Kafe at 5-5. BDS just not able to get away with it after the initial picks came through. DarkZero able to not only slow BDS down, but make what a round that seemed to be extremely awkward for them actually successful at the end of the day. Alem's getting so deep into sight, but yet not being able to get away with too much past his initial frag.
Oh, this could be an interesting 6 pick. Not an operator we see very often at all nowadays, but I'll wait until it actually gets locked in. Now, there it is. They're going to go for it. The Kali coming into play here. This should be interesting to see how they're going to try and use it here, whether it's pressure once again from the rappel, as this is going to be a 3rd floor hold, or bringing it more for the utility once again, as she brings, excuse me, a very similar flare to what you would normally get out of someone like Thatcher.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Biggest thing about this character, though, for Callie is that she not only has the sniper rifle that can down someone in one blow, but also a secondary pistol that is very, very good. You can compare it to like the SMG-12, SMG-11. It's one of those guns that in close range can definitely deal some serious damage to you, so DZ will have to be aware of that. Later on, obviously, because they have no idea that this selection has went through just yet. Past that, everyone knows her for her Lancers. And what those do is, it's basically like a drill that drills in through reinforcements and everything else and makes the nice little explosion to get rid of utility. The big thing about that, though, is it blows up on both sides, so it can destroy the offensive utility if it's applied too soon.
Yep, so you have to be careful with it. It's not as easy to coordinate alongside hard breaches and wanted to say the Thatcher EMPs are, and we've seen those used quite well in the past. So that, along with some other reasons why we see her as a pretty rare or niche pick for specific situations, so I'm still interested to pay close attention to how it's going to be utilized here for BDS for that very same reason and see why they feel that she is necessary for this upcoming round here. BDS do need to start picking up the wins as once again they are just about to lose the lead here with DZ bouncing back there, and that's with the early pressure once again being in the favor of BDS as well. Lems, for instance, having himself a great opener to that one, and here we go. We can start to see it. This will allow them to get much quicker access to the inside of Cigar here. Already seeing the X-Kairos blow that one up. The wall that is leading in towards red. As a result of that, BDS might be able to clear out some of these extended positions, such as over by Pixel or inside of the white bathroom, much more quickly by having access to that wall.
Smooth and steady for both of these squads through the first minute. No serious damage dealt just yet. Lems will apply himself to the Christmas stage window now. Starts breaking this up. Has Virtus Pro skin on that as well. Make sure to go check that out inside of our esports shop if you so choose. Has a nice angle that can go all the way deep into Freezer. Look at the ways that he can actually work this thing with the sniper rifle. And remember, if he's able to land just one shot,
saw one.
That person's going down. Oh! Just by a pixel right there, almost losing the head of the SAS operator inside of Freezer.
And they obviously know that it is there at this point, so we're probably going to be a little bit more cautious about peeking that angle, and that's why the decision is made here by our attacker as well to kind of go off of that one and just look for a potential pick opportunity elsewhere. So we are starting to get a little bit low on time, a little over half the round gone, but it's Renshiro to strike first this time. Not the only one, as well as he's moving all the way through open bar here. He's got the sidearm out, his teammates helping him out finally. Shaiko getting into it with the ARX as he takes out Pan, but that clears out Cocktail, allows for Renshiro to hold this. He's not even had a chance to reload his primary as of yet, but it doesn't matter. Eclipse doesn't seem to be aware of the fact that they've lost Cocktail, and even though there's a good flank from NJR here, it doesn't matter. Cannot leverage the spray into a kill as he's taken out beforehand. BDS comes storming in and get themselves another round to just barely hold on to the lead here as we head into the final round of regulation.
And once again, BIOS doing what is necessary for his team's success, holding the counter angle, making sure that these the members of DarkZero are not allowed back into the site once he establishes this angle for bathroom. So very well done from him. BDS up and on to match point. It's do or die now for DarkZero.
Absolutely the case here. DarkZero still looking to hold on to some points here, and BDS fighting for any glory that they can gain in this tournament under the circumstances. You saw the frustration yesterday when the news came out they couldn't play with their full five. They felt that this was going to be their tournament, that maybe they were finally going to be able to redeem themselves after they had come so close so many times at so many SIs in the past, but still now trying to fight their way even past just DarkZero here. Just even this win will be a huge boon for them to try and still make it out of the group and get as far through the playoffs as humanly possible.
I mean, I have just been so very impressed with BDS's resiliency throughout this entire series. We've had some definitely awkward moments for both teams, some more than others, but I mean, just for the sake of conversation, BDS have looked really, really good with BIOS in play. I mean, he's even got comparable score lines to people like Shaiko, who's one of the best fraggers in the entire world. I'm very impressed with what he's been able to do today. Obviously, again, we still got to talk about him in a certain capacity, but I mean, it is what it is. I'm very, very happy for him, and I mean, the rest of the team definitely has to support him in a huge way with what he's been able to accomplish.
So one final round dictates who will take control of this one. Could very well take this to overtime as well. We've been kind of teeter-tottering on the rounds for a couple now, so wouldn't be completely out of character to see DarkZero claim this one for themselves, especially as they will work their way back into a very familiar site where things have worked out for them. Back down on the second floor here. I think this one is actually going to be the train hold instead of the reading room, as that one is still locked away, unfortunately. Can play somewhat similarly with the third floor extension and whatnot, but the actual hold on the second second floor, quite obviously will be very, very different due to the completely changed site. It's that L pattern you need to hold and focus most of your defensive assets over towards the train side, as well as making sure you keep as much presence on white stairs for as long as possible so your extension can stay alive.
Yes, indeed, as BDS will begin working the windows early here on the cocktail side. It'll be a Lems. Renshire with a frag grenade out. It won't deal any damage to Eclipse as he backs off inside of the freezer. Pambas will be manning the bathroom as of right now. A stack of defensive ops over towards the white hallway here for DZ. Shaiko's already sprung two inside of Cigar. Another nade being cooked for him over inside of that space, and a hop out for Pambazoo, but he gets actually not bodied. Now Bios will be able to get the refrag. I thought that we saw it from a Lems there, but no. The last bullet out of that gun able to tag him up, but the equalizer here from the coach.
At least guarantees himself the 1-for-1 exchange and keeps the numbers even. We did have a second player lined up from DarkZero, maybe thinking about going for a jump out over towards white as well, but decided against it here considering the risks now involved. Bios, however, still taking some hefty damage there, more likely coming from the previous fight, as he's now down at just under 50 HP here, and BDS going to be a little bit worse for wear on the assault as a direct result of that play. Do have some control working itself in onto the third floor. Here's some progress being made by BDS, and overall the presence on the third floor has now been abandoned by DarkZero due to the loss of Pambazoo, along with some other factors. BDS taking control over towards Cigar's side. No transition down to the second just as of yet, though, and that's now the big focus for them as they start to open up opportunities for themselves in the top-down angles here. Shaiko starts it off well by taking control of the player advantage, but it bounces right back with Canadians' well-placed Nitro.
Very well done thus far from DarkZero to keep themselves in it. They desperately need this round, as this is it. If BDS takes it, it'll be completely done inside of regulation here on Kafe. Yeah, don't tell Caliber Jacob that I took his line. 30 seconds remain here for BDS to get something done. NJR pitching these smoke grenades as quickly as possible over towards the bottom of white stairs. Brede seemingly knowing where he is because of that. And yes, the find indeed. Low HP BDS members, but they're still alive. Bios will get taken down from the player inside of Train, or rather mining, as Canadian will take out one. Brede looking for the overextension, but it's up to Hyper here as he's getting chased down. He'll find him, and with minimal time remaining, can he find the last remaining member? Oh my god! Brede literally milliseconds away from winning the map.
Brede's so close to getting that one. Had the pre-fire, it seemed like, and everything too, just ran out of time. If there was like a quarter of a second more on that clock, we could have very well seen it go the other way. At the same time, as I didn't see it from DZ's point of view, so we don't know what his shots were looking like, but still very tense there. And that does line up another overtime here, the second of the series. We're not going to decide a winner that easily. Second time in a row we've had our last game of the day go to this length as well. So both times we're now going to see.
Would have bodied him right there. There's literally no chance in hell that Canadian wins that with extra time. Oh man, well, how close this series has gotten, going down to the wire here as DarkZero is able to stave off this final round from BDS. Alems, he's going to throw the curveball once again. We're back onto the Kali, because apparently that was the adjustment that won them the round. I wouldn't necessarily say so, but I mean, if Alems ends up getting a pick with this round, this could be all that they need to find success here. Remember, they've been on this offensive side for a seriously long time, and their defenses were quite stellar when they were there.
Utility-wise, I don't necessarily think that it was the make or break element there. It's, yes, sped things up slightly, as we saw, like I said before, the Red Hatch opening, and I think they helped out a little bit too as he worked himself over to maybe assist with taking on some utility over here towards Cocktail, but I don't even think we saw that, so I don't necessarily know if that translated that well. It would have been off-screen if that was the case here, but either way, they feel it's useful enough to bring in a second time here, so let's follow through with it and see if they're going to find as much success on their assault this time.
Well, it's going to be mad awkward for him this time, because they've reinforced not only all of Freezer, but all of Bathroom, so he's not going to be gifted the same angle that he was before. They're going to have to break up all of this here, which, I mean, yeah, they do indeed have a Lems in order to assist with this, so it should definitely be doable, but it's going to be all about a Lems and Brede in tandem to be able to achieve a lot of this. Bios more than likely going to be setting things up to make sure that nobody can possibly hop out and get these frags, but like we had seen previously, it's definitely still doable if you're able to get your shots to land before you touch the ground.
So things will start out this time well, and we won't even see that Cali get really onto the map here as Panba just rips out the head of Alems there, taking him out of the play entirely here. 11-10 scoreline has been doing great work up until this point, but unfortunately a little bit hit or miss when it comes to the entry game here, and a little bit over-reliant on him to be able to accomplish that. So DarkZero start this out well for themselves instead here, and take out one of the most impactful players in this game for BDS.
Well, luckily enough, there's still quite a few French members in order to try and steal this round away from DarkZero now. Shaiko with a nade into Pambazoo, and it's going to get eaten up by the ADS, luckily enough. Very forward position for him, almost got him punished, but that singular ADS able to save his life. And the ADS's life saved as well as that second frag grenade pours in. This is starting to look more and more like a DZ round as we continue on. That's going to be the Gemini here, and Pambazoo will be able to clean that up. Waiting for the next push-up into Pixel. Somebody challenges that door into the M590. They're going to lose their lives, so hopefully we don't see that. We are about halfway through the round now. Biggest problem right now, they don't have any answer to what's going on with these freezer and bathroom walls because they're electrified and the man with the Lancers are dead.
Absolutely the case, and no other mitigation being brought in to assist with that one. Brady's going to try and sneak in some X-Kyros, see if they can open up something over towards Cocktail. Players in freezer should technically be able to mitigate that if they, if they're able to lean out into that. And that's exactly what we're going to get with Shaiko here, mitigating, I think, most, if not all, of those pellets that had gone down. Pamba still patiently waiting for his first challenge over here at the Pixel door. Finally going to take it upon himself to take the challenge instead, and nearly knocks out BIOS as a result of it. A 1-for-1 exchange will go down elsewhere on the map between Hyper, as well as with Hyper taking out Shaiko. Another player on BDS managing to take out Canadian. It's Eclipse from down below that snipes out Bride in the meanwhile, bringing BDS down to just 2 here versus the 4 still standing for DarkZero, as Renshiro and a very low HP BIOS try to come up with some way to clutch this out with only 30 seconds remaining.
Some way, somehow, inside of a 2 versus 4, it has to be done, but I don't know how far along the path they'll be able to get. Eclipse already manning the skylight as well, ready for Renshiro to hop down, and that's more than likely going to be him. Oh, he gets right in behind him, but apparently doesn't hear the bullets flying. It's going to be a quick cleanup here for DZ as they take the lead on Kafe, switching over to the offensive side.
Very, very one-sided affair there on that round, as it seems BDS put a lot of presence on that capability to bring those Lancers into play there and take out some of the utility on the other side, allowing for them to open up some of these hatches and reinforcements, but it does not play out that way at all, as immediately NJR is able to take out all of that utility right from the very beginning of the round before it even gets to the top of Rappel. And as a result of that, BDS were always fighting from the back foot for pretty much the entire round there. DarkZero now on map and match point here with finally the capability to shut this down. Will they do it in 1 though, or will we have a response coming in from BDS as they too have the opportunity to tie it up one final time, and also from the defense, as you were mentioning before, feeling quite prominent on this, specifically in this hold as well, as they're going to go back down to the first floor play with Tachanka being 6-picked in.
I really like the 6-pick away from the Pulse as well. We've talked about it quite a few times, but that just makes it to where you have to search the map to see exactly what's going on inside of this space. But it should be pretty obvious once they start to look at the site as to what's going on, and more than likely that the Tachanka's in play yet again. As soon as a drone enters the door, they're like, oh, well, that wasn't in the lineup, was it? So don't really have to worry too much about the Pulse at the end of the day, just simply because of how unbelievably loud Renshiro has to be to set up all of this for his squad mates. So Renshiro and the rest of BDS looking to make their final stand inside of Kitchen to see if they can possibly guarantee themselves another offensive round and keep themselves in it up against DarkZero.
Let's see here if they're going to be able to work themselves towards that. BDS just finishing up some housekeeping here as they open up as much of the kitchen as they're going to feel comfortable to do. Certainly not as much as DarkZero. BDS's will have a bit more of a complex pattern on the wall there as they try to set things up, and obviously we've already seen this work out quite well for them, where it was a bit more of a mixed bag for DZ due to the very quick advances from BDS working their way into the bakery here. But a different approach this time for DarkZero, as they'll be on the assault here and moving themselves in through the White Stairs garage to open up this round. Lems does have a counter angle for that, but doesn't have the specific angle needed to kill either of these players right now, so just going to pop the barricade open. We're going to hear that go off on the other side too, so a few players from DarkZero will draw the ire towards that, but it is now open if Olympus wants to come back to it a few moments later here to try and get aggressive.
Pambazoo with yet another incredible game from him, 16-10 in the moment. Hyper, just not his day today, man. 6-11 at the current moment, but that doesn't mean that DarkZero can't win this series. As we've been talking about, currently up 7-6 right now on BDS. Hyper going to be dedicating the Gemini in towards lobby, seeing exactly what's going on inside of the space. Whiskey currently being occupied by a BDS member, but nobody really else home. BIOS will be on red as of right now, with a few other of Team BDS over towards Bakery, currently trying to hold on to this door. Canadian's going to get lit up from that position, but he chooses to keep his life instead just because of how many Rotero drones he has. Does not want to waste these, as unluckily enough for Brede, he will not be able to catch that one.
To see a few more of those incendiaries work its way out. That one bounces just a little bit too far, so Canadian's still not going to have much of an issue challenging on the other side of the double door there. No success being found for him either way here. Just a whole bunch of time being wasted away. Neither team able to mount an opening kill just as of yet here, so both will have to feel very cautious about the next few seconds as they try to work themselves into that. Now, interestingly enough, you guys probably just saw it there. Alem's still in Cigar, and we've got NGR clearing down top red right now. As soon as Alems gets the call that is happening, he can get into a very powerful position to start punishing DZ if they weren't aware of this play. BIOS is going to be able to catch Hyper, but at the same time, Hyper did manage to catch Brede. Now NJR finding BIOS. It's a chain of woe here. No one can seem to get ahead of the other, but it does play into DZ's favor because that first kill to flank still yet to come in from the top of red stairs, and Renshiro has now been pinned in Bakery. Also, they need some assistance, and no, Alems will be found out here as he finally tries to make a play. Shaiko did come out on top of Eclipse, though, to bring the numbers down, and a Cook nade does come out against Alems, and he'll actually just roll outside. No, it's not a Cook, just a loose toss nade that comes in there, where NJR is eventually able to win the fight anyway versus Alems there. One more player goes down, and now all the hopes of BDS rest on Shaiko here to pull off a 1v3 clutch. Only 19 seconds left. He can bleed out the time bank here and just try to win it on the timer, and we'll see if he'll be able to pull that off. But quickly, DarkZero are working their way into the depths of the primary kitchen here, looking to find their opportunity for a plant. No one has attempted it just as of yet, but finally Canadian is putting it down onto the ground. Shaiko now needs to try and stop that. The impact's going back in. The damage will not connect, and Panbazoo will instead connect a headshot to close out on this map and close out on the series as DarkZero take it 2-1.
2-1 series for DarkZero after some insanely critical blunders from them across the entirety of this series. They're finally able to pick up the pieces, tape them back together, and give us a Kafe for a victory. Fantastic from them as they'll win this in 8-6 fashion, just like they did on Coastline.
Important to note there too, Canadian kind of immediately clarifying some things really quickly as they hopped out of game there about what was going on in the last round, and that might show you what the position for DZ is right now as well. Yes, that is a victory. Keep in mind the circumstances for BDS. Yes, BIOS is playing phenomenally, but this is an incomplete team that they're up against right now, and they just barely squeak out a win in overtime on the third map.
Yeah, this is not looking good for DarkZero for this land. You know, they definitely got to be happy about getting the dub and getting some points on the board, but there is a lot of things that are just, you know, rough shot across the entirety of DZ. But, I mean, that's mostly it for this series, folks. DarkZero with the dub up against BDS.
DarkZero once again keeping that team play nice and cohesive there, and finally getting control over the early round play. Alems had become a menace for them throughout both the second and the third maps, and once they got him under control, Panba specifically being the one to counter him out in so many scenarios, these rounds were kind of their oyster in terms of trying to take control, because from BDS there was a lot of very slow responses to things, very generic follow-ups to those types of situations as well, and oftentimes these rounds became a numbers game, and whoever got that first kill would end up on top.
Yeah, absolutely the case, and you know, that was back and forth throughout the entirety of each map. Villa especially was, you know, a very big numbers game where we saw BDS abusing that quite a bit, especially on their starting half where they just ran up the numbers on their defense. But ladies and gents, I think John and I have been talking enough. We're going to send you guys to a little break, and then we'll be back to the command center to finish the day.